What's up everyone? Welcome back to a brand new video. Alright, elephant in the room time. What if Goku was evil? You're probably wondering, how would that even work? So I will start off by saying, yeah, the title is true, but the actual way of Goku being evil is more so the focus here. Really, this is going to be a scenario about Goku, or I guess Kakarot in this case, joining the Crane School, being found by them. So honestly, the scenario should just be called What If Goku Was Found by the Crane School? But let's be honest here, I know if I called it that, not as many people would be interested. And to be fair too, this is only going to be like one part of the series, the rest of it is going to be focused on him being evil. This first part will be focused on that aspect of him being found by the Crane School though. You'll see what I mean as the series goes on, or if it does continue. Because we'll set a like goal of 4,500 likes. If we hit that, then I'll continue the series into a full story. Anyways, let's begin. So this isn't really too hard to do. Kakarot is sent to Earth like normal. Really the only change we're making here is that he's not found by Grandpa Gohan. Instead, he's found by the Crane School. Master Shen would be the one to find him, and he probably wouldn't know what to do seeing this kid. Honestly, his first thought probably wouldn't even be to raise him, but he'll take the kid and figure out what to do. And as he does watch over Kakarot for a bit, he comes to see how rowdy this child is, and surprisingly strong too. And it's strange because he also has a tail. He has no idea of what this kid is, but he arrived here in some sort of space pod, has a tail, and seems way stronger than an average human baby. Could this be an alien of sorts? Shen is curious, and ends up keeping Kakarot there. And at some point when Kakarot's old enough to speak, Shen learns his name because Kakarot would remember it. He actually remembers his Saiyan upbringing, at least the little parts of it that were there. I mean, most of his time was spent in that incubation chamber. But he does have memories of his parents, Planet Vegeta, and he knows he's a Saiyan. So this kid actually is an alien. That explains why he's so strong. He could definitely be a fine warrior, one of the strongest on Earth, if not the strongest. A fine addition to the Crane School. Years and years pass. Shen raises Kakarot, teaching him basically how to live as an Earthling, but also teaching him the fundamentals of fighting. It seems like it comes natural to this kid. He still is that same rowdy Saiyan though. And the Crane School isn't the best of influences, so he's definitely not growing up pure of heart. On top of the fact that he hasn't hit his head, his Saiyan nature is actually being kind of enhanced by this experience. Obviously he's not going to just go around destroying everything. He's becoming a little bit more civilized. But good? No, he's not becoming good. And that's where the idea of this scenario comes from. Him being raised here actually would mean Kakarot's gonna grow up to be pretty evil. Not like supervillain tier I want to take over the world type evil. Actually, maybe that. He's just growing up under very bad influences. And he retains his Saiyan nature while doing so. And he does grow a lot stronger too. Instead of being abandoned in the woods at some point, he does turn into a great ape on accident, but there's people there to stop him. Specifically another student of the Crane School, Tenshinhan. It's pretty tough, but at some point he's able to figure out that the tail is a weak spot. I mean, they learned of this already, so he decides to attack that tail, cutting it off and inadvertently making Kakarot de-transform. Alright, well, at least that's solved. That would have been really disastrous if he was let to just rampage. So this other student, Tenshinhan, I mean, also there's Chaozu there too, but mainly Tenshinhan, he kind of becomes a rival to Kakarot. He's a bit older and a bit more practiced. But Kakarot's also very smart too. He's an excellent fighter, and he's just naturally stronger than any of the humans here. But these two actually work pretty well off each other. These three students spend a lot of time training together, growing a lot stronger, especially with Kakarot growing exponentially stronger. And now that's not to say that Goku wasn't training in all those years that he spent alone. Living out in the woods was actually a pretty good experience for him, but here he's getting a more refined version of training. He's actually part of the school, learning martial arts, not to mention he was learning it earlier on too. So at some point, his natural growth as a Saiyan would just make him incredibly powerful, at least compared to the Earthlings here. This huge head start would probably mean he's about in the hundreds range for a power level right now. Which isn't too impressive by Saiyan standards, but by Earthling standards, he's the strongest thing here. At one point though, the Pilaf gang is trying to gather the Dragon Balls, and without anyone really there to stop them, they actually do get them, wishing to rule the world. And while they do get the wish, well, it doesn't really stop the others from intervening. People do try and take power from the Pilaf gang, and honestly, I don't even know how this wish would work, taking over the world. Does that mean everyone's just gonna listen to them or whatever? I wouldn't think so. And the Crane School will definitely have something to say about this. They're not gonna listen to these whatever these are, like, they don't know what the hell Pilaf is. And then one of them's a talking dog, so like, they're not gonna listen to Shu. Mai's at least a human. But they're not listening to this thing. So one day, they just go up and take over. Kakarot and Tenshinhan actually just killed the Pilaf gang. It's pretty easy. Ten probably could have done it himself too. And Kakarot there is just kind of overkill. And now we're actually entering the Dragon Ball arcs. At some point there's a tournament. You could probably guess the outcome. Like, Kakarot's there, he wins. It's not too hard to see that. And obviously he's not working under Roshi, so he's not going to get that important lesson that he's infallible. Plus the fact that he's not a good guy to begin with here. So this just boosts his ego even further. Time passes, and then there's another tournament. Once again, Kakarot wins. And it's funny because both times, he and Tenshinhan were finalists. So the Crane School's still on top. Roshi would still be training Krillin, but even though Krillin is pretty strong, he's nothing here compared to them. They keep embarrassing the Turtle School, aiming to just completely destroy it. The Crane School is clearly above them now. Oh yeah, and after this 22nd World Tournament, there's no King Piccolo arc. The Pilaf gang isn't there, and they wouldn't have revived King Piccolo, so it's just another tournament. But you're probably wondering, what happened with the Red Ribbon Army? You kind of skipped over it, didn't you? Well, no. They just don't act. They saw what happened with the Pilaf gang. Apparently, they gathered the Dragon Balls and took over Earth and then got completely destroyed by this Crane School. So the Red Ribbon Army's gonna wait a bit. I mean, Red would probably want the Dragon Balls just to make himself taller still, but they realize it's probably a bad idea to seek them out because they don't know if the Crane School will attack them, just like the Pilaf gang. So the Red Ribbon Army did nothing. But that doesn't mean they're completely out of the story because the Red Ribbon Army still exists. By this point, they're normally just destroyed. So they're still here and planning other things. Keep that in mind for later. People far and wide start going to the Crane School, and the school continues to grow its ranks. And the Crane School isn't as bad here because they're not going to really want to seek revenge for Tao's death since he didn't die here. Although, that's another big factor here. Tao is involved, and he'd probably even train alongside people in the Crane School like Kakarot and Tenshinhan. He is clearly not a good guy either, and he's going to definitely have some influence on his brother in the school. And like I've kind of alluded to before, the school isn't necessarily evil. It's more so just very misguided. It can be pretty easily seen in the fact that, for the original story, they had those bad emotions in general, wanting to seek out revenge and kill people for the death of Tao. So innately, they probably don't have much goodness inside them. So the school's kind of like a chaotic organization, not looking to take over the world or whatever, just there, teaching people martial arts for less noble reasons, in comparison to somewhere like the Turtle School. And this is what allows Kakarot to remain himself, retaining his Saiyan nature, actually growing up somewhat evil. And with all these things that he's doing, these tournaments that he's winning, the Pilaf gang that he destroyed, this makes him go further down a more evil path. The ego's getting to his head, and he remembers his Saiyan past. He could wipe out this planet if he needs. Honestly, he doesn't really see a reason to. He knows that's kind of what Saiyans do, but he was sent here mainly to survive. And people are kind of scared of Kakarot. They tread lightly around him. They know if they do something to anger him, well, he's not going to hesitate to kill them, and he could definitely do that with ease. The Crane School is just glad to be allies with him. They're kind of on his good side, if you could even call it a good side. But at some point, he doesn't really need the Crane School anymore. He's learned all that he needs from it, and he's so far above everyone else that he's not really growing too much stronger with them. But he doesn't really have anywhere else to go. There's nowhere else on this planet to train or whatever, at least for a person at his level. Obviously there is the Lookout as an option, but Kakarot definitely would not be welcome up there, if he even knows about it by this point. So for the time being, he is going to stay with the Crane School, but he doesn't really care much otherwise. Once he finds an out from this planet, he's leaving. He's losing his connections with them, feeling more and more secluded. His immense strength, it's leaving him alienated. In the most literal sense of the word too, he is an alien. Tenshinhan and Chaozu, his rivals, they're really the closest connections that he has, and they're not even that close to him. They even recognize that Kakarot's going down a dark path, wondering what they could do to actually save him, or at least stop him in the process. But Kakarot does remain with the Crane School, beginning to do more and more intense training on his own. He will spar with Ten occasionally, but even that does nothing for him. And he's just starting to get bored. He needs a way off this planet. There still is his old space pod, but he's not sure if that's even going to work anymore. One day he goes to it, just trying to mess around with the controls or whatever. He doesn't actually know how to control it because it was just set on a pre-guided course here. And there's something in there. There's a scouter. Of course, he doesn't know what it is, but he has vague memories of Bardock wearing one. So he puts it on, and immediately he just tries messing around with it, seeing what it does. This must be some sort of communication device. He was sent here with it for a reason. Now yeah, I know he probably won't be sent with one because that might put him on Frieza's map, but consider this me taking a liberty here. It's not really too crazy to assume that maybe there was a scouter on there that Bardock didn't realize was there. It's realistically something that would probably come standard on most of these ships. Maybe just a loose end that Bardock forgot about. And it's not necessarily a bad thing either. It doesn't mean Frieza's immediately going to find him. It's just now that he has this, Frieza could potentially find him. And no one in the Frieza Force really notices. This scouter just randomly turns on out of nowhere, but doesn't catch anyone's eye, except for a few people. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa are out in space, eradicating another planet. And they notice another scouter comes online in the middle of nowhere. Now, normally they don't really care about this, but Raditz feels like it's important for some reason. The area where it is, that planet. Where has he heard about that planet before? But it jogs his memory. That random scouter that destroyed their network. It's on that planet that Kakarot was sent to. They completely forgot about him, and immediately they try and communicate with Kakarot, with Raditz being the one to speak. And Kakarot's amazed. He's speaking with someone out there, and apparently it's another Saiyan. And once he says his name, he's actually kind of happy. This is his way to get off the planet. The person on the other end, it's Raditz. He didn't even realize any other Saiyans were out there. He asks, what the hell happened? He knows he was sent here to survive, but why? What went on? And Raditz explains, Planet Vegeta was destroyed. They knew Kakarot was sent away to some random planet called Earth or whatever, but they just kind of forgot about him, honestly. And they honestly didn't know if he lived or died or whatever. But this is a confirmation. He is out there, and they can get him off that planet. And better yet, he could join them. Of course, Raditz can't say this over the scouter, but they could use him against Frieza, another Saiyan in their ranks. Vegeta and Nappa are definitely up for this too. Of course, they expect Kakarot to be kind of weak. He is a low-class warrior and is Raditz's brother, but it wouldn't hurt to have an extra Saiyan with them. So, the Saiyans head out towards Earth. And you could already see, this scenario is already getting pretty crazy. It's nice to have fun once in a while and go away from the more grounded things. They don't really know what to expect from Kakarot. Will he be weak having been raised on this planet? Will he be strong? What'll his mindset be like? How has he been influenced by the Earthlings, if at all? And how much does his Saiyan nature drive him? Well, they're gonna find out soon enough. After more time passes, 3 space pods land on Earth. Of course, this is huge news for everybody. It's an alien invasion of sorts. But the Saiyans don't actually cause havoc immediately. They don't really have a reason to just level this planet and destroy it. I mean, they could for fun, but really they're just here for Kakarot, and there's no resistance. Kakarot was the one who wanted to join them. They're able to find him. And Raditz is pretty impressed to see his brother. He just went through his growth spurt and he looks exactly like Bardock did. Although he's wearing kind of a weird outfit. They ask him what he's been doing here for nearly the past 2 decades. This is around the time of the 23rd World Tournament, mind you. The Saiyans have arrived much earlier. But Kakarot explains what's happened to him. He did retain his memories, and he was trying to look for a way off the planet. So he went back to his space pod, which is still left in the middle of nowhere. And that's where he found this, the Scouter. It's perfect timing too, because he's not seeing any more gains on this planet. He's not growing any stronger. That's what he's pursuing, strength. This whole time here, he's just been training, growing strong. But he can tell this planet isn't doing him any more favors. He's above everyone else here, the strongest thing, and he's completely infallible. At least, that's what he thinks. And as a Saiyan, he's naturally inclined to fight, but he can't have fun here anymore. He's lost all desire to really be here, honestly. And he was surprised to see that the other Saiyans were still around, especially with one of them being his brother. Out of curiosity, Vegeta checks his scouter to read Kakarot's power level. He's even weaker than Raditz. His power is only about 1200 right now, which by Earthling standards is huge. But yeah, for Saiyan standards, it's not too impressive. I mean, Vegeta kind of expected that. It's normal to see that in a low-class warrior. He's surprised that the Earthlings were even able to train him like that. But he comments, imagining what it would have been like if Kakarot had a proper training. You know, growing up in 10 times gravity like on planet Vegeta, or actually going to war like these Saiyans, getting immense Zenkai boosts and all. Kakarot could have potentially been a lot stronger, and Vegeta recognizes his potential. Had he not been inhibited by how peaceful Earth is, it actually is kind of impressive that Kakarot grew this strong. They'll definitely whip him into shape. They take care of his space pod, helping fix it up, and guiding it to another place. Kakarot is officially part of their crew now, and soon enough, will be part of their plan to defeat Frieza. But for now, they still need to lay low, come up with a plan to defeat Frieza too. But this is going to be fun for Kakarot. He's about to go on his first mission. He leaves Earth, ready to go pillage some random planet. As of now, Frieza doesn't really know of Kakarot, but he can tell something is going on. That random scouter came online not too long ago, and now in that same place where it happened, the 3 Saiyans went there, and he's wondering why. He'll let them go out on their mission, but then he wants them to return back here. He wants to see what they've been up to. The Saiyans go out, eradicating another planet for Frieza. And they tell Frieza he's gonna love the present that they bring back to it. It seems another warrior has joined the Frieza force, but really, another warrior has joined the Saiyans. And Frieza is completely unaware of it. Not only has Kakarot mentally and emotionally abandoned Earth by this point, but now he's physically abandoned it, no longer having any connections to them. Although, he still does don the gi of the Crane School. Honestly, he's not too fond of the Saiyan armor, but this, he'll fight in it, just as a memory of his former life. Being in the Crane School wasn't all bad. It did let him grow into the warrior he is today, but he's gonna grow much stronger. He's glad to see that stronger people are out there. And now he has a new goal, surpass these Saiyans, grow stronger than Vegeta even. He wants to be number 1 again, the one stronger than everyone else. This is the beginning of a new life for Kakarot. Immediately, the Saiyans take Kakarot on a mission. They're going to conquer a planet, and they're gonna be able to sell it for a pretty penny. With this extra Saiyan helping them, it's actually pretty easy. Frieza already knows they have someone that joined their team, but he's still not aware that it's a Saiyan, although he's impressed. He gets word from Vegeta that they're able to get a nice planet secured. That new team member must have really helped. He wants to meet this supposed ally of the Saiyans, and the Saiyans have to oblige. It's not like they could just hide him from Frieza. So immediately after slaughtering this planet, Kakarot has taken to Frieza to meet him. And he's actually a bit taken aback at first. Another Saiyan was alive. Well, he doesn't seem too strong. I mean, he's actually the weakest of these Saiyans right now, although very close to Raditz. That's actually how they found him too, it's Raditz's brother. But as Frieza thinks about it, he realizes that this is good. It's another Saiyan that he can keep track of. Before, this Saiyan was just out there, with Frieza not even knowing that he existed. But now, Frieza has all these 4 Saiyans under his control, and he assumes it's the last of them. It's not like there could be any others out there, right? Either way, this is good. Frieza gets an extra strong soldier, and he gets to keep track of all the Saiyans. Meaning there's no surprises in the future, hopefully. The Saiyans are sent on more missions. With this extra soldier, Frieza feels safe actually sending them out to stronger planets. The Saiyans encounter more fierce battles, fiercer than the ones they encountered before. But this is great. It's exactly what Kakarot wanted. It's ways for him to grow stronger. And the Saiyans easily pick up on how fierce Kakarot is. That's good. He isn't soft. When they first arrived on Earth, they kind of thought that it would have made him soft. But no, he actually seems fiercer than them, with a battle spirit that's burning very bright. The Saiyans continue their conquest, going around more and more planets, slaughtering them for money, going up the ranks in the Frieza Force too, and Frieza's pretty pleased with them. Although his concern still does remain. What if these Saiyans are trying to overthrow him maybe? They're far too weak at the moment, but he knows that they probably will want to rebel at some point if they get too strong, and he'll be sure to handle that if that ever happens, which it probably won't. So, are the Saiyans actually thinking about that? Well, of course they are. It's actually pretty funny because right after Kakarot met Frieza, he decided that he wants to overthrow him, take his throne. And of course that's what the rest of the Saiyans want too. As they continue their conquest and training in general, Kakarot is growing far stronger. With his great motivation and all, it takes him further. He even surpasses Raditz at some point, with Kakarot now setting his sights on surpassing Nappa. But he tries to convince them, don't go for Frieza just yet. It seems a little too risky right now. And not to mention, if they got rid of Frieza right now, things would go into disarray. They could really ensure their victory here. I mean, maybe collectively at some point soon they will be able to overthrow Frieza, but that doesn't mean they should do it at the first moment they get. They really should wait until they're strong enough to ensure that they can keep the army under control. Because who knows, what if once they overthrow Frieza, someone tries to overthrow them? It's better to keep Frieza around for stability right now. He's a pretty effective ruler, and he'll grow the army much further. In Kakarot's mind, if they let Frieza flourish a bit, that's just better for them because he's doing all the work. They'll inherit a much stronger army this way. And a much more loyal one too, especially if they're going to be stronger once they take over. And the Saiyans do agree. This is a pretty sound idea. They honestly just want to defeat Frieza and his army, but Kakarot's idea is actually pretty good. Take over the entire army for themselves. And wait, let Frieza do all the work. The Saiyans are starting to take a liking to Kakarot. They like this personality of his, and Frieza's taking a liking to him too. He makes note of the Saiyans' performance. He's doing very well slaughtering all these planets. They're locating very valuable ones, and Kakarot seems to be leading the charge even though he's the weakest of them. Well, not anymore actually. Frieza's able to note his massive growth. Now he's the 3rd strongest of the Saiyans. Not very impressive, but in that short time, he was able to get ahead of Raditz, and is slowly inching closer to Nappa too. Frieza sees his potential. He's growing very strong, very quickly, and he's very efficient at destroying planets, taking them and selling them. And Frieza also remembers too, having all these Saiyans together might be a bad idea. He knows they probably would want to rebel at some point, so it might be better to separate one of them. Kakarot seems to make them a lot more proactive, and that's good for Kakarot. But Frieza doesn't like the idea of more proactive Saiyans, so he decides he's going to do a little experiment. He tells the group, Kakarot's not going to be with them anymore, at least for the time being. Frieza tells them to consider this a shadowing program. I mean, Kakarot should have gotten some more formal training with the army. Of course, Kakarot is very effective, but Frieza explains this as Kakarot needing a more formal introduction to the forces. So he's going to shadow some more seasoned soldiers. He tells Kakarot will be shadowing the Ginyu Force, at least temporarily. They're much stronger than the Saiyans, and the other 3 recognize how big of a deal this is. Why is he being sent with the Ginyu Force of all people? They know Frieza wants to separate Kakarot, but that's an interesting group to send him with. Maybe this will make him more loyal to the Frieza Force, who knows though. So Kakarot is sent to be an honorary member of the Ginyu Force, and immediately, the Ginyu Force doesn't really like him. They try and get him to do the poses, try and get him to wear the armor, but Kakarot doesn't really want to. He wants to remain in his current clothing. I mean, honestly, the armor isn't that big of a deal for him. It's more so the fact that he doesn't want to do those stupid poses right before he slaughters an entire planet. The Ginyu Force is incredibly offended by this. But under Frieza's orders, they do have to keep this guy around. So, while they don't really like him, they don't really have a choice either. Alright, well, Ginyu lets it slide for now. Just because Kakarot was appointed here directly by Frieza himself. And you know what? He isn't really a real member of the Ginyu Force, so it shouldn't matter that he doesn't have cohesion with them either. They just need to deal with him for the time being, and then they'll send him off to somewhere else. Kakarot actually thinks that this might be good. He's going to get more intel on a lot of the stronger fighters in the Frieza Force, because apparently the Ginyu Force is actually one of the stronger groups. They're basically their own mercenary group that works alongside Frieza, and he'll learn more about them and how they operate, getting a better look into their tactics, Frieza's tactics, and most importantly, gauging their strength. He knows what Frieza's trying to do, it's pretty clear. But he's actually going to use that for himself. It's going to work in his favor, if anything. But there is one thing that Frieza is successful at. By doing this, he separates Kakarot from the Saiyans. Kakarot hasn't really formed too much of a camaraderie with the Saiyans. He's been with them and he's been slaughtering planets with them too. But it's not like he has a real connection with them. By severing that tie pretty early on, it makes it a lot easier for Kakarot to feel less connected with the Saiyans. Feeling less of a loyalty to them. Who's to say he can't do more of these things on his own? And hell, who's to say he could even trust the Saiyans? He was judged in the group for being a lower class Saiyan. He felt that he and Raditz kind of lagged behind. It's clear that Vegeta and Nappa looked down upon them. But it's not like Raditz really liked Kakarot either, because the second that Raditz was surpassed, he was more passive-aggressive towards his younger brother. It's a very competitive group, and this means that Kakarot isn't really too connected. The Ginyu Force goes on a mission one day. This is one of many that Kakarot's been on with them. But this time they arrive on a strange planet. The one that they're trying to sell seems to be barren at this point, which is weird. When they got here before, at least when they were gathering intel on it, there was a bunch of life. But now it seems the planet is dead, just a rock floating out in space. And they're unsure as to why. They can't really sense any strong powers here, but in the distance they notice something. On the other side of the planet, something that they didn't actually see in space, there's something poking out over the horizon. Is that a mountain? There wasn't a giant mountain like that there before. Maybe it's a volcano of sorts, something that popped up and just erupted, destroying everything. But as they get closer, they realize it's not that. It's a tree, it looks like. A giant tree. And as they get closer, suddenly, a couple of strong warriors come their way. The Ginyu Force is immediately alert. And even though these fighters are decently strong, compared to the Ginyu Force, they're nothing. It's a small crew, and collectively, they're not even stronger than the Ginyu Force. 2 Ginyu Force members alone could probably defeat them. They ask these soldiers who they are, and they introduce themselves as the Crusher Corps, loyal to Turles. Turles? Who the hell is that? The Ginyu Force asks what that tree is, and the Crusher Corps isn't really giving up too much info, so they just kill them. Well, seems like the Ginyu Force needs to turn back. This planet seems to be a lost cause. They can't sell it for anything now. Whoever that army was that they just destroyed, they must have been responsible. And since this planet is worthless now, it's not worth their time to stick around and figure out why it's this way now. But that was pretty interesting, hearing that name Turles. He definitely might be someone to look out for. As the Ginyu Force heads back to their ships, Ginyu's scouter goes off. There's another power lurking about. Did they miss one of the soldiers? A couple blasts are launched from behind. They're not quick enough to react. Golo and Jace are hit, and these blasts are powerful enough to actually kill them. This sends the rest of the members into a frenzy, with Kakarot wondering what's going on too. They were defeated that quickly? There's no way Kakarot stands a chance here. They look around frantically, trying to see where the blast came from. And then a figure pops in over the horizon, holding a fruit in his hand, and the silhouette of him. As he draws closer, the Ginyu Force is just speechless, especially Kakarot. Why does he look like that? He looks exactly like Kakarot. The man stares down the remaining Ginyu Force, but his eyes fixate on Kakarot too. And he notices, Kakarot doesn't look scared. The two are glaring at each other. I mean, at first, Kakarot was kind of surprised, but now, this man could tell. Kakarot's thinking of something. He doesn't know who this person is, but he could tell. For some reason, there's a Saiyan in the Ginyu Force, and Kakarot's thinking the same thing. This guy, he's clearly a Saiyan. And then it hits him, Turles. It sounds like a Saiyan name. This must be Turles, that guy that they were talking about. He introduces himself to the group, a bit disappointed that they defeated his crew. Ah well, he doesn't really need them anymore anyways. He tells the Ginyu Force they made a pretty bad mistake though, because now they're clearly against him. He will give them one last chance though. If they want to join and help on his conquest, feel free. The 3 remaining Ginyu Force members strike a pose. They're not going to back down. Birder lunges towards Turles, but his immense speed isn't enough to counter it. Somehow, Turles is faster than him. Raccoon then charges in too, trying to help. But with one attack, Turles is able to kill Birder, and just as quickly as he does that, he launches another attack at Raccoon, killing him too. Ginyu charges in, trying to launch a body change, but Turles is quick enough to avoid it. And Ginyu looks around frantically. He disappeared. He feels a sharp pain in his chest as Turles' hand punctures through it from behind. Ginyu falls down to the ground, with Turles launching a bunch of blasts to make sure he's eradicated completely. And then Turles turns over to that other Saiyan that was there. He lifts up a single finger, launching a blast at Kakarot's face. His scouter blows up, but otherwise he's uninjured. He begins talking with Kakarot. He must be thinking the same thing, that's why he didn't attack. And yeah, Kakarot thinks that Turles is thinking the same thing too. They're thinking of becoming allies with each other. Turles can tell Kakarot didn't really fit in with the Ginyu Force, and he says he wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. He was with other Saiyans, and they were aiming to take power from Frieza, but now Kakarot's intrigued. How did this Saiyan get so strong? He's clearly another low-class warrior, that's why they look the same. And Turles comments, has he ever heard of the Tree of Might? Well, that's one of them over there. He planted one on this planet, and sadly was only able to produce one fruit, but it was more than enough to get him strong enough to defeat the Ginyu Force. The Tree of Might? No, Kakarot's never heard of it, but he's definitely intrigued. Is that how Turles got so strong? Turles chuckles. He's got a lot to show Kakarot. He does seem a little bit weak now in comparison, but Turles sticks out a hand. Join him. They'll grow stronger than anyone else. And Kakarot hesitates for a moment. He was working with the Saiyans to take over Frieza's army, and Turles could already tell what he's thinking. He's thinking about those other Saiyans. Well, there's no need. From what Kakarot told him, 2 of them were higher class warriors, with one of them being the prince too. They definitely don't care for Kakarot. He's a low-class Saiyan, and Kakarot knows this for a fact. And also there's his brother, another fellow low-class warrior. But Kakarot has no connections with him, and if anything, the 2 aren't really too fond of each other anymore either. Would it be really that bad if Kakarot just left them? Could he even trust them too? Like, what if they took over Frieza's army and then Vegeta's in power? Doesn't Kakarot want that power? Turles says together, they could rule the universe. They'll share the power equally. They're very similar already. 2 low-class warriors looking to grow stronger. Why not do it together? It would be much more effective. Plus, Turles does need some new allies. And what better ally than another low-class Saiyan, especially one who looks exactly like him? Kakarot's hesitation ends. He sticks his hand out, shaking Turles's. This is the beginning of something new. Now, Kakarot is still wary of it, and Turles is too. They don't really know each other, they just know that they're Saiyans. Both looking for the same things, but they feel that together, they could do something special. Kakarot has seen Turles' strength, and he wants that for himself. And Turles was completely genuine. He does want to team up with Kakarot. The second that he saw Kakarot, he knew that he should. Kakarot has great intel on the Frieza Force that he can use. Great intel on other planets that he can go to plant trees of might. And together, who knows how strong they'll get. Turles welcomes Kakarot into the Crusher Corps. And now, we see the introduction of Kakarot the Crusher. It was perfect too. Kakarot basically fakes his death here. With the rest of the Ginyu Force dying, Frieza's not going to question the fact that Kakarot must have died too. But Frieza is curious. Who was strong enough to kill the Ginyu Force? And why on this planet? He does think Kakarot's dead, which is great, but he's going to want to look into this. He needs to know who did this. They may potentially be a threat to him. And even if they might potentially be a threat, it doesn't necessarily mean that this person is a threat right now. Frieza's going to stop this before it gets bad, while also still being concerned about the Saiyans, but at least one of them is seemingly dealt with. Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz are just as flabbergasted. Kakarot's dead? Well, he was kind of weak. They don't really need him anyways. They'll just continue with their normal plan. On Earth, the Red Ribbon Army continues growing. They start working on a new project to take over the world, maybe even more. With them not being interrupted at all, they have so much free time to do this. And all the great resources they need. They don't need to worry about some kid coming around destroying everything, which they probably wouldn't have even expected in the first place, but here, that didn't even happen. It's not just that either. The Crane School begins growing more influential, with the members of it still staying part of it, growing stronger as time goes on. But the Red Ribbon Army is the most important. It's getting more power by the day. Although, we're not going to be touching upon them fully in this part. We'll see more of that later on, just keep it in mind. The Red Ribbon Army and the Crane School are still growing. But more importantly, what's happening out in space, especially with Kakarot and the other Saiyans? Well, as for Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz, they wonder if Kakarot will return. They honestly think he's dead. So does Frieza. He gets word that the Ginyu Force was killed, presumably including Kakarot as well. If they died against whatever threat they faced, well, there's no way Kakarot would have lived either. He was weaker than them. And it still is obviously pretty concerning. Not that he cares about losing those fighters, but he's mostly wondering who is strong enough to do that. While he doesn't care about the fighters that he lost, he cares that there could be someone strong out there. Definitely not as strong as him, there's no way. But still, it is worth noting. I mean, the Ginyu Force was particularly strong, especially compared to his forces. And if someone wiped them out that effortlessly, well, the rest of his army is at risk too. The Saiyans are thinking the same thing as well. Of course, they don't care about the Ginyu Force, and honestly, they're not too attached to Kakarot, but they still wonder who would have been strong enough to kill him, and it doesn't come as a big surprise. Luckily, they're gonna get an answer pretty soon because Frieza decides to send them out to find out whoever did this. Vegeta, Raditz, and Nappa are paired up with Zarbon and Dodoria. They're pretty strong and they could probably come and figure this out. Frieza wants them to find out where this all went down, and scope it out to try and figure out what's going on. It's basically a suicide mission because again, if the Ginyu Force died, these people will die too. But for now they're mostly gathering intel and it's not likely they'll counter any threat. Well, maybe. This group heads out, going to the planet where there was last contact with the Ginyu Force. And once they arrive, they immediately find something very strange. On the planet, there's a giant tree. The planet just seems dead. Like, it's one thing for them to stumble across a planet with no inhabitants, but this planet looks like all the energy has been drained from it somehow. If that's even possible. It's basically a rock floating out in space with a tree on it. And that tree's actually dying too. Obviously it's no normal tree either, it's massive. It can be seen from space, even going through the atmosphere. This is unnatural. And they relay the information back to Frieza. What the hell is this? And is it a clue as to how the Ginyu Force died? While the Frieza Force tries to figure out what's been going on, Kakarot and Turles continue going around space, being very environmentally friendly and planting trees everywhere. Of course, some of the planets don't bear very good fruits. A lot of the planets they find are small and barren without much life on them, although any fruit is fruit. Also, Turles is kind of bummed because now he has to split the fruit with Kakarot, so whenever a tree only has one of them, they're gonna have to cut it in half, but it's fine. He expected this, and the two of them are growing very powerful, especially Kakarot. Turles sees that he has a lot of catching up to do, but tells Kakarot not to worry. Soon enough, they'll be dominating the universe together. And this is all very surprising to Kakarot. This planet's actually working. He's eaten a few fruits so far, and he already feels noticeably stronger. Of course, some have less of an effect than others, but at points they probably would find pretty big planets with a lot of energy, a lot of life for the Tree of Might to drain from it. And Kakarot's really enjoying this too. This is what he was meant for. Not only is he growing stronger, but he's growing around conquering planets. He's actually really glad that he joined Turles. He's having a lot of fun with this, and the two of them are probably going to even spar from time to time, just to test out each of their powers. Which is more training, which means they're even going to grow stronger beyond that. The Crusher duo is flourishing. Even though Turles no longer has this Crusher core, it doesn't matter. Him and Kakarot is more than enough. Kakarot's more effective than all of them combined. He's surprised he didn't think of this in the first place. Well, of course he didn't know of Kakarot's existence. But he suspected that other Saiyans would be out there somewhere, and he's glad he recruited him. Especially with the fact that Kakarot is a low-class warrior. He knows the plight that Turles had. And if they do encounter those elite Saiyans, and Raditz I guess, they'll definitely be able to overcome them if the Saiyans try to revolt. And that does stick in Kakarot's mind. He wonders what's going to happen when they encounter the Saiyans again, because there's no way the Frieza Force isn't going to inspect this. They will be found eventually, and they will have to meet the Saiyans. Turles seems set on killing them. And even if they could join, it wouldn't really be ideal because they have to split so many fruits amongst themselves. And Turles definitely wouldn't want to trust Vegeta or Nappa. They're already elite warriors that have looked down on the low-class warriors for so long. Maybe Raditz could join, but that would be tricky. He probably is loyal to the other two, possibly even jealous of Kakarot. As Frieza's group continues inspecting things, they're able to find more planets with trees on them, which leads down a direct path. They can figure out where Turles and Kakarot were heading. Obviously they don't know that's where Turles and Kakarot were heading, or that it was even them. All they know is that they're tracking down some villain that keeps planting trees and destroying planets. Some of them are even Frieza's planets, which really pisses him off. But as they continue going down this path, eventually they catch up to the two of them. They locate another ship in space, landing on a planet nearby. A pretty large one that's also owned by Frieza's army. Turles notes that there's a ship following them, and Kakarot can immediately tell. That must be the Saiyans. But he also senses two other powers on the ship. Maybe it's Zarbon and Dodoria, that's his theory at least. But he tells Turles to get ready for this to get ugly. If it's not just the Saiyans, well, they're here to kill him. And Turles says it's fine, they won't be able to kill him. They land on the planet, and immediately after, Zarbon and Dodoria's ship lands as well. They step off the ship, on guard, and commanding whoever is on that other ship to step off too. They say this is an order, and they will fire upon the ship if they don't step out. Very calmly, someone steps off. Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz's stomachs drop. It's another Saiyan, and he looks exactly like Kakarot, but they can tell it's not Kakarot. Zarbon and Dodoria are amused by this. It was another Saiyan? Was he the one responsible for killing the Ginyu Force? And Turles smiles. Yeah, that was him. This does piss Vegeta, Nappa, and Raditz off too, because he ended up killing Kakarot as well. Vegeta shouts, "What scum? He betrayed the Saiyans as well. It's one thing to kill the Ginyu Force, but why would he turn on another Saiyan?" And Turles chuckles. He didn't. Another person steps off the ship, leaving everyone speechless. It's Kakarot. He's alive, and why is he with this other Saiyan? Zarbon and Dodoria are pissed off. Kakarot betrayed them. He definitely wasn't kidnapped by Turles. That could have been a possibility, but there's no way that happened. He joined willingly. That's what they're seeing. So he assisted in the death of the Ginyu Force. Zarbon and Dodoria don't hesitate. They know these two are the enemies, so Zarbon immediately transforms and Dodoria powers up too. Zarbon rushes in, with Turles simply piercing a hand through his chest. Kakarot sweeps his arm to the side, cutting Dodoria's head clean off. Whoa, they knew they were strong, but they didn't intend to kill these two right away. Turles says it's kind of a shame. He didn't want a fight to go down. But there's still the Saiyans here. And Turles turns to Kakarot. What are they supposed to do now? Kakarot could tell this is a test of his loyalty. He knows he has two options here. Either kill the Saiyans like Turles wanted, or join the Saiyans and turn against Turles. But Turles knows deep down, Kakarot wants to revolt against the Saiyans. Kakarot doesn't like them, he's like him. Not just in looks, but everything. And he shares the same sentiment. Vegeta and Nappa are elite scum. Even though Kakarot probably didn't experience it in his life, he knows about the history of how the elite Saiyans look down on the low-class warriors, and he's seen it with Raditz too. And even though it wasn't huge, he did kind of feel that way himself. He knew Vegeta and Nappa viewed him as lesser. And Kakarot does hesitate for a moment, but before he could even do anything, Vegeta shouts out at him, immediately assuming the worst. He curses it all, saying they never should have taken Kakarot in. He's another low-class scum. They don't need him. If he would betray them this easily, why should they trust him? Vegeta can already tell Kakarot's made his mind up. The fact that they joined Turles in the first place. Turles wouldn't have kept Kakarot around if he knew he wouldn't be loyal. That's evidence enough for Vegeta. Kakarot is turning against them. It's not just the Frieza Force, it's them too. He's low-class scum that's been holding them back. They shouldn't have taken him in. And this reveals to Kakarot everything that he needed to know. Kakarot was a bit hesitant, but this confirms it. This shows everything he needs. And Turles is elated to hear this outburst from Vegeta. He's grinning throughout the entire speech, and he can sense Kakarot's power rising. He's getting angry. He puts a hand on Kakarot's shoulder. He could tell. Kakarot's mad. And he mentions, he knows Kakarot wants to do this. He knows he's contemplating it. He has been this whole time. That's why he joined Turles in the first place. Why not make it happen? And Kakarot nods. This is what he needed. It confirms what side he's on. Kakarot disappears from everyone's sight. And then, Raditz and Vegeta hear Nappa scream. They turn over. Kakarot moves so quickly. And they can see his fist making contact with Nappa's gut. A direct and powerful hit. Once again moving quickly, Kakarot maneuvers around Nappa, then kicking him in the back of the head, knocking him clean into the ground. He places his two hands together, charging a very similar attack to one of Turles's. And Turles chuckles, a kill driver, very impressive. As the fiery attack charges, Kakarot looks down menacingly at Nappa, launching it with no remorse as Nappa's completely wiped out. Vegeta is obviously distracted by this, but then Turles tries to fight him, fighting very casually and using very little of his power. There's no way this is happening. Turles can't be this strong, he's a low-class Saiyan. But he is, and Turles is really enjoying this, seeing that look on Vegeta's face. That frustration, that fear. This is what Turles would live for. Who cares if Vegeta's an elite Saiyan? Born to be the prince or whatever. That doesn't matter. He's the prince of nothing. And his title is meaningless. But Kakarot steps in. He tells Turles to let him handle this. And Turles is surprised to hear this, but yeah, he obliges. This is actually better. It'll only confirm that Kakarot wants to kill Vegeta. And it'll be another good test of his loyalty. Although, he's a bit bummed that Kakarot's having all the fun, but he sits aside and watches. Vegeta angrily looks at Kakarot, taunting him. Do it already. He knows he wants to. The two run in towards each other, clashing, creating a powerful shockwave. The entire time, Raditz is watching all this, not sure what to think. The two begin fighting, and Kakarot's surprised. He doesn't need that much power for this. He fights somewhat casually, not as casually as Turles, but he's not using all of his power. Hell, he's not even using half of it. And it's just making Vegeta angrier and angrier. How is this possible? It has to have something to do with those trees. Why are they going around planting them? Of course, Kakarot's not going to say anything, but he continues fighting Vegeta. And Vegeta taunts him even more. What a weakling. He had to use that to grow stronger. Not to mention, he has no clue why Turles trusts Kakarot. First, he left the Crane School on Earth, and now he leaves the Saiyans here. Kakarot has a record of betraying people. But Kakarot retorts, Vegeta didn't trust him regardless. He could have either stayed with the Saiyans and been oppressed by them, or he could join Turles, unlock his full potential, go around the universe getting stronger, have an ally whom he can depend on. Vegeta jumps up in the air, charging a Gallic gun. He tells Kakarot, if this is what he wants, then so be it, but this will also be his death. He fires the beam at Kakarot, with Kakarot calmly looking up towards it, then pointing a finger. Quietly, he says the Danpa, launching a beam that pierces right through Vegeta's Gallic gun. Without effort, it cuts right through the attack, then hitting Vegeta head on, piercing through him as well. Vegeta falls down from the sky, hitting the ground lifeless. And Turles smiles. Good on Kakarot for doing that. But there's still one more Saiyan left. He's glad to see Kakarot's resolve, but how far will that really go? Now Kakarot has to kill Raditz. But he's gone. Raditz left somewhere. He must have escaped. What a coward. Turles says they'll find him eventually and kill him next. And Kakarot agrees, but he's actually not too sure. It's not because Raditz is his brother. I mean, that is part of the reason, but that's not why Kakarot is hesitant about this. It's mainly the fact that Turles wanted to revolt against the elite Saiyans. Raditz isn't that. He's another low-class warrior. He was also the one that took Kakarot in. He shared their same plight. It was kind of a stroke of luck that he escaped. This gives Kakarot more time to think. Vegeta and Appa, they had to go, but Raditz? He's not sure. Although, if Raditz is gone, Raditz will probably try to attack them too. Seeing how they turn against the Saiyans, if Raditz ever encounters them again, he'll probably want to fight. Kakarot can't know for sure though, but this sticks in the back of his mind, and Turles knows this will affect Kakarot. They'll deal with it later on. And honestly, he doesn't care too much about this. He can see why Kakarot would have second thoughts about Raditz anyways, but he reminds Kakarot, Raditz stands for the same thing that Vegeta and Nappa stood for, even if he is a low-class warrior. Just consider that for their next meeting. This all makes Kakarot uneasy, but more importantly, now they need to fight Frieza. Well, not immediately, but Turles says that's their next option. He grabs a fruit from the Tree of Might that he just planted, and tells Kakarot to prepare. Frieza definitely will retaliate soon. He tosses part of the fruit to Kakarot, who takes a bite out of it. He feels the power coursing through him once again, just as he felt many times before. But this time it's different. They have a new goal now. And Kakarot just did something huge. How will the encounter with Frieza go though? Frieza is monitoring the whole situation, and of course, it wouldn't come to any surprise that the Saiyans died against whatever this threat was. Alright, he kind of expected that. Same with Zarbon and Dodoria. If these people were strong enough to kill the Ginyu Force, it only makes sense that they would be strong enough to kill these fighters as well. But this does give Frieza some valuable insight. He knows who's behind it. It's Kakarot and some other Saiyan named Turles. This infuriates him to no end. He knew the Saiyans couldn't be trusted. One of them rebelled against him. He was suspicious of that Kakarot from the beginning. But what's worse, Kakarot's not the only one to worry about. There's another Saiyan, one that Frieza never knew of before. All this bad news get to him at once. First, one of his soldiers betrays him. Incredibly annoying, but not too unexpected. Then he finds out there's another Saiyan. Now that was unexpected. And it's obviously a glaring issue. But the worst part of it all, these Saiyans are strong somehow. Now, the Saiyans are powerful warriors. That's the whole reason he had them as part of his army in the first place. But these two are supposed to be low-class warriors, and somehow they're able to kill the Ginyu Force. Actually, only one of them was needed to kill the Ginyu Force, because before Kakarot joined, it was just Turles fighting. And Frieza's so confused as to what's going on here. Does it have something to do with those trees? I mean, that's how they found these two in the first place. It seems whatever fruit comes off that tree actually grants him this power, and that gets Frieza interested. So, of course, he wants to kill these two Saiyans, but more so, he wants to figure out what that tree is, how to plant his own Tree of Might and get fruit from it. If that actually made them so strong, maybe it can make him even stronger too. Of course, his power is already great as is, but why would he turn down the opportunity for more power? Besides wanting to get rid of these thorns in his side, he wants to pursue this new goal. It seems it's probably going to be very worthwhile to go after these two Saiyans. Speaking of them, they're going to continue doing exactly what they've been doing, planting more Trees of Might, growing stronger, and continuing their conquest. And they start doing something else that annoys Frieza a lot. Sometimes it's accidental, but sometimes it's on purpose. They start planting trees on Frieza's planets. You know, the ones that he already owns and makes money off of. Yeah, they completely decimate them by planting trees there. Now, some of it is because they just need to plant trees somewhere, with these planets producing very good fruits. But some of them, they don't even really need to plant trees on. Some are just small planets that won't really give them much power. But by doing this, they're spitting in Frieza's face. They're taunting him directly. And Frieza knows that's what they're doing too. Now, it could just be a coincidence that they're picking up the speed. But that's exactly what's happening. They're picking up the pace and they know Frieza's on their trail. So, why not have fun? Taunt him a bit. And the message has been received. Frieza can tell what they're trying to say. They're trying to say they're better than him. They're not scared of him. But he'll make them scared. He'll make them regret that they ever did this. Not only that, but he'll get that power for himself. The Frieza Force's full attention is turned towards these two Saiyans. They are the biggest threat to the Frieza Force right now after all. Not only in terms of their strength, but the fact that they're trying to take territory from Frieza too. That really pisses him off. Because that's a lot harder to keep track of, and once it's gone, it's gone. And the longer he waits, the stronger they get, the more territory they take, the more planets they destroy, the closer they get to ruling the universe, taking that power from Frieza. And Frieza decides to take it into his own hands. One day, they're able to get intel on a planet that's being pillaged, and it's before a tree is even planted. Perfect. Frieza wastes no time, immediately heading out. He doesn't even take a ship there. That would take too long. He powers up, going into his second form. There's one way to get there faster than a normal ship, flying there himself. He rockets off, trying to get to the planet as quickly as possible. And with his immense speed, it doesn't take too long to get there. Kakarot and Turles can sense the power getting closer, and Kakarot immediately knows who it is. It's Frieza, just as Turles expected too. He makes a crash landing nearby, forming a giant crater as he jumps up out of it. Turles is elated, and so is Kakarot.
They could see it right in Frieza's face. He's furious, furious beyond belief. Kakarot's never seen him like this. He's usually so calm and collected, always trying to act formal and as if he's above everybody else. But here, they see some cracks in his facade. This is the first time Frieza's facing something that annoys him this much. A true threat to him and his empire, something that he has to handle himself, and something that he will probably struggle against. And he smirks too, once he sees them. Although, he's surprised Kakarot isn't having a more visceral reaction to seeing his second form. But Kakarot doesn't really care. There's always been rumors that Frieza could transform. And given his power, Kakarot's not really terrified. Really, he's still being cocky after all this. Well, Frieza decides to waste no time exchanging any more words. He just fights them right away, and they oblige. They're not going to turn this down. They knew this was going to have to happen eventually, and it's better to get it over with. He tells them it's pointless. No matter how many fruits they get, it's not going to work. They're not going to be able to get strong enough to face someone like him. His strength, it comes from him being a mutant. This power is an innate ability of his. For them, it's artificial. They have to get it through some external means. Not only is it pathetic in Frieza's eyes, but also it's not too concerning to him. These Saiyans know they're weak. That's why they're pursuing these other means. But Turles says it's actually the opposite. It took struggle to get here. Sure, now it's a lot easier. But before, as low-class warriors, they were naturally disadvantaged. Why wouldn't they take this opportunity? Not to mention, both of them had to struggle before. And how dare Frieza imply that they didn't have to? He's responsible for the destruction of the Saiyan race after all. There's nothing pathetic about this. It's just smart. A way to obtain power quickly and efficiently. A way to spread their influence. And on top of all that, it's a way to prove themselves against Frieza, get vengeance against him, kill him, take over his empire, take all of his influence. That's what Turles wants, and now it's kind of what Kakarot wants too. It's exciting. The prospect of ruling the universe like this, with this sort of power. Imagine how much stronger they can get once they defeat Frieza. As Saiyans, their strength is limitless. But Frieza retorts, his is limitless as well. He turns into his third form, still fighting the two of them, and surprised to see that it's not doing much. His second form was actually weak against them. And his third form is actually able to somewhat match the two of them together, which gets him a little bit more confident, and makes them a little less confident. Now, the two of them together are able to overpower him still, but the fact that he's this strong alone, well, it's concerning, because what if this isn't his full power? They just need to bide their time for now. The tree that they just planted will sprout some fruits. But time is not on their side, and Frieza realized this. He wants to end this quickly. He knows if he leaves these pests around any longer, they'll just get stronger and be more of a threat to him. He does want to have fun, making their death slow and painful, but at the same time, he knows he can't wait too long for that. So, he goes into his final form. And now, Frieza's power is finally above theirs, just as he thought. And he has a lot of fun doing this. Even in his final form, he's not using his full power, still only at 50%, but it's more than what he needs. It's enough to where he's not overexerting himself, but also enough to where he can have fun. He could torture them, make them truly pay for what they've done, these transgressions against him. He will not let them slide. Death is too swift for them. They need something worse. Single-handedly, Frieza is able to fight off the two Saiyans. Not just that, but he's able to heavily injure them, enjoying it all the while, making it a point that he's going to make this slow. And now he's getting a little bit too cocky. Yeah, before he did want to end it quick, but seeing this advantage, he's not going to let it go to waste. He needs to have his fun, and they need to pay for what they've done too. And even though they're overpowered, there still is one advantage. They outnumber Frieza, even if it is just by one person. No matter how fast or strong Frieza is, they still are two people. And yeah, he can fight two people at once effectively, but if those two people try to split up, it's going to be hard for him to get two of them at once. And that's exactly what they do. They realize they're being backed into a corner, heavily injured. They can't fight Frieza, especially when he's this strong. If only they had a few more fruits. Hell, even one fruit might be enough. If they can get a fruit from this planet, that should be what they need. This planet is relatively large and has a lot of energy within it, and they can tell. Getting a fruit, even if it's just one and they split it in half, they'll feel refreshed, empowered. They'll beat Frieza. Once more, Turles places his trust in Kakarot. He hopes this is the right choice, but he jumps in front of Frieza, taking the full force of his attacks. He's the stronger of the two still. And although it doesn't mean he's stronger than Frieza, it means he'll fare better at holding him off. And that gives Kakarot a little bit of an opening. Just a little opening. But it's enough for him to go escape. And this is why Turles is trusting him. He's hoping that Kakarot isn't just going to be a coward and abandon him. Kakarot definitely does have that option. He could just leave right now. He could also get the fruit and use it for himself. But Turles knows that he and Kakarot have a common goal. And he knows that Kakarot thinks the same too. The two are so similar, and have worked together long enough for this trust to be here. And Kakarot does exactly what Turles needed, once more reconfirming that they could trust each other. Kakarot is able to grab a fruit from the tree, and instead of leaving or just taking the fruit for himself, he even splits it in half, eating one piece for himself, quickly rushing over to Turles to give him the other. Kakarot then attacks Frieza, as Turles eats his half of the fruit. He thanks Kakarot, knowing he could rely on him. And Frieza realized what just happened. He fell right into their trap. Turles was a distraction. The two of them begin powering up, showcasing even more strength than before. And Frieza looks around frantically. There was only one fruit from the tree, and it was a pretty good one. Once again, dining on the fruit of the Tree of Might has helped them. And they undergo somewhat of an evolution. Not a complete evolution, but they begin changing. A few more fruits and they'll actually reach what they need. But even now, they're starting to showcase some changes. An ominous red aura surrounds them. It's overwhelming, but Frieza isn't deterred by it. He tries to attack them again, but now, his power's not enough. They've tipped the scales. Now, individually, Frieza might stand a chance against one of them, but with both together, they actually do overpower Frieza. At least as he is now. Frieza then showcases his full strength. He hates that he has to use this. Knowing that his other powers weren't sufficient enough, he actually has to use his full strength. It's sickening. But you know what? Whatever it takes to kill these Saiyans, he needs to make sure they're done with. And Frieza going full power actually makes everything even. But the Saiyans can tell. Frieza's getting sloppy. He's injured from the previous fights. The Saiyans are injured too, but the Tree might actually help them a bit. They feel replenished, their power restored. And actually, the slower battle works against Frieza. Since it's close to being even, it just prolongs it even more, giving more time for Frieza to lose focus, get angrier, getting sloppier with his attacks too, taking more damage, prolonging the inevitable. And what is the inevitable here? Well, it's Frieza's death. The two Saiyans jump up high in the air. Back to back, they begin charging energy. The reddish aura grows larger, swirling together into a purplish aura. Each of them throw their hands behind their back, charging more and more ki, and then swinging their arms forward. A combined Calamity Blaster. Frieza tries to counter it himself, and a very short beam struggle ensues, but as Kakarot and Turles put more power into it, it eclipses Frieza's own blast, hitting the Emperor head on and slowly disintegrating it. A massive explosion ensues, knocking the two Saiyans back, and what they see in the aftermath is just a crater, a divot left behind by the attack, leading out into space. The planet is scarred by it. They almost hit the core of the planet, and actually they could see very far down. If the blast were aimed a little bit closer, it would have blown up the planet. So, thankfully they avoided that. But now the planet is just completely destroyed, not only from the Tree of Might, but also this attack. Not that it really matters, it's just good that they didn't accidentally blow up the planet in the process, which would have meant they died too. So, hey, a stroke of luck there. The two Saiyans retreat, no longer having a reason to be on this planet. Soon enough, of course King Cold would hear about Frieza's death. By now, Turles and Kakarot are long gone, but it won't be hard to find them. They weren't necessarily keeping a low profile before, and now with Frieza dead, they have even less of a reason to keep a low profile. As far as they're concerned, these two are the rulers of the universe now. This is the Neo Crusher Corps, or more simply, the Crusher Duo. King Cold eventually does try and locate them, which they actually did expect. He has the entire Frieza force with him, or at least what remains of it, and they do something pretty interesting. They don't attack the other soldiers. I mean, they could easily kill the rest of the army if they needed, but they just simply tank all the attacks launched towards them. And it's not just because they're trying to display confidence or their strength. Well, at least not towards King Cold. They're displaying their strength towards the Frieza force, of course. The main reason is, they want to keep those soldiers alive. And they tell it to King Cold flat out. Why would they kill these soldiers? That's their new army. King Cold's confused. He has no clue what they mean, but they explain. With Frieza gone, someone's going to need to take over his army, and it's not going to be King Cold. They regret to inform him, but now they're going to lead the Frieza force, or the Crusher force, I guess. This angers King Cold to no end. He tries to fight the two of them, but by now, they've gotten even more fruits within their system, and they're pursuing a higher power. A few more fruits and they should be good. And hey, if they were able to defeat Frieza before, they definitely would have been able to defeat King Cold too, and especially now that they're even stronger than that first encounter. King Cold lunges in, but with a single attack, Kakarot steps in front of Turles, disintegrating King Cold. Within full view of the Frieza force, of course. Turles chuckles, impressed at the style of that execution. He then turns to the army, projecting his voice. Hopefully they heard everything that was discussed just now, and saw what just went down. They weren't bluffing. Turles and Kakarot are their new commanders. Of course, they welcome them to rebel and try to kill them. But after watching how effortlessly they killed King Cold, and remembering the fact that these two killed Frieza, yeah, they're not going to turn against Turles or Kakarot. So, the two Saiyans have accomplished their goals. Their conquest of planets continues. They've grown stronger, planted more trees. They killed Frieza, they killed King Cold, and now they've taken over that army. But still, their work isn't done. No. If anything, procuring this army is only just the beginning of their work. They do have to remember, after all, this is just this galaxy. Likely, there's other factions in the galaxy that they're going to have to deal with, and there's definitely some other factions within the universe as a whole that they'll have to deal with. They're just going to be more efficient now. Otherwise, it's business as usual. Their conquest won't stop. It's just going to speed up. Their influence will grow alongside their power. But with such great strength now, who will they face in the future that could even contend with them?
Now with a brand new Crusher Corps, an entire army actually, finding planets to take over is actually pretty simple now. They could just spread their resources far and wide. They don't need to be at these planets exactly. They could just have soldiers go there, clear out everything, basically like they did on the Frieza, and then they go to the planet themselves, planting another Tree of Might. Continuously they're growing stronger, but there is a bit of an issue. They've kind of already gotten rid of most of the planets in this area. There is one section of the galaxy that Kakarot's waiting to go to, acting like there's nothing there. It's Earth, and he's basically able to keep Turles away from it. Kakarot's not too sure what he wants to do about that yet. Something is holding him back. But besides that planet, they've basically gotten all the worthwhile ones so far. And Turles is wondering, they've already taken the energy from all the planets, so is there a way to actually take it from the stars now? That's going to be kind of impossible. Maybe they're just going to have to expand their horizons. They have their researchers working on trying to figure out ways to steal energy from stars, but in the meantime, they are going to have to go to different galaxies. Which is a win-win because they will find more planets, and they're spreading their influence, possibly even getting a stronger army along the way. But even with that, there's kind of an issue too alongside it. It could be because the fruits they have are pretty weak, but they're noticing diminishing gains from the fruits. They need more actual fighting experience. So, who knows? Once they venture out into other galaxies, maybe they will get this. They need more planets, more fruits, and they need more fighting. But Frieza was really the last threat here, the only person who could actually hope to face them, and they defeated him. So, now what? There's nobody here in this galaxy. Maybe other ones have some strong people. But they aren't actively seeking these people. Yeah, it would be great to fight others, but also that means more conflict for their army. The two train with each other, sparring from time to time, but that's really it. It's not like they could kill each other and fight to the death, so they're not even going all out in their battles. Except on rare occasions when they have time to heal afterwards. But they're both getting kinda bored. They need something different, a change in pace. Besides giving them something to do and not making them bored anymore, it's necessary to grow stronger. As they're expanding their outreach, the Neo Crusher Corps begins taking over more planets in other galaxies. They do meet little resistance, but their army is strong enough to actually take over. But one day, one of their armies faces more resistance than usual. Okay, that's not too unexpected, but still, it's worthwhile to check out. They did lose some soldiers, and that could mean that this planet is potentially really strong, which means more energy from them, and that means it's a top priority. They didn't even get any word back from their soldiers, they were just immediately eradicated by some force. But it's kinda strange because once they get to this planet, there's no one there. There's no civilizations that rule the planet or whatever, it's just empty. It's like somebody was already there and pillaged it. But that makes no sense. If this planet's uninhabited and it's already pillaged, who did that? Because their army sure didn't. Someone killed their army. At least that faction of it. Maybe this planet actually isn't strong. And Kakarot tells Turles, there is another explanation. Maybe there's another faction going out there. Someone strong like them that's taking over planets as well. Maybe they stepped into somebody else's territory. Turles grins. This is exactly what he wanted. Another faction just like the Frieza Force is probably out there, in this galaxy. They could defeat that faction, growing stronger and getting a nice battle out of it. And not to mention, once they defeat that faction, if they do exist, that means they get all that faction's resources as well. Turles tells Kakarot this is exactly what they needed. He's excited, and now Kakarot kind of is too. This is gonna be great. Finally, a real battle. Well, maybe. Their Crusher Corps was a little bit weaker, so who knows. This faction that they counter might not even be that strong. But still, it's at least something to do now. And while they're discussing this, they get word from recon soldiers in their army. Apparently, they've located these people, so they do exist. That theory turned out to be true. There's some sort of ship flying through space, and it seems that there's 5 high power levels on it. There's no army with them, and it's a relatively small ship. It must be a really small faction then, unless this is only part of it. Turles and Kakarot immediately depart this planet, trying to chase whatever crew this is. It eventually leads them into another planet, possibly that other crew's base of operations. Their scouters show no other power levels there, and from what they could sense, they only sensed those 5 people. They land far away, trying to be covert, and then sneaking up on wherever this faction went to. They're in uncharted territory, so they could be facing anything. They're going to be a little bit careful here. As they make their way to where that other faction landed, suddenly, a ki blast flies right towards Turles. Quickly, he flings his hand out in front of him, countering it with his own blast. And then another blast hits him from behind. One hits Kakarot as well. And now they can sense it. There's 4 soldiers around them. One in every direction. They're surrounded. One of them jumps out, attacking point blank, and they finally see the face of one of the people they were fighting. He proclaims that the Hera clan will not fall to these 2. This is their territory. These planets are theirs to pillage. Interesting. The Hera clan. Turles hasn't heard of that, and obviously Kakarot hasn't either. It turns out they've stumbled upon a crew of space pirates. Kinda like them, but in a different way. Kakarot and Turles try fighting this guy, and then he transforms, turning a little bit different. 3 of his allies then step out. A 4v2. Not really that fair, but Turles doesn't care. He powers up, surrounded by an ominous red glow, and Kakarot does the same. They look at each other, remembering that they're on the verge of getting some new power. This might be what pushes them to that, depending on how strong this Hera clan actually is. But something is weird too. They sensed 5 people before, why are there only 4 attacking? One of them then launches strings of energy towards Kakarot, tying him up and holding him where he is. Turles tries to attack him and free Kakarot, but then 2 other soldiers step in front of them. They don't know who these people are or how strong they are. And once again, they still don't know what to expect, so they're being careful. Turles would love to have a good fight, but he wants to make this quick, not knowing what they're capable of. What if they could all transform like that other guy? I mean, these 3 don't seem as strong as him maybe. So Turles has a new goal in mind. He has to kill them one by one, before they could transform, if they could transform. First, he turns to Kogu, the one who transformed. If he's the stronger one, well, Turles will make sure to kill him first. Now that he's showing off his full strength, a 1v1 will suffice. He charges a powerful blast, knocking Zangya and Beto away. He lunges towards Bujin to try and free Kakarot. And of course, Kogu tries to defend Bujin. And this is all a diversion. As soon as he's attacked, Turles then turns around, quickly piercing a hand through Kogu. And with another swift motion, he charges a quick attack to kill Bujin with. Zangya and Beto recuperate, lunging towards Turles, but now with Kakarot freed, he jumps into the fight, powering up even more, fighting both of them at once. Turles breathes a sigh of relief. He watches as Kakarot prepares to kill the other 2, but then another blast comes out of nowhere. Kakarot's barely able to jump out of the way in time, and the blast almost hits the other 2 as well. They look up. On a nearby cliff, they see another person standing there, one who they haven't seen before, but they can tell just by how he looks that he's definitely the boss of these guys. And he seems pretty angered. 2 of his people are already dead. Not only that, but these 2 people, whoever they are, they're trying to take over his territory, trying to take what they already pillaged. Of course, the 2 factions can't coexist, but Bojack's not worried. He introduces himself, saying that whatever army they have, the Hera clan will definitely take it over once he kills these 2. Turles then introduces himself, with Kakarot doing the same. And Turles commends them for their effort, excited for a new battle, but he also tells them this will be pretty swift. Turles and Kakarot power up, lunging towards Bojack, and he does something really unexpected. He grabs Beto and Zangya, flinging them towards Turles and Kakarot. Doing that to his own soldiers? What the hell? I mean, they're not necessarily the most compassionate, but still. The 2 of them then throw each other around like objects to distract other fighters. But whatever, Turles and Kakarot each kill those 2 with 1 attack. And Bojack knew they wouldn't stand a chance. He just used that as a distraction. Once the smoke from their blast dissipate, Turles and Kakarot see Bojack standing there, looking different. Oh crap, he transformed just like the other guy. Okay, well, they killed that other guy relatively easily, so maybe this guy won't be that strong. And very quickly, they find out that assumption is very wrong. The 2 lunge at Bojack in unison, and he's able to actually guard against both their attacks. Effortlessly blocking a punch from each of them, the 2 begin attacking more rapidly, each with a flurry of punches and kicks that Bojack guards against. He then grabs both of their arms, slamming them into the ground, and then picking them up by their heads. He holds them out in front of him, starting to even crush their heads. In the nick of time, Kakarot charges a ki blast with his feet, launching it towards Bojack's face just to get away from his grip. And with all his might, he tries to attack Bojack's other arm to free Turles. Bojack doesn't take too much damage from this, but it does anger him, getting a ki blast right in his eyes. They'll pay for that. He'll make their death even slower. Turles tries to charge energy, while Bojack simply sticks out a hand, charging his own blast and launching it towards Turles. Turles quickly tries to counter with his own blast, with the blast that's not even fully charged yet, and he's barely able to survive from this, but the blast knocks him far away, as Bojack runs towards Kakarot. Kakarot guards with both arms, and Bojack punches him, knocking Kakarot far back. His arms are shaking. He felt that attack through his whole body. Quickly, he tries to charge more energy. His red aura grows fiercer and fiercer. But nothing works. Bojack simply grabs him, slamming him into the ground once more. With Kakarot firmly planted into the ground, Bojack jumps up into the sky, falling back down and stepping right on Kakarot's chest. He jumps up again, pummeling Kakarot further and further into the ground. He's bloodied and beaten, and Bojack lifts him up from the crater that he made. Like he promised, he's gonna make Kakarot's death slow. He holds Kakarot out in front of him, using him as a punching bag. Each punch hurts more than the last, and Kakarot could feel something within him, something boiling up. But Bojack's just about ready to finish it. He swings his arm behind him, preparing to throw Kakarot into the sky, then flinging him upwards. Kakarot is barely conscious, but he sees on the ground below. A bright light is coming towards him. Bojack launches a final attack, ready to take Kakarot out. But Kakarot's red aura grows fiercer and fiercer, and just as the attack's about to hit, an explosion occurs. It seems that Bojack's attack dissipates. At first he thinks it just exploded, and he smirks, thinking that he killed Kakarot. But when the blast dissipates, he sees that red aura again, that same one that Kakarot had. It's there, and it's bigger than before, growing fiercer and fiercer. He could feel the heat from it down here. And far away, Turles could see the same thing. He rushes back to the battle, wondering what this is. Slowly, Kakarot descends from the sky, looking a little different than before, and Bojack's confused. His hair, it's a lot longer, His aura is fiercer, he's bulked up considerably. But other than that, he looks kind of the same. Bojack chuckles. Is that a transformation? His hair grew longer, like what is that? And Kakarot doesn't even realize what happened. But this is his evil Saiyan form. From feasting on all those fruits from the Tree of Might, he unlocked this unwittingly, and this battle is what pushed him over the edge. And this is what him and Turles were looking for. They knew it was in there. They just needed something to unlock it, a catalyst for it. Bojack tries to attack Kakarot again, but his attack does nothing. Kakarot's actually able to block it, grabbing Bojack's fist and twisting it. He breaks Bojack's arm, and Bojack screams in pain. This power, it's unlike anything that he's seen before. How did Kakarot get this strong? Whatever, Bojack will kill him. He already beat him enough. Bojack jumps far back, then charging another attack. This will be his final one. This will kill Kakarot, and then he'll deal with that other person. He launches a full power blast towards Kakarot, and Turles watches from far away. He doesn't know what's going on, but he knows that Kakarot's not going to survive that. The blast is moving at insane speeds, with insane power, and Kakarot simply sticks a single hand out. Even with the immense speed of the blast, he stops it, and just the force of it hitting his hand alone creates a massive shockwave. And Kakarot looks down at it, holding the blast in his hand. Slowly the color of it morphs, changing into a reddish glow, like one of Kakarot's own attacks. And simply, he flings it right back towards Bojack, with more speed than before, with more power than before. Bojack can't even react in time and guard against it. It's a gruesome sight as it cuts right through him, destroying most of his body and leaving only a couple scraps behind. The blast careens off into space and then explodes. The entire sky turns red. As Turles then finally makes his way back to Kakarot, that ominous glow of his aura and the ominous glow in the sky, he only sees its silhouette of Kakarot, but it's terrifying and also thrilling at the same time. And just from sensing his power alone, he can see that Kakarot did it. He begins laughing. Finally, this is what they needed, and now he knows what he's aiming for. Kakarot's aura then dissipates as he falls to the ground unconscious, returning back to his normal self. He still did take a lot of damage after all, and after transforming and using all that power, he is pretty tapped out. But this is exactly what they needed. This battle got them what they wanted. And now their conquest in this new galaxy begins, as well as the rest of space. But Turles is a bit worried about something. As he takes Kakarot and they leave the planet together, he thinks to himself, is Kakarot getting too far ahead of him? I mean, he could trust Kakarot by now, but the words of Vegeta echo in his head. Can he really trust Kakarot? Hopefully he can. I mean, there's been some disagreement so far, but it's nothing too huge. But now with Kakarot actually being the stronger one, Turles can't pretend that he isn't even a little bit concerned. It should work out fine though. It's worked out so far, and Turles just needs to get stronger too. Before they leave, he plants another Tree of Might here, getting some fruit from that as well, growing a little bit stronger. Once he unlocks that form, he'll be ahead of Kakarot again. He's glad to have Kakarot as a partner, but also at the same time, he kinda does want to be the strongest. Not only for reassurance, but just out of pride as well. With the planet now scorched from the battle and scarred by the Tree of Might, Turles carries Kakarot back to their ship as they depart. Kakarot eventually does regain consciousness, vaguely remembering the battle, and he's elated beyond belief. That power, he needs to access that again. He needs to use it, hone it even further. This is the true power of the Tree of Might, all those fruits that they've eaten. And he tells Turles, he expects to see him with the same form too. This is what they were aiming for. And this reassures Turles at least. For now, he and Kakarot are still on good terms, even though Kakarot clearly knows he's the stronger one at the moment. But will that end up changing in the future? Well, at least for the moment, everything's okay. Let's hope it stays that way.
Kakarot enjoys this new power. He's number one here, not just above Turles, but everybody else for that matter. Of course, this isn't the end for him. He's gonna grow even stronger than this. This is only the beginning in his eyes. He enjoys this, and he's still working alongside Turles, not just going on their normal conquest, but trying to help him unlock this form as well. If Turles gets it, it'll only push Kakarot to grow even stronger, because he'll have a training partner that will be as strong as him, and it'll make him want to fight for that number one spot. But their conquest is slowing. They've grown so strong by now with all these fruits that they actually do need to train more. Getting the fruits is not as effective as it once was. And Turles is trying to think of a plan, some way for them to grow stronger and stronger. But he still isn't sure about Kakarot. Can he trust Kakarot with all this power? Well, it's pushing Turles as well, not just Kakarot. And after some more fruits and some training, Turles can feel that power overflowing. Unlike Kakarot, he doesn't need a catalyst here because there's just so much power that he can't contain it anymore. Finally, after all this time, he's able to power up, showcasing his own evil Saiyan form, looking very similar to Kakarot. Which makes sense because they kinda already look the same from the get-go. They are both low-class warriors after all. And now that Turles finally has this power, Kakarot asks him to do something that he's been waiting for. They need to have an all-out battle, just to test their abilities and grow stronger in the process. And Turles accepts this. Turles goes to one of the planets they destroyed,
since it'll be the perfect fighting ground. It's completely barren now except for the giant tree there. Not that they'd care about collateral damage anyways, but this is a big planet and it lets them have an open space for fighting. No one else is going to get in the way. The two assume a battle stance, and Kakarot chuckles, telling Turles he hopes he can use his full power right from the start. They're not going to pace themselves here. They're going all out right from the beginning. Kakarot screams, and his roar bellows through the entire planet. A fiery red aura surrounds him, and Turles follows suit. The two power up to their maximum and evil Saiyan. They stare each other down briefly, and then the battle begins. The rest of the Neo Crusher Corps are watching from space. This is also a good message to show them who the leaders are. They already know that Turles and Kakarot were very strong, but this only shows that they're even stronger than they thought. Instilling fear within them, but also giving them some entertainment at the same time. Although it's not too entertaining after a certain point because Turles and Kakarot are just moving so quickly that they can't even see it. Some soldiers even try using old scouters to see their power levels, but they just explode. They can't process how strong these two Saiyans are now. The planet is scorched as the two battle. Every time they clash, a shockwave of energy leaves a massive crater behind, sending debris flying into space. All that could be seen from space is flashes of red light, and that's every time the two Saiyans clash. Trails of light from where they traveled surround the entire planet, and very quickly, the planet is scarred even further by this battle. Even the tree that was left behind is completely scorched by this, combusting into basically a giant wildfire. Then explosions start occurring. The two start using Ki Blast. But there's an issue here. They're so powerful by now that if they keep fighting, this planet's gonna be destroyed and they're both gonna die. So at the last moment, they end up having to retreat, calling the battle off. But this battle did show them something pretty interesting. Kakarot's ahead, but only by a slight amount. Turles is catching up, and quick. The two are glad to have the battle. Both are a little bit beaten up too. It was fun to utilize their full power for once and gauge their strength, not just for themselves, but the other person that they're with. They each have an idea of how strong they are, and this gets Kakarot even more motivated. He begins working more on his own. He needs to keep that number 1 spot. He needs more strength. He needs to get this in any way possible. And Turles notices this too, but he's also kind of in the same boat. He sees how close he is to Kakarot, and knows that he could overthrow him once again. He starts doing the same, working more for himself, also trying to get stronger in whatever way he could think of. The two are growing less trusting of each other in their lust for power, and each of them thinks, maybe it's better to get rid of the other while they can. Kakarot was a means to an end for Turles at first, but Turles did grow to trust him, although that trust has diminished. Maybe Vegeta was right, maybe he shouldn't have taken Kakarot into his crew, and Kakarot thinks he might be better off on his own, but he knows that if he's not attached to Turles, Turles will probably hunt him down and kill him. Not to mention, he'd be leaving this entire army. He wants that influence as well, and he can sense that Turles is probably trying to move against him. It takes a while. Months and months pass, but the two begin noticing this more and more. They're becoming farther apart. It's not like they were friends in the first place, but they were comrades, and they were trusting of each other a little bit at least. But the two of them are corrupted by their strength, and this pursuit of more strength is only corrupting them even further. It was only a matter of time before this became apparent. The two only work for themselves, not for others. They never really were allies. I mean, remember how Turles met Kakarot in the first place? He wiped out the entire Ginyu force, and pushed Kakarot into his idea of trying to kill Vegeta and Nappa, as well as Raditz, who got away. Of course, Kakarot wasn't too fond of the Saiyans or the Ginyu Force, but that was a much more stable crew in his eyes. He could have stayed with it. He didn't really have a choice but to join Turles. Had he not, Turles probably would have killed him. Even though he did join on his own accord, he thinks back on it. Imagine a case where he weren't willing to join Turles. He would be dead by now. This falling out eventually leads to a power struggle, with each of them trying to take over the Neo Crusher Corps, and another battle ensues. Although this time, it's a battle to the death. It's not just an all-out battle that's a sparring match. This is a death match. The two of them are trying to kill each other. Turles tells Kakarot he shouldn't have gotten so greedy. They could have avoided this. They could have been a great crew. And Kakarot responds, what, did Turles want him to be a subordinate forever? Kakarot wasn't going to inhibit his growth just for Turles' gain. And he questions it. Why would Turles want him to be subordinate anyways? Does he not trust Kakarot? And Turles says he doesn't. He hasn't for a while. That trust has been diminishing. But Kakarot knows that this is deeper than that. Turles was jealous and fearful of Kakarot's power, and Kakarot mentions this. He knows that Turles wants it for himself. He wants to be the undisputed number 1 again. And Kakarot says that era is over. The two find another abandoned planet to fight on, and this time, they don't care if the planet's going to explode. Whoever dies, dies, even if it means both of them are going to die. They're each fighting for themselves and nobody else. This battle is even more violent and explosive than the last one. Not only have they grown stronger since then, but now of course they're trying to kill each other too, so there's that element added onto it. The two showcase their maximum strength, and Kakarot yells out at Turles. Why couldn't Turles let him grow stronger? Why did Turles want him to be a subordinate? And Turles says he's seen how Kakarot acted with others. Once Kakarot got the power, Turles didn't know what he was going to be capable of with it. Maybe he was going to take over the Crusher Corps. Maybe he was going to try to kill Turles. He didn't know. But unfortunately, this was a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it just shows that the distrust went deeper than they thought. They both distrusted each other from the get-go, and never even realized it. And each thought the other was going to make a move against them, but really, that wasn't going to happen. They each contributed to that, and neither of them realizes it. The two could have been a good crew, but now this falling out has to occur. It's too late and they're each in too deep. The two are bloodied and beaten. Kakarot disappears from Turles' sight, and he senses a flare-up of energy, looking up into the sky. Kakarot immediately moved up there, launching a Dodonpa towards Turles. Turles counters with his own blast, as Kakarot then launches a second Dodonpa, with both merging together and growing into one powerful beam. And Turles is shocked. It's the first time he's seen Kakarot use that move in a while. Not that it really matters, it's just another beam that he could fight. But he's been so used to using the moves that Turles had. The ground erupts below Turles, a giant storm from Kakarot. He's never seen this before. Kakarot follows up by randomly launching a ton of blasts. That's Vegeta's technique, and he's actually kind of overwhelming Turles. Turles counters with his own sudden storm, countering every ki blast from Kakarot, but Kakarot disappears once more, and now he's right in front of Turles. Kakarot lifts a single hand up in the air, charging purple electricity between them. Point blank, he launches a Shining Friday. Turles is barely able to counter in time, charging a Calamity Blaster to try and counter it. But he has a plan, a way to end this quickly. The two beams explode as they connect, and Turles jumps back. Quickly in his hands, he charges a Kill Driver, but instead of launching it at Kakarot, he lunges it right into the core of the planet itself, and then rushes towards his ship. The ground shakes, Kakarot loses balance, but he floats up, seeing what Turles did. What a coward! He blew up the planet. That's how he's gonna retreat. The two of them are bloodied and beaten, both on their last legs, out of energy. But this was the most decisive move for Turles. It's the only way to finish this. At the very least, it lets him escape, but at best, he might be able to kill Kakarot with it. By the time Kakarot realizes what's happening, Turles already made it to the other side of the planet, getting in his ship and departing. And now, Kakarot needs to get into his, but the planet's exploding at a quick rate. He barely has any energy left, even de-transforming and going into his base form. Turles is able to make it back to the Crusher Core, while Kakarot is left to die on this planet. Thankfully, he is able to get onto his ship, barely being able to escape, and he has to completely avoid the Crusher Core, because if he goes anywhere near them, they could simply shoot down his ship, leaving him to die in space. Turles is already safe, probably on the mothership. But Kakarot right now, he could be taken down by a single measly blast, one that just destroys his ship. He steers clear of them, drifting off into space as he loses consciousness. He wakes up in the middle of nowhere, and his ship tells him that he's far away from that planet that they were just at. So what's he supposed to do now? Turles is still at the Crusher Core, so he has them, and Kakarot is just abandoned. The thing is too, they might be able to track his ship. He disables any tracking that he could find on there. The ship that he's using is one that he's been using for a while, and wasn't actually made by the Crusher Core, so that's at least a start. It seems like he is undercover. In his ship he finds a scouter, looking around trying to find any planets nearby. Well, he could go to Earth. Going back there might work, but he doesn't really know if that'll be beneficial for him. It would be a good place to lay low, but Kakarot needs to act now. Even though he wants to lay low, he still needs to do something in the meantime. He needs to grow stronger. Earth? He wasn't growing strong there. He can't go back, at least not yet. I mean, maybe he could try and pursue those Dragon Balls, but he's not sure what's happened on Earth since. Maybe it's completely in disarray. But that reminds him, the Dragon Balls. Maybe they exist somewhere else too. Earth is a little out of the ways right now, so even then it might not be feasible. And that's if the Dragon Balls are active. Maybe they were used recently, or maybe something happened to them. He doesn't want to take that risk. He needs to know for sure that he can get them. So instead, he decides to track down someone who he knows he could probably work with. His scouter still has the contact on there, and he doesn't think it's going to work, but he tries it. He starts a call with Raditz. This is the one person he might be able to connect with again, and maybe he can make things right. Just as I mentioned before, Kakarot didn't really have a choice with Turles. Yeah, he did willingly go with him, and he did like it, but there was no other option. If he decided he didn't want to go with Turles, that would have been the end of the story. Kakarot would have died right then and there. And it's a long shot, but he hopes this works. And surprisingly, Raditz does pick up, still having his scouter. He's both surprised and angered to hear from Kakarot, and Kakarot explains what happened. He knows how betrayal feels, and while he wants to be number one, he's not used to working alone. But Raditz says he can't trust Kakarot. He betrayed the Saiyans, but Kakarot explains everything too. And he mentions, there's a reason he didn't try and go after Raditz, only Vegeta and Nappa. And Raditz considers this for a moment. He never thought of it that way. He knew that he was spared, whether that be accidentally or purposefully, and it seems it was purposeful. Turles and Kakarot could have killed Raditz much easier than they killed Vegeta and Nappa. And actually, getting rid of Vegeta and Nappa was good for Raditz. He's off on his own now, not being mocked and ridiculed by them. But he's in a similar situation to the one Kakarot was in when he first met Turles. He doesn't have a choice here. If he says no to Kakarot, who knows? What if Kakarot will track him down and probably kill him? He's not going to be able to defend himself against Kakarot. So he either says no and risks that, or he says yes and joins up with Kakarot. And even then, that's risky. Kakarot wants to team up with him, find someone to help him defeat Turles, and Kakarot can show him new powers that he's never had before. The two don't bond that well, but they have something that everyone else doesn't. They're related by blood. That still holds them together, the two low-class warriors and their brothers. Not that Saiyans hold their family very highly or anything, but that at least ties them together more than Kakarot was with Turles, or with Vegeta and Nappa for that matter. They're both low-class Saiyans that were used as a means to an end, and Raditz reluctantly accepts working with Kakarot after some explaining and some discussing. Turles is a common enemy after all. Even though Raditz doesn't like working with Kakarot, maybe he could learn to like it. He's actually with another crew now though, and that's the issue. And Kakarot's surprised. What crew's he with? They killed the Hera clan, and Kakarot remembers a similar group called the Heaters or something, but they're very weak and never got in the way of the Crusher Corps. There's also some rumor floating around that Frieza has an estranged brother, but Raditz says it's not him either. And that at least puts Kakarot's mind at ease because he doesn't know if that rumor's true or not. Alright, so what faction is he with then? And Raditz asks Kakarot, has he ever heard of the Namekians? Of course he has. But what does that have to do with anything? Is he on planet Namek or something? Well, not quite. He's working with a Namekian. Actually, someone who considers himself a super Namekian, trying to seek more power. It's a guy by the name of Lord Slug. Kakarot's never heard of him before, but whatever, if he's strong, maybe their crews can work together. And that's the thing. Raditz says Kakarot probably isn't stronger than Lord Slug. And Kakarot laughs at this notion. He begs to differ. There's no way a Namekian could be that strong. And he can tell just by the way Raditz is explaining everything, this isn't an ideal setup for him. He doesn't want to work under Lord Slug. This invite to Kakarot, it's a way for them to rise up against this crew. Raditz only joined basically to have a steady job and a way to survive. And it's weird to think that a Namekian is that strong that he keeps a Saiyan oppressed like that. Does it mean Raditz is just really weak, or is Lord Slug actually very strong? Because Raditz definitely has grown stronger since then. There's no way he hasn't. At least in Kakarot's mind he thinks so. But they're gonna see for themselves. Kakarot flies over to where Raditz is, meeting up with his brother again after a while. And it's a really weird reunion. And just to make sure there's no suspicion, Raditz does need to introduce him to Lord Slug. Although, Lord Slug's not here at the moment. He doesn't exactly know where Slug went, but apparently it's something important. So they get in contact with Lord Slug, and he sees Kakarot on video. Another Saiyan, Raditz's brother. That could be a very good addition to his crew. He assumes he's probably around the same strength as Raditz, so he accepts it. He doesn't see Kakarot as a threat, and if anything, that'll help Raditz be much more efficient. He's already a fine soldier in his crew. But any improvements are welcome, and Slug gets off the call very quickly. It was a very brief meeting, and Kakarot doesn't really know why. Raditz is a little confused too. He doesn't know what Slug is up to, but it's probably something that they're not going to benefit from. Especially with him being so unfazed by Kakarot joining the crew, maybe it's something they have to be concerned about. Where is he? And Raditz tells Kakarot this. Now that they're in person, they could discuss. And it's just like Kakarot thought. They could overthrow Lord Slug together. And not only that, they'll grow strong enough to overthrow Turles, finally killing him for good. But Raditz is still unsure. He tells Kakarot he's grown much stronger since their last encounter. He's working to become a Super Saiyan. His power has increased dramatically, but he still doesn't have this form yet, if it even is a form or whatever. And that's very interesting to Kakarot. He tells Raditz he's discovered something interesting. It definitely isn't Super Saiyan. It's something else. Some sort of weird mutation they got from eating fruits from the Tree of Might. And that's actually good news because he does have some seeds left from the Tree of Might. He powers up, showing off Evil Saiyan to Raditz. And Raditz's jaw drops. At the same time, Turles is out there, plotting his next move. Maybe they need to move on from planets. What if there was a way to plant the Tree of Might on stars or something? It's outlandish, but it could be possible. Anything is with him. He doesn't know what Kakarot's up to, but he knows it's probably not good. And he'll get ahead of that any way possible. He'll absorb the power of stars for himself now, moving up, maybe even galaxies next, maybe the universe. It's limitless, and Turles is hyped up. Raditz is amazed by the power of Evil Saiyan. He can't believe what he's seeing, the strength that his brother has. Raditz thought his strength was impressive, but no, it pales in comparison to this. And Kakarot's confused. Raditz isn't strong as him, but his full power was still pretty impressive. And Raditz says no, that wasn't his full power. He has a form beyond his base form, but it's still nothing compared to whatever Kakarot has. Wait, he has a new form? And Raditz mentions, remember how he told Kakarot he was trying to pursue Super Saiyan? Yeah, of course, but he doesn't actually have that yet, does he? Raditz wanted to keep this a secret. He didn't want Slug to know about this, and he didn't know if he wanted Kakarot to know about it either. But it's kind of pointless now because Kakarot's stronger than him regardless. A pillar of golden ki surrounds him as he powers up. Raditz shouts, and a flash of light appears. Raditz stands there, looking not too much different from before, except now his hair is golden and flowing, and his eyes are bluish green. This is what he believes to be the Super Saiyan form, and Kakarot's amazed. It's pretty strong. Of course, not as strong as this form, but Raditz is a Super Saiyan? That legend that they heard about for so long? Raditz mentioned he worked towards this form for a while, and he's glad that he finally has it. He wasn't sure if it would be enough to overthrow Slug, but now seeing Kakarot's power, he thinks that it should be enough. But he kind of wants that power as well. He doesn't know if he'll be able to obtain it, but he does want it. And more importantly, he sees Kakarot spared him for a reason. He could have killed Raditz so easily. Hell, even right now he could have killed him. And seeing this immense power in Kakarot got Raditz to realize Kakarot has no malicious intent towards Raditz. He was kind of hesitant before to meet his brother. And as morbid as it sounds, he feels comfortable now knowing that Kakarot could have killed him so easily but decided not to. And the fact that he's alive now shows that he probably can trust Kakarot. If there were malicious intent here, he'd be dead, even in Super Saiyan. And even though Raditz is interested in Kakarot's form, Kakarot also wants to learn that form. Super Saiyan? It's pretty potent. Of course, it's weaker than what he has now, but imagine if someone with the evil Saiyan form like him had the power of a Super Saiyan buffed by the power of the fruits of the Tree of Might. It could be interesting. It could even be far stronger than what he has now. But it's all theoretical. And Kakarot has an idea. Why not try to intercept Lord Slug, wherever he is? They can't track his ship, but maybe Kakarot could try to hone in on his energy. And he tries. It takes a lot of focus, especially because Lord Slug isn't at his full power right just yet. And vaguely, very vaguely, he senses him far away, not knowing the direction in which he's heading. So, what's Lord Slug actually up to? He's on his own right now. He's in the pursuit of the Dragon Balls, but there's a little bit of an issue. He already found a set of Dragon Balls on another planet a while ago, wishing for eternal youth. It was one of the many planets that had a Namekian refugee that made Dragon Balls. Although, he ended up having to destroy that planet, and he couldn't use that set of Dragon Balls again. For one, he could go to Namek, but he doesn't think that would be a good idea. He's strong. He knows he's strong, and he probably could beat all of the Namekians. But it's a probably. It's not a definite. Getting overconfident can mean the death of him here. And even though Namek is passive, he knows there are plenty of strong warriors there. I mean, look at himself. Namekians can grow powerful, so he's not going to mess with that planet. There's also another planet called Earth, but as far as Lord Slug knows, there might even be strong people there too. He needs to go to a planet where maybe there's a Namekian there, but there's definitely no other people there too. He knows that Namekians long ago spread amongst a bunch of planets, for example, Earth, and he knows that there's maybe some Namekians on planets that don't have too many other inhabitants either, which is what he's been researching. He's trying to figure out where there may be others, and he did that by trying to find planets that have Dragon Balls on them. He found one planet that had energy that seemed to be that of the Dragon Balls. And this planet doesn't seem too strong, as far as he knows. Apparently long ago its inhabitants were wiped out, and replaced with a more passive population. He's headed to a planet called Planet Cereal. He has basically his own version of a Dragon Ball radar, which is how he found this planet. And it seems like there's only 2 Dragon Balls here too. It makes the job a lot easier. He'll go there, get the 2 Dragon Balls, and immediately make his wish. And he could work very quickly. He won't even need to kill anyone here. I mean, that can come later. But they pose no threat to him, and he has no need to make his presence known just now. He can go in and do this covertly. It's very strange though, because he expected 7 Dragon Balls, but whatever. Back where Kakarot and Raditz are, they decide to try and chase down Lord Slug. They have no clue of what he's up to because he wouldn't even tell them. And they realize it's probably something that's going to work against them. Hence why Slug wasn't even worried about Kakarot joining Raditz. And Raditz wonders, could he be going after the Dragon Balls? It's something that he mentioned before, and Kakarot actually does know about them too. They were on Earth as well. So he's heading to Earth, isn't he? But from what he could tell, Slug isn't heading in that direction. What he senses is not anywhere near Earth. But as he's focusing and trying to sense Lord Slug's power, he also notices something else out in space. A very familiar power, Turles, growing stronger than ever before. That's another threat that he has to worry about, but that can wait for later. Right now, he needs to defeat Slug and prevent him from becoming a threat. And who knows, Lord Slug might lead them to another set of Dragon Balls, which could work in their favor. Kakarot has no idea of what Turles is up to, but he's not going to make himself worried about it. First they'll defeat Slug, and then they'll focus on strength. Raditz comments on this too. He really needs to learn to sense ki like that. The fact that Kakarot can sense power levels that far away is amazing, but also concerning because he must have done something to really piss off Turles if he's that strong that it can be sensed over here. Either way though, they go out and try to find Lord Slug. Slug lands on planet Cereal, and just like he thought, there's not too many strong people here. Actually, it doesn't seem like there's any at all. He saw one spaceship nearby, but he was able to remain undercover. One that seemed to have 4 pretty high-level signatures on it. A little bit concerning, but as long as he works quickly, he'll be fine. He finds the first Dragon Ball very easily. His ship lands right near it, which is how he planned it. He then starts sprinting, going to where he could find the second Dragon Ball. He can make it across the planet pretty quickly. He could use his ship too, but he's worried about being noticed. This way, he could do it covert, and he won't be noticed by those other powers out in space. But as he sprints through the mountains to the Dragon Ball, something grazes his shoulder, and he stops in his tracks. It's a ki blast. He looks over into the forest. On a mountain nearby, in the trees, he sees rapid flashes of light. He's being attacked by someone. But who? And how are they powerful enough to actually hurt him? Not that this hurts, but Still, it left a flesh wound. Instead of fighting, he keeps going towards the Dragon Ball, and he's able to make it there, and as quick as he can, he tries to summon the dragon. It takes a few tries because he's not too sure what he's supposed to say to get the dragon to come out, and he runs through a few different phrases, but eventually it works, and he senses the power getting closer and closer to him. As quickly as he can, he tries to make his wish, but there's pressure on him. He doesn't know what wish to make, and he has to think quickly. He could grow stronger or become immortal. Those were the two he had in mind. But immortality won't help him in this fight. It just means he can't die here. The power draws closer and closer to Slug as Taranbo then disappears. A man stands there, confronting Slug. He points at him, aiming his finger like a gun, but as he aims, his expression then turns to one of shock. He sees this guy, whoever he is. He got the Dragon Balls, and he's a Namekian, and on top of that, he's grown stronger. And Slug's intrigued. This guy seems strong. He doesn't seem like the population here. Who is he? Both are equally bewildered, and they learn of each other's identities. Lord Slug, Granola, and suddenly, a ship descends from above. It's that one that Slug sensed before. Those 4 powers seem pretty strong, but he's not too worried now, and with a single blast, he completely decimates the ship. That was the Heaters, and Granola watches on in disbelief. With one shot, he killed all 4 of them. This guy's strong, really strong. Granola lunges into attack, but Slug is able to defend against it pretty easily. Wow, this power of his, it's amazing. The dragon really did wonders, unlocking his full potential. Wait, that's what he wished for? And he tells Granola, there's no way he's going to be defeated now. He could have gone the immortality route, but with this wish, he's so much stronger than anybody else. But this isn't his full power. There's something else dormant, something within him that he hasn't even tried to use yet. But he fights Granola in his base form, completely overpowering the Cerealian, enjoying it even. He could end this battle quickly, but decides he does want to test out his powers first. He tells Granola, he could have lived if he didn't try to attack Lord Slug. How disrespectful of him. And now, Lord Slug's gonna deal out some punishment. His back begins glowing. A symbol appears on it. The ground erupts below him, and Slug grows considerably in size, bulking up and being surrounded by a fierce orange aura. Granola doesn't even try to attack. He just slowly steps back, paralyzed with fear. Oatmeal comments on this too. The height that his power is ascending to, it's astonishing. Granola watches on with desperation as all of Lord Slug's vital points disappear from his vision. There's nothing he could attack. He doesn't know how to actually fight this guy. Lord Slug swipes his hand, cutting through the aura in front of him, and the flames dissipate. Standing there is Lord Slug, bulked up, not looking too much different than before. Unlike someone like Piccolo, this form doesn't change his face too much because it already kind of looked like that. Not that Granola has any frame of reference. The biggest change that he sees is that he's now orange. Lord Slug has just transformed? This is Orange Slug. He launches towards Granola. Granola can't move out of the way in time. But something stops Slug. He stops himself. Before he lands a punch on Granola, he looks up. He can sense 2 people coming nearby. Great. And then he realizes who it is. It's Raditz and that new Saiyan that just joined their crew apparently. Another ship lands. Granola's incredibly frustrated. All these invaders on this planet. And he doesn't even know who these guys are, until he sees them step off the ship, realizing they're Saiyans. This is the worst possible outcome that Granola could experience. Granola's angered to see them, but they don't know why he's so angered. Not that they concern themselves with Granola. He tries to attack them, but Raditz simply goes Super Saiyan, countering Granola's attacks as Kakarot steps up to Lord Slug. Slug knew Raditz would betray him. What a weakling. He knew that when he was making this move, that Raditz would try to do something to ensure his safety too. And this makes Kakarot realize something. It clicks with him finally. Something so similar between him and Raditz. Raditz is in another similar scenario. Just like how Kakarot and Turles were struggling trying to get stronger than the other, Slug was now trying to keep his spot as number 1, and Raditz was trying to contest that. Raditz tried to hide the fact that he had Super Saiyan, but Slug actually knew, and that's why he sought out the Dragon Balls. He wanted insurance. He wanted to make sure that no one would usurp power from him. It's just like what happened with Turles and Kakarot. Kakarot has no frame of reference for this guy's power, besides what he sensed before. But he can tell he's definitely much stronger than he should be, and Slug's not worried. Even if he has to fight 2 Saiyans and the Cerealian, whatever. His power's more than enough. Even if Raditz is a Super Saiyan, even if his brothers are Super Saiyan. But Kakarot kinda laughs at this. He's not a Super Saiyan. He's something completely different. A familiar red aura encapsulates him as he transforms into Evil Saiyan. Raditz continues blocking Granola's attacks, trying to get him to join them, and Granola says he doesn't need their help. But Raditz says they're not here to help. They're not here out of some goodwill or whatever. They're here to just kill Slug. And if this guy wants to stay alive as well as keeping his planet intact, it would be smart to join the Saiyan duo. And as much as Granola hates it, this guy's right. These Saiyans seem to pose no threat, otherwise Raditz would have killed him already. He has to put his pride aside and fight alongside them. But he can't do much. His power's not enough to fight against Slug. But Oatmeal interjects. There is one thing that they could try. With the power of the Saiyans, plus Granola and Oatmeal's assistance in finding vital points, maybe they can make this fight a lot quicker. Kakarot and Slug clash. And Raditz says whatever he has to help, well, do it. Raditz then flies in, jumping into the battle. Thankfully, he already does have experience fighting with Kakarot, even though it was from a while ago. So he needs to kind of relearn it, as well as Kakarot relearning to sync up with his brother, but it doesn't take too long for them to get the hang of things. And Slug's dumbfounded. They're matching him in power, the two of them together. Even with this new form, this power granted to him by Taranbo, it's not enough. Granola fires a laser with deadly precision, hitting Slug in a vital point that he can now see. It does no damage, but it marks the spot for Raditz and Kakarot to do damage. And Raditz tells Kakarot to strike there, which he does. Slug feels the pain from it, swinging at Kakarot with a powerful punch that drives him into the ground. He then swipes an arm over at Raditz, knocking him far away. First he'll kill Kakarot, he's the real issue. But then another laser hits him. It does no damage, he doesn't even notice it, but Kakarot does. He kicks a leg up right into Slug's stomach, knocking the point that Granola marked for him. This is actually working. Slug interlocks his hands, lifting them up into the air, slamming them down to the ground, trying to hit Kakarot. Kakarot grabs them, trying to push his arms back upwards. But Slug is powerful, and he begins growing in size. Not just bulking up in terms of muscle, but growing actually in size, growing taller, larger. He's becoming too heavy now, putting more force downwards on Kakarot. But with him becoming larger, he becomes a larger target, and his vital points, they're easier to mark. Granola then fires a flurry of blasts. They're not doing anything to Slug, and Slug wonders why he's even bothering to attack. But after all his vital points are marked by Granola, Kakarot's able to hit them with deadly precision, and Raditz flies back in, doing the same. And then, Slug realizes what's happening. That's Cerulean. He must have an ability to locate weak points or whatever. He remembers hearing about the Ceruleans in his research, and he knew they were wiped out so long ago, but there must have been this guy left still. He didn't even realize. Granola's one of them, so he's gonna need to kill that guy first. He turns his attention over to Granola, opening his mouth and charging a beam. Granola then fires at his chin, which does nothing. It's not even a vital point, but it signals to Kakarot and Raditz, attack here. Together, the two brothers deliver an uppercut. The beam explodes in Slug's mouth, and rapidly, Granola begins marking more vital points. And as quickly as they can, Raditz and Kakarot attack them. Each brother draws a hand upwards, with purple electricity forming in their hands. They lunge their hand forward, each launching a Shining Friday together. It's aimed right at Lord Slug's head. Another vital point marked by Granola. And this attack hits with deadly precision, penetrating right through as a clean headshot. Slug falls down to the ground, shrinking, turning back to his normal green color as he slumps over, now dead. Kakarot and Raditz power down, exhausted. And Granola's kind of at ease now. That threat's gone, and the heaters are gone. He's not fond that the Saiyans are here, but he's glad they helped against whatever this threat was. Maybe they're strong enough to defeat Frieza too. Oh, that's kind of funny. Kakarot says he actually did that, as well as some other Saiyans. Wait, what? He killed Frieza and other Saiyans? Yeah, and that happened kind of a while ago too. They say Granola has some cool powers, but now they're gonna leave. Again, they're not here trying to help, they just want to get rid of Slug. And Granola's just left speechless. These two definitely aren't standard Saiyans, at least the ones that he's heard of. They're not good guys, but they seem to have no knowledge of what the Saiyans did to the Ceruleans. As Kakarot and Raditz go on their ship, Granola then remembers something, running up to the two of them. Kakarot killed Frieza, but did he kill the rest of Frieza's family too? Yeah, King Cold's dead. Okay, that kind of puts Granola's mind at ease. But what about his brother? His brother? What? They've heard rumors of it, but they say it's just a rumor, right? Frieza doesn't actually have a brother, does he? Granola heard it straight from the heaters. He does. And he seems to be stronger than Frieza too, but he keeps to himself, which is why he's never really shown around here. Kakarot and Raditz look at each other. Looks like they're gonna have a fun little detour before fighting Turles. They gotta tie up all loose ends after all. They look back at Granola, nodding while smiling. This'll be fun. Their ship door closes as their ship departs, and Granola watches the two of them fly out into space, not knowing what to think of the two of them, but hey, even though they're definitely not good guys, at least Cooler and the Saiyans will probably try to kill each other. Let's go over to Earth first. The Red Ribbon Army's team of scientists notice something strange. A solar system very far away. It goes dark. It's like the star just mysteriously disappeared. As the army's been growing stronger and stronger, their tech has been advancing too, allowing them to study things like this. They are aware of aliens after all too, and want to figure out what's going on there. But how is this possible? A star just disappears? News makes way around Earth. The Crane School hears of it of course too. Tenshinhan now leads the Crane School, and it's under much better guidance. He's grown distasteful to the Red Ribbon Army, but they coexist. Although, Ten's worried about something else now too. Yeah, the Red Ribbon Army's there, but his main concern is Kakarot. He still doesn't know what happened there. Where did he go? What's he doing right now? And does it have something to do with the star just somehow disappearing? I mean, people wonder why he's worried over it. Who knows, it could be a black hole or something. But Ten doesn't think so. He knows Kakarot's out there in space, and he knows Kakarot could probably grow very powerful. Did he just blow up a star or something? Well, Ten's right. Kakarot kinda does have something to do with it, but also, at the same time, not really. The Neo Crusher Core is growing stronger and stronger, gathering all the resources it can, and using great research from the scientists that were already part of it, as well as new scientists that have been recruited. They've all been working on one project, and Turles is finally able to do what he wanted. He could harness the energy from stars, growing the Tree of Might on them instead of just regular planets. This is the next step that he needs, a way for him to increase his power even further. Who cares about getting Trees of Mights on planets? That's so outdated now. He wants to do this, and use it to pursue a new evil Saiyan form. The second he eats one of the fruits from one of these stars, he realizes the great increase in power that he has. It's tough to control at first, and it actually hurts to use this form, just because there's so much power overflowing from him, but he'll gain control of it and eat more of these fruits. He doesn't even know what this form really is yet, but he has a name for it, an Infernal Saiyan. An evil Saiyan with the power of stars instead of fruits made from planets, with a literal inferno burning inside of him. But he still needs to control his power, and we'll see that later on. Let's go back to Kakarot and see what he and Raditz are up to. After leaving Planet Cereal, they're trying to plan their next move. They need to search for Cooler. Where could he be? How could he be undercover for so long? Raditz wonders if it's really a good idea to seek him out. There's no reason to poke Cooler with a stick, just let sleeping dogs lie. If he exists out there, so what? He hasn't interfered with them yet. But at the same time, Kakarot is concerned. What if he will soon? If Cooler's anything like Frieza, even half as bad as him, they need to get rid of him. They can't let him be out there. He's gonna be a wild card. For all they know, he already knows about Frieza's death and is preparing to attack them. Or maybe he doesn't care about Frieza's death. They don't know for sure because they know nothing about the guy. Kakarot said he and Turles always thought he was a rumor, and Raditz says that his Saiyan crew thought the same. Vegeta and Nappa would mention him in passing, but it didn't seem like they even knew anything about him either. Lord Slug even shared the same opinion, but Raditz does remember. Vegeta seemed pretty adamant that Cooler existed. The stories they've all heard are very conflicting. Maybe Cooler did exist and just died somehow, or maybe he does exist and is still out there. But where can they search? Well, they don't really have to go far. They go back to the same planet where Slug's base of operations was. Raditz and Kakarot now own this planet alone. This is where they'll live. It's nice to have a permanent home, for a lack of a better word. This is going to be where they stay from now on. An entire planet dedicated to them, with all the resources they need. Healing, training facilities, supplies, everything. They can use some of the resources they have here, maybe some research that Lord Slug had, or any type of recon devices. Hell, they could even seek out the Dragon Ball somewhere else and try to use them to find Cooler. But they're going to stick with these methods first. Sure enough though, Cooler is out there, and he hears of all this. He hears of Saiyans running about. He's been hearing stories of this for so long. The Crusher Corps, Vegeta and his crew, Kakarot, whoever that is. All these names are being thrown around, and he has no idea of what they're up to. He gets intel later on that the Frieza Force has been dissolved. It's only a matter of time before this happened, honestly. He knew this would occur. His brother was too short-sighted and too weak in comparison to him. And honestly, Cooler thinks maybe he could take over that crew. They're a bunch of weaklings. Especially now that he gets word that a Saiyan's running it? Interesting. It must be a Super Saiyan. He doesn't care about that actual crew, but rather, the person running it. He doesn't have much information either. From what he hears, there's two Saiyans out there, Kakarot and Turles, or something like that. One of them is apparently running this crew. And with so many Saiyans out there, especially the potential for them being Super Saiyans, he might need to train, and he might need to attack as well. Months pass. Kakarot and Raditz continue their research, while Raditz also pursues Evil Saiyan. Although, it's tough. They do need to be low-key about this. There's not too many planets near them to plant trees, but they will plant some. Thankfully, Kakarot does have some seeds left over for that. And they're able to get Raditz some fruits. But if their power gets too strong, they'll definitely be noticed by the Crusher Corps. They'll have to find ways to mask their power somehow, or at least keep it in check. Kakarot also does work for Super Saiyan. It could be unique. Eventually he does get it, and like he thought, it's weaker than Evil Saiyan, but whatever. It's probably going to be good to have. Who knows, maybe he could do something pretty interesting with his form, as well as Evil Saiyan. But for the time being, he's not really going to focus on that. But their fears are realized. Even though they're trying to keep their power under check, one day somebody does find them. And it's not the Crusher Corps. They see a spaceship nearby. It kind of looks like one that the Frieza Force would use. Or, I guess, the Neo Crusher Corps now, since it's them. Kakarot's about to shoot it down, but Raditz tells him to wait. If a ship randomly disappears, they'll definitely know that someone's here. Maybe they're still undercover. And that ship actually does head towards the planet. And they could sense some decently strong powers on it. That's weird. They don't know any of the Neo Crusher Corps soldiers that are that strong. In comparison to them, these soldiers are nothing, but still. There's some pretty strong powers and one that's particularly noticeable. 3 warriors step off the ship, striking a pose, introducing themselves as Cooler's armored squadron. Wait, Cooler? So this isn't Turles' crew, and this confirms that Cooler does exist. He's found them. They ask where Cooler is, and the squadron says they don't need to know that. The squadron will deal with these two Saiyans. The brothers look at each other and burst out into laughter. They each stick out a finger, launching a flurry of lasers at the feet of the armored squadron. They ask again, where's Cooler? And they sense another power on that ship. Oh, they know where he is. Slowly, someone else steps off. With a casual swipe of his arm, Raditz wipes out the armored squadron, leaving a trail of flames where they once were, and through those flames, someone steps out. A silhouette looking eerily similar to Frieza, and they see two beams of light pierce through the fire. A laser is launched at each of them. The flames dissipate as Cooler steps through, with his eyes glowing. He's not too surprised that they wiped out his armored squadron that easily, but it did surprise him to see that they survived his attack, and were able to casually knock it away. Cooler says it looks like he took a little detour, or had some wrong information. He was looking for the Neo Crusher Core. Apparently it's being run by two Saiyans. And Kakarot says Cooler's information is way outdated. Interesting. It seems those monkeys had a falling out. But who are these two? Saiyan brothers who are apparently part of Frieza's crew? Well, even if he had to take this detour, it doesn't matter. He'll kill these two and then go out to the Neo Crusher Core, killing Turles. He must be the real strong Saiyan out here. Cooler only came to these two because he sensed their power, which is still pretty high for a Saiyan, but not high enough to concern him. Raditz smirks. Cooler feared the power of a Super Saiyan, didn't he? And Cooler perks up when hearing this. Not scared, he's just intrigued to hear this. So a Super Saiyan is real. Raditz sticks a fist out in front of him and charges ki as he powers up, transforming into a Super Saiyan. For a brief moment, Cooler is intrigued by the power, but as he senses it further, he then smiles. A Super Saiyan. It's definitely powerful, but not as powerful as he expected, especially compared to him. He sticks out a hand and beckons Raditz towards him. How about a nice fight between the two of them? As Raditz launches in, he showcases even more power, and Cooler's taken aback. That wasn't his full strength. At first, Raditz is able to get some good hits in. Cooler's base form isn't nearly enough to fight a Super Saiyan. He underestimated the power of Raditz. And Kakarot watches on, pretty calmly. This seems like it's Cooler's final form. I mean, it looks like what Frieza had. And if this is the extent of his power, Raditz will definitely be able to handle him. But something changes mid-battle. An ominous ki starts surrounding Cooler. Raditz delivers a punch, but Cooler sticks an arm out, blocking it without any effort. As his arm bulks up, with his other arms then following suit, Cooler laughs, his eyes turn a piercing red color, and his body starts morphing. He sees what's happening now. They thought that was his final form, not even close. He screams as he powers up, looking at the two Saiyans and telling them,
"You should feel honored. You're the first, and soon to be the last, to witness my ultimate transformation."
A mask then covers his face as Cooler shows off his true final form. Raditz punches Cooler again, hitting him right in the chest. But Cooler looks down at the fist and is just completely unfazed.
"Well then, ready to kneel?"
He grabs Raditz's arm, swinging him around midair. He flings Raditz away, about to collide with Kakarot, but Raditz stops himself midair. And Kakarot sees he's probably going to have to jump in too. He powers up, going into Super Saiyan. Two Super Saiyans. How amusing. The two fight Cooler together, and he's surprisingly powerful, being able to fend off two Super Saiyans at once, especially with Kakarot being so much stronger than Raditz, even in Super Saiyan alone. They wonder how Cooler is this strong and remained undercover for so long. He's much stronger than Frieza ever was, and Cooler says they shouldn't compare him to Frieza. He's much more different than his brother. He laughs. They thought they could defeat him because they defeated Frieza before, and Kakarot tells him that's true. It was him and Turles that did so. That makes Cooler laugh even more. Raditz wasn't even involved in that. Why would he think he's strong enough to defeat Cooler then? He doesn't know the full details of the fight or whatever, but he doesn't care. The point is, a Super Saiyan isn't strong enough to face him. But Kakarot says he's not using his full power either. Cooler truly seems dangerous, so there's no point messing with him anymore. Cooler points a finger at both Raditz and Kakarot, launching a death beam from each. A fiery aura surrounds Kakarot. He lunges forward. The death beam coming in his direction is then slapped away, hitting the other death beam. They explode midair before they could hit Raditz. And Cooler perks up once more. What's this? His aura's changed. Is this another evolution of Super Saiyan? Well, not completely. Kakarot fully powers up, showing off Evil Saiyan. He and Turles never even really came up with a name for this form. But he tells Cooler this is his true full power, and the two start exchanging blows, pretty equally actually. But as the fight continues, Kakarot begins getting the upper hand, and Kakarot tells Cooler he's impressed. His brother wouldn't have been able to fight a single Super Saiyan, let alone two at once, but this power of his, Super Saiyan pales in comparison to it, and he starts landing some good hits on Cooler, damaging him. But Kakarot asks mid-battle, how is he so much stronger than Frieza, and why did he never utilize that power? Cooler says he can never associate with his brother, or King Cold for that matter, and as they could see, that clearly benefited him. Cooler's been out, enjoying life, still being able to conquer whatever he wants, and being stronger than his brother. And even without that final form, they noted that he's stronger than Frieza. And Cooler says the gap in power wasn't always that big. He reveals something interesting. Unlike his brother, he actually trained a lot. His brother was some sort of mutant. He never trained a day in his life, but if he did, he would have grown exponentially powerful. And as for Cooler, he has some great potential too. Not to the extent of his brother, but good enough. And ever since he heard about the Saiyans, he's been training. For a few years now, actually. Oh, so that kind of explains his power. But for him to be this strong just by training on his own? Something doesn't add up here. Why is he only attacking now? And Cooler's confused by this question. What, do they think he's an idiot? Why would he attack early on? Yeah, he might have been able to win then, but this way, he assures victory. Wait, what does he mean by that? He's losing right now. Even though he's fully transformed, Kakarot still has a clear upper hand. There's no way that Cooler can win here. And Cooler sees what Kakarot's saying now. Oh, that's why he's confused. He thinks Cooler's at his full power. Wait, this isn't his full power? But he said he had a form beyond Frieza's. Kakarot continues attacking, even bringing Cooler to his knees. Cooler's on the ground, seemingly beaten, but he looks up at Kakarot as Kakarot charges a beam in his face. He stares down Kakarot as he rises upwards, grabbing Kakarot's hand and trying to crush it. Cooler lifts his other arm up. It seems he miscommunicated with them. This is a form beyond his brother's, but it's not the last form he has beyond that. His training has been quite fruitful. He lifts up 2 fingers on his other hand. 2 forms. He has 2 more forms than his brother. This was only one of them. Kakarot jerks his hand back. He starts to feel being crushed by Cooler but is able to escape his grip in time. Lightning starts striking everywhere around them. And Kakarot realizes it's now or never. He looks at Raditz. Attack. Use all of his power. Do whatever he can. Raditz starts launching a flurry of ki blasts, while Kakarot also charges his own attacks. Smoke is thrown up all around them, with an ominous glow surrounding Cooler. He seems completely unfazed by their attacks. All they can see is his eyes piercing through, as lightning continues striking around them. All the smoke around Cooler completely dissipates, being flung away by his powerful aura. And all the attacks from the Saiyan brothers, it doesn't even seem like they're hurting him anymore. Actually, it doesn't even seem like they're hitting him at all. The sky turns dark, and all they see is Cooler's silhouette, with his eyes shifting from a reddish color to a bluish color, piercing through the darkness. The eyes disappear, but they see it for a brief moment, illuminated by his aura. They're stunned with fear. Where did he go? But behind them, they hear a menacing voice, and they turn around, still stunned.
I'm not short-sighted like my brother. I will be sure to exterminate every last one of you!
In a rare moment, Kakarot's concerned, fearful actually. Cooler tells them. He decided on a color that he felt would be pretty intimidating. The color of this form. It's quite fitting. It's the absence of light, like the void of space. Briefly illuminated by the fierce lightning storms, they get a glimpse of Cooler's new form, as Cooler introduces it to them. This is Black Cooler. Kakarot and Raditz look around them, dumbfounded. They can't find Cooler. They can sense him, but they can't see him. Everything has gone dark. It's like him transforming. It absorbed all the light from around them. They can only see brief flashes of him, illuminated by lightning storms generated by him powering up. And there's one other telltale sign, his eyes, glowing in the darkness. His aura, it's completely different too. It's not a light aura illuminating things. It's like a black hole. It absorbs light, negating it. And even through the darkness, Cooler could see the looks of terror on their face, briefly seeing them illuminated as well. Just the effect he was going for. And he explains, his brother never took their gift of power seriously. He did, especially with Frieza being some sort of mutant. He has no idea why Frieza didn't utilize that power. Of course, Cooler is still strong, with great potential, but he explains his potential is never as great as his brother. However, he's more than made up for it, and now he'll kill those same Saiyans that were able to kill Frieza. Or at least, one of them. In all honesty, he's glad that Frieza's gone, but frankly, he hates these Saiyans even more for killing him. He wanted to do that himself, if anything. And he just hates those Saiyans regardless. Cooler's not standing too far away from them. He lifts a hand up, compacts it into a fist, and then punches. A blast of compressed air pierces through the darkness, hitting Raditz and knocking him far away, with enough power to even knock him out of Super Saiyan. Kakarot's stunned. He didn't even touch Raditz, and with one shot, he was able to defeat him. It wasn't even a ki blast either. It was just air. He launched air at Raditz and defeated him. Kakarot assumes a battle stance. He's never felt this type of concern before. Of course, he knows Raditz is weaker than him, also using a weaker form than what he has. But still, what the hell is this? For him to defeat a Super Saiyan that easily? And as Kakarot's processing all this, 2 blue streaks of light pass by him, his only indication that Cooler just flew past him, besides the massive shockwave that follows, cracking the ground below him. The ground breaks below Kakarot, and he starts falling downwards. Ki blasts are launched from above, but they're not hitting Kakarot, they're hitting around him, digging deeper into the core of the planet. Cooler's trying to send him right down to there, destroying the planet along with Kakarot. Kakarot's able to jump up through the tunnel, propelling himself off the sides of it, desperately trying to dodge the ki blast as he does so. But as he ascends further up, one of them does hit him,
and it's painful. It's a very casual blast from Cooler, but it still damages him a lot, sending him further downwards. Cooler stops for a brief moment, lifting up a finger. He charges a supernova, but instead of it being orange, it's a dark blue color, actually illuminating the area in an ominous blue light, allowing Kakarot to clearly see Cooler up above. He launches it downwards, and Kakarot doesn't know what to do. He can't jump up through the hole because then he'd jump right into the supernova. If he goes downwards, he's going right into the core of the planet, which will either kill him or destroy the planet instantly. On a whim, he launches a massive ki blast to his side, flying through the crust of the planet, tunneling through and launching himself out far away. And he watches from a distance as the supernova goes further down, at an angle thankfully, not hitting the planet directly. But once again, blue streaks of light pass him. With no effort, Cooler moves so quickly that he essentially teleported over here. Kakarot feels a devastating punch to his back. All the wind is knocked out of him. He coughs up blood, and he almost loses his transformation, but he still stays fighting. Where the hell is Raditz? And then far away, he can see. There's a single golden ore in the darkness launching over. Raditz is jumping back into the battle, injured, but still relatively okay. The two start attacking Cooler both at once, and with one finger, he blocks both of their attacks. And then lifting up another hand, flicking Raditz in the head, knocking him far away once more. The disrespect. He knees Kakarot right in the stomach, once again knocking the wind out of him, dealing even more damage. He'll deal with that weaker Saiyan later. For now, he's gonna kill Kakarot. And Kakarot's hopeless to fight against it. With every hit he takes, there's more damage, more pain to deal with. He's trying to fight through it, but it's just simply too much at this point. Kakarot de-transforms out of Evil Saiyan, now in his base form, and Cooler laughs. He finds it hilarious that these Saiyans thought they could beat him. It seems he came here at the perfect time. Sure, if he met them a little while later, and they had more time to prepare, maybe they would have been able to defeat him. But Cooler's very glad he stumbled upon this planet, and if these Saiyans are any indication of the strength of Turles, he shouldn't have a tough time with that guy either. These two are just obstacles, mere appetizers for him. This fight is just a fun little excursion. He's solely doing it for the thrill of it. And the fact that these two are Saiyans after all, he needs to decimate them too. Kakarot tries to summon more power, trying to transform once more. The attacks are so brutal, but Cooler's actually holding back. Now that Kakarot's in base, he doesn't want to accidentally kill him with one punch after all. Kakarot can transform and tank a few more. And out of sheer rage and determination, he transforms into a Super Saiyan, not even realizing it. But this isn't enough. He knows he's in the form, but he needs to go into his Evil Saiyan form. Does he not have enough power to go into it? Or is he just too injured? Or is it the fact that he can't focus? Or all of those things at once? He's not even given a chance to charge up. Even in Super Saiyan, Cooler's able to completely decimate him. It makes essentially no difference. It's like he didn't transform at all. But Kakarot continues trying to power up. And once again, there's some light in the area. Not much, but just a little bit. From Kakarot's aura of Super Saiyan, a golden light shines through the darkness, but also a red light appears. As he tries to power up into Evil Saiyan, the aura of that form begins surrounding him too. He needs to transform into it no matter what. He needs to push out as much power as possible, or else they have no other choice but to fight. They can't give up that easily. He can overcome these odds, and he will overcome these odds. And he tells Cooler he'll defeat him just like his brother, and he'll be the one to defeat Turles as well. That's his battle to fight. That's his prey, not Cooler's. Cooler won't rule this universe. Kakarot will. His aura flares up even further, with Cooler holding Kakarot by his hair, punching him right in the face. But Kakarot has no reaction this time. His face is scrunched up, with him grimacing, not even feeling the pain this time. Is it the adrenaline, or is it something else? The auras of Super Saiyan and Evil Saiyan mix together. Kakarot's eyes, they change color, turning from the bluish color of Super Saiyan to a piercing red. His hair starts growing out, but it's not turning black like the normal Evil Saiyan form. It's retaining the color of Super Saiyan, actually getting a little bit darker if anything. Kakarot screams, unleashing one last burst of power. This actually knocks Cooler back. That's impossible. Okay, it must be a fluke. He was holding back after all, trying not to kill Kakarot instantly. But that was his biggest mistake. He hears Kakarot say he should have killed him while he had the chance, but now it's too late. Light has returned to the area, with Kakarot's menacing aura illuminating everything orange. Kakarot doesn't know what type of power he's unleashed, but he has a theory. He thanks Cooler for pushing him to this level. He accidentally mixed the two forms together. Out of his sheer drive to use more power against Cooler, he was already a Super Saiyan, powering up into an Evil Saiyan. Now remember too, Kakarot doesn't actually have a name for the form Evil Saiyan. We could call it something like Evil Super Saiyan, but that's a little too edgy, and Kakarot wouldn't know the name either. So, let's let Kakarot come up with a name. He decides this is a Supreme Saiyan, a level beyond Super Saiyan, but not Super Saiyan 2, something that he doesn't even know of. He feels it's a fitting name. It is still using the power of a Super Saiyan after all, so giving it a similar name like Supreme, he thinks that's a good idea. The two begin clashing, and now, they're actually even. Cooler can't believe it. How did he get this strong this quickly? And Kakarot simply tells Cooler he always had the strength within him. He just didn't know what the next step of power was for him.
but now he's finally found that. The Supreme Saiyan. This was a level that he didn't even know existed, but he should have realized it before. Evil Saiyan, Super Saiyan, they were two completely separate forms, and now he's utilizing the power of both at once, a Super Saiyan, empowered by the fruit of the Tree of Might. And he tells Cooler, yeah, his new form may be powerful, and it may be flashy, or I guess the opposite of flashy because it doesn't illuminate light, but the point is, it's no match for Kakarot's form, and Kakarot's thrilled to have this power. But at the same time, he's elated to have this fight. Cooler asks Kakarot why he looks so cocky. He hasn't won yet, but he has a stupid smirk on his face, and Kakarot says it isn't because of that. It's just that this fight is getting his Saiyan blood pumping. Of course, his objective here is to kill Cooler, defeat him once and for all, but at the same time, he can't help but have fun with this battle. Cooler's power is astounding, and now that Kakarot's able to finally match it, utilizing a brand new power on top of that, this fight makes him incredibly happy. And this only disgusts Cooler even more. These primitive Saiyans, their minds are only on fighting. If anything, he's doing the universe a favor by ridding it of them. And once more, he lifts a hand up behind him, charging another supernova, this one more massive than the last. Kakarot launches a volley of ki blasts at it, but it just gets absorbed by the attack, and the attack starts condensing into something else. The light produced from it, the ki that Kakarot's launching at it, it's negated. This thing, it's absorbing light, just like Cooler's form. This isn't a supernova anymore. This is a black hole. A fitting name. The attack shrinks further and further, but the power doesn't shrink. Both are named after the remains of a destroyed star, but this one, it's far more powerful. A fitting name for an attack collapsing in on itself. Kakarot closes his eyes, breathing in, and then he starts charging up energy. Cooler brings the black hole in front of him. Gusts of wind are generated around the area. Things are being sucked into it. This isn't just a flashy name, it's acting like a literal black hole. Cooler condenses it in front of him, bringing his two hands together, crushing it in between them, charging it with even more energy. The planet is collapsing around them, and using all of his strength, Cooler pushes the attack forward. Cooler laughs maniacally. Kakarot launches an attack at it, but it's just absorbed by the black hole. He doesn't know what to do. He can't destroy this attack, and it'll probably destroy the planet, killing them out in space. Not too far away, Raditz wakes up. He senses everything going on. What is this power that Kakarot's utilizing? And he looks up into the sky, seeing nothing. All light is being absorbed by the black hole, and Raditz can feel himself being pulled in by it. He doesn't know what to do, but on a whim, he takes the last bit of energy he has, granting it to Kakarot. Kakarot suddenly feels empowered. It's Raditz, lending him some more energy, and Kakarot has a single idea of what to do here. He doesn't try to counter this attack. Instead, he maneuvers around it, launching in towards Cooler at the highest speed that he can. He fakes out Cooler with a punch, and of course Cooler dodges it. But quickly, Kakarot charges up all the energy he can, shifting it into his fist. And just as Cooler dodges his fake punch, Kakarot then swings around, hitting Cooler directly with an actual punch, charged with all of his ki. And it pierces right through Cooler's chest. Of course, it's not enough to kill Cooler, and he laughs, coughing up blood as he does so. His race can survive much worse. But with another hand, Kakarot then launches a blast of ki at Cooler, except it flies right past him, into the black hole. The black hole grows larger and larger, with the planet succumbing more to it. Thankfully, they're basically in the atmosphere at this point, not too close to the surface. But if it grows any larger, the planet's gonna collapse in on it. And Kakarot tells Cooler he's not surprised that he could survive that. But could he survive his own attack? Cooler then feels a hand on his tail. Kakarot grabs it, swinging Cooler around as fast as possible. He tries his best to aim Cooler towards the black hole, launching Cooler towards his own attack. And to seal the deal, Kakarot charges one final ki blast, putting all of his energy into it. This pushes Cooler further and further into the attack, but Cooler laughs. As he flies towards it, he doesn't realize what's happening. He tells Kakarot it's only going to make the attack even stronger, but then he realizes he's hurtling right towards his own attack, and Kakarot's empowering it. Cooler tries to stop himself midair, but it's already too late. The beam of energy from Kakarot hits him head on, a supreme kill driver. It pushes Cooler into his own attack, with the black hole then absorbing Kakarot's ki. Although, the force of this actually pushes the black hole back. It grows larger and larger, but not too massive, flying out far into space beyond the speed of light. Cooler is torn apart by his own attack, and there's no explosion remaining from it. As Cooler is literally torn to shreds, he just becomes part of it. With the black hole flying farther and farther out, hopefully with it dying soon enough, but the planet's already taken too much damage. And Kakarot powers down. Raditz is amazed to see this. Kakarot's now 2 levels ahead, not just Evil Saiyan, but Supreme Saiyan. Although, they can't stick around here much longer. It's a shame. This planet was a nice little base of operations, but they're gonna need somewhere else now. As the planet continues to collapse, the 2 of them are able to escape just in the nick of time. Now, it's time for them to find Turles. First, they'll use the healing pods, and once Raditz gets his form, they'll move out and attack. Who knows what Turles is up to? But Kakarot's confident. Whatever this power is, the power of a Supreme Saiyan, he feels like Turles won't be able to counter it at all. Of course, he has no idea of what Turles is up to at this point, completely unaware that Turles has unlocked a new form of his own. an evolution of Evil Saiyan, but an evolution that occurred much differently than what Kakarot did. He didn't combine it with another form. He just evolved it far beyond where it was by using the same principles that got him that form in the first place, except utilizing the power of stars. He's amazed. The brilliant scientists were somehow able to plant a tree on a star, creating a plant that's able to survive in those conditions. Turles continues consuming more stars, literally consuming their energy, eating the fruits generated by them. He does have to pace himself though. He can't fully control the power yet, and he needs to make sure he can do so before he eats more stars. But he could tell, he's close to controlling this form, and with this great power, it's now time for him to find Kakarot. And it's good timing too. Far away, he sensed an amazing battle going on. He didn't know who was involved, but he sensed 3 energies, one of whom being Kakarot, one of them being a weaker one that seemed like it could be a Saiyan, and then one of them being someone he didn't even recognize. And he knew whatever the result of that fight, he'd probably have to fight whoever remains, and it seems that Kakarot was able to win. And Turles chuckles to himself. Looks like he's gonna get to see Kakarot again very soon. Kakarot and Raditz continue going around to other planets. There's not too many planets left in this area, but there are a few that allow Kakarot to plant some trees, getting some fruits of the Tree of Might for Raditz. And at long last, Raditz is able to access the Evil Saiyan form. Or, seemingly he can. His aura changes, but he looks pretty much the same. Maybe his hair grows a little bit longer, but he doesn't really look too much different. Kakarot dies of laughter from this, and Raditz is a bit embarrassed, but he could tell the power's there, so whatever. He doesn't matter what he looks like. Actually, this is better. He was handsome to begin with. But it doesn't matter how he looks. What matters is the power behind it. And now they feel confident to go and find Turles. Although, Raditz does want to get that Supreme Saiyan form, but he knows it's going to take a while. If it took that long for Kakarot to do it, especially with how powerful his Evil Saiyan form was to begin with, it's going to take a little bit longer for Raditz. So, it's best not to focus on that for now. They outnumber Turles, and most importantly, they should overpower him. There's no way he acts as a Supreme Saiyan too, right? I mean, he doesn't know about Super Saiyan. And, yeah, they're right, but he's got something else. The Neo Crusher Core keeps expanding, not only obtaining more soldiers, but finding more stars to plant trees of might on. The issue is, this process takes a lot longer than it did for planets. I mean, just consider the scale of the stars. It takes a lot longer for the trees to actually drain the energy from them. And another thing is, these aren't any normal trees. Rather than being easy to plant like the other trees of might, these are genetically engineered seeds that are somehow able to survive on stars. And it takes a lot longer for them to be planted, and a lot longer for them to actually grow fully. But the payoff is huge, and Turles is loving it. Also, in the meantime, he could spend that extra free time trying to train with this form, trying to gain more control of it. It's not like he should be overloading himself with these fruits after all. He needs to pace himself a bit until he gets full control in this form, which eventually, he does get some of that. And while the army is expanding, finding more soldiers too, Turles actually finds one who could be particularly valuable. But the army is a secondary focus for him right now. At the moment, he's focused on finding those other 2 Saiyans. After sensing their battle with Cooler, he definitely needs to do something about it. Thankfully, he has all the resources he needs, and he knows they probably still have some scouters, which might make it easy to locate and communicate with them. It doesn't take too long. With a crew of engineers trying to figure out how to actually contact these other scouters, they're able to track them down eventually, basically hacking into them so they can receive the messages from Turles. Of course, Kakarot and Raditz don't really wear these anymore, but they still do have them on the side. And Raditz notices one day, his old scouter's going off. Who could even be contacting him? That was only used with the Frieza Force. But Kakarot knows exactly who it is. It's gotta be Turles. He did take over the Frieza Force after all. And knowing their resources, it shouldn't have been too hard to track down those scouters. Kakarot actually destroyed his, but Raditz completely forgot about his since he didn't really wear it too much. But whatever, hindsight is 20/20, and what's important now is to figure out who's actually calling. And just as they expected, Turles is on the other end. He tells them, let's settle this, here and now. He'll do it alone. He's not going to use his army for this, he just used them to track these 2 down. He didn't even think to track their scouters until he sensed their power. That's what actually tipped him off. And he tells the 2 of them, they don't really have a choice. He knows where they are, so he's offering them to come here. Either they can head to where he is, or he could just come there and destroy everything. They're going to meet in battle eventually. But Raditz tells Turles, they're not stupid, and Turles says he knows that, which is why he knows they'll take this offer and come there right now. If they're worried about him somehow having other people come here to ambush him, that's not the case. He could do this all on his own. He doesn't need anybody else's help. If he did, honestly, that would be a huge blow to his pride. And if he ends up losing here, then so be it. He wasn't fit to command the universe anyways, but he knows he is, which is why he's so confident in this. And Kakarot attests this too. Even though he doesn't necessarily trust Turles, he does know for a fact that Turles wouldn't do this alone. This isn't a trap. This must be a legitimate invitation to a battle. And he does know where they are after all. He would have come here already and destroyed them if that's what he really wanted. This at least makes for a more fair fight, more enjoyable for each side, and whoever wins, they'll feel the pride of legitimately winning a battle. So, the 2 Saiyans head out, not really knowing what else to do here. They don't have a choice either way. And they arrive on a deserted planet, one with a tree of might on it, but that tree is long dead. And of course, Turles is there alone just like he said. He greets the 2, glad to see them, and to finally see Raditz again too.
He's surprised Raditz even showed up, considering how he retreated against Turles and Kakarot last time. And Kakarot simply asked, what's Turles' angle here? He sensed their power, right? He knows how strong they are now. And Turles explains what he's been up to as well. They're not the only ones with a new power. And Kakarot asks, what, is he a Super Saiyan or something? Turles laughs at this. This Super Saiyan doesn't exist. To which Raditz responds by showing off Super Saiyan. Oh, well, it does exist, but doesn't seem too interesting in all honesty. Especially compared to Evil Saiyan and his new power. But he tells Kakarot, that power he sensed wasn't just Super Saiyan. He wants to see what form Kakarot's gotten, if it's any similar to his at all. He sensed that Evil Saiyan energy within it, and he says there's no point in hiding it from him. So, Kakarot transforms, showing off Supreme Saiyan. Turles says that's impressive, definitely different from the power that he has. You see, he has been planting more trees of might, actually, not on planets anymore. And Kakarot's confused. Where's he been planting them then? Well, let's just say he has a very brilliant army, at least in terms of the scientist, being able to genetically engineer new seeds. Seeds that are able to survive the condition of stars mechanically being planted on there. Kakarot doesn't believe what he's hearing. So he's been eating the power of stars? Raditz immediately powers up upon hearing this, knowing they can't hold anything back. Right away, they need to go all out. And Turles reiterates what he said before. Just like he thought, they're smart. Well, they showed him their power, so he'll show his off too. A ring of red energy forms around him, slowly coalescing into Turles. First, he goes into his Evil Saiyan form, but something begins changing with him. His hair, it flows more violently than before. His tail and his eyes light up, as his hair continues changing. It doesn't just change color like a Super Saiyan or something. It changes its state of being. His hair looks like fire, freely moving just like fire. And then there's a brilliant flash of light, just like that of a star. The planet cracks below their feet. What is he doing? And Turles laughs, telling them not to worry. The planet explodes, with the three Saiyans being flung out into space, on random rocks from the planet floating about. Raditz and Kakarot try talking to each other, but they can't. They're in the vacuum of space. And then they hear Turles in their heads. He tells them an interesting tidbit. He found this out on accident, actually. Are they surprised that they're surviving out here? Well, turns out with the power of an Evil Saiyan, it seems they can actually survive in the vacuum of space. That's not too surprising. They've evolved far beyond a Saiyan's limits, so it's no wonder that this is possible as well. He discovered this on accident while eating fruits from stars. I mean, he could survive the power of a star and actually survive on the surface of one, which showed him that he could actually survive in the vacuum of space too, being able to breathe out there. Kakarot and Raditz wish they knew that before, and Turles tells them. That's why he was able to ascend beyond them. He's able to recognize all the different pieces of this form, what it allows him to do, the abilities it grants him, which allows him to go beyond its limits. He knows far more than they do, and he's far stronger than they are. He launches towards the two of them, with Turles turning to an orange streak of light. They each feel a powerful punch to each of their guts. As they're launched across this solar system, this power, they can't believe it. Raditz is flung into a nearby moon, with the moon exploding on impact as Kakarot tries to stop himself out in the vacuum. This is unlike any other battle he's been in before. He's never fought in the vacuum of space. It's such a wide open area, and it's so easy to lose track of things if you can't sense somebody's power. But it's not easy to lose track of Turles. They can see him glowing brilliantly in the vacuum, with the power of stars flowing through him. Like I said, I want to have a little bit more fun with this what if. New forms, they're completely fair game. Kakarot tries launching back in towards Turles, with Turles effortlessly dodging every attack. Kakarot can't sense it or hear it, but he sees something flying behind him. He jumps out of the way, as all pieces of that exploding moon fly right towards Turles, with Raditz flinging each of them towards him as a distraction. He flies back over to Kakarot, trying to communicate mentally. He doesn't really know how to do so, but he figures it out. Looks like they're gonna have to talk like this from now on. They see a brilliant glow not too far away as Turles completely melts all those pieces from the moon. They hear his voice in their heads again. This is becoming fun. He powers up fully, launching in towards Kakarot, grabbing him, with the two of them then hurtling right towards the nearby star. Raditz tries to follow. He's not quick enough. Turles is too fast for him. Kakarot struggles to move, but he picks up a hand, launching a blast point blank at Turles' face as they hurtle right towards the star. With the two of them landing on the surface of it, the gravity here is insane. And the heat too. But with these forms, they can handle it. But it does make the battle tougher. Raditz flies in too, feeling the effects more so than them. Damn it. Even with the great powers of an Evil Saiyan, he's still behind them. He can't do anything to help. He can still move, but he's a lot slower than before with the gravity. And he watches hopelessly. Turles is beating up Kakarot, and Raditz needs to do something quick. He doesn't know if he can even help here, but then he sees something. He sees why Turles brought Kakarot here. In the distance, he sees what looks like a giant structure, and it becomes clearer to him. Through the flames of the star's surface, he can kind of make out the image of a tree. This is way too crazy for him. He tries to fly over to that. It's massive, even more so than the trees of might that they've seen before. It's insane. There's a huge mechanical structure around it. And the tree looks like no normal tree either, so this is how they're able to get them to work. But he knows what Turles is trying to do. He's here in case he needs another fruit from this. And as Raditz flies over, he's hit by a blast from Turles, launching him right into the tree. But the force of this actually shaking him as Turles flies over, so he sees Raditz has figured out his plan. It's not like he could do anything about it though, and after the tree shakes from this collision, a giant fruit drops from above. Well, relative to the tree, it's pretty small, but compared to the normal fruits that he's seen, it's massive. It's like the size of a watermelon. Turles is about to catch it as it falls, but then Kakarot hits him right in the face, coming back into the battle. Turles fumbles to try and grab it, but he drops the fruit due to Kakarot's distraction. Quickly, he launches a blast at it, knocking the fruit far away. He'll get it later. He just can't let Raditz get to it. As he flies back in towards Raditz, but with Kakarot grabbing Turles' leg, trying to pull him back. He tells Turles, focus on this fight. Let them settle the score. Turles is infuriated, and he's far above Kakarot, so he tries to get away as quick as possible. And he looks back to see. Raditz is gone. It's tough, but he's flying away, trying to find where that fruit went. He saw where the blast flew, at least the general direction, and he sees a divot it left in the star's surface. Everything is so bright around here too. This makes it even tougher to see. Thankfully, from being as powerful as they are, their eyes aren't just completely melted from being on this star. But still, it's not something that they can overlook. And Raditz can vaguely make something out. A dark red object on the surface, being flung around by all the flames. It's the fruit. But he knows if he gets it, he'll show it the location of Turles too. So he flies over to its general direction, but not right towards it. And Turles then launches over, quicker than Raditz can register. He looks around too, but can't find it. And he sweeps his arm at Raditz. In the nick of time, Raditz tries to adjust himself just to the perfect angle. He knows he can't avoid an attack from Turles, but he does know what he can do. Use it to his advantage. Turles doesn't know where the fruit is, but Raditz does. He positions himself to take the hit, making it look like he's naturally flying over to where the fruit was thanks to where Turles knocked him. And the attack is painful, but Raditz coordinated this. He's knocked right towards the fruit, and in one swift motion, he reaches out to grab for it. And Turles sees, but it's already too late. Quickly, Raditz takes a giant bite of it, trying to eat it whole, with a massive blast then coming from above as Turles knocks him out of the way, disintegrating the rest of the fruit too. Kakarot flies in too, trying to distract Turles once more, and then sensing a huge increase in Raditz's power. They can barely see it because the star is already flaming, but a huge pillar of fire shoots up nearby, and it's not natural from the star, it's something else. And Kakarot smiles, telling Turles it's over now. Turles is furious, but whatever, he'll finish off Kakarot right now. He doesn't need to enjoy this any longer. It doesn't matter if Raditz has obtained the same power. As long as he can kill Kakarot, he'll overcome Raditz as well. Kakarot tries to launch a point-blank kill driver, with Turles launching the same. His overpowers Kakarot's, but Kakarot tries to push it back as much as he can, and a blast comes in from his side, knocking both the kill drivers out of the way, and he sees standing there is Raditz. He can't control this power, he can't contain it at all, but he's using the same form as Turles. And of course, it's not on his level. He only ate one whole fruit, while Turles has been going around eating parts of many fruits. He paced himself too. Raditz didn't hear. Maybe Raditz will just blow up from not being able to contain all this energy, being destroyed by the very power he's trying to possess. And Raditz is fighting through it, trying to utilize the power, but he doesn't try to resist it. He lets it overflow out of him. It's the only way he can survive it after all, and he has the perfect place to channel it into. He needs to get rid of this power quickly too, before he dies from it. Quickly, he launches a full power Shining Friday at Turles, but it's much stronger than he ever expected. His power is completely unrestrained right now, and Turles blocks against the attack, taking some significant damage from it too. And he sees what Raditz is doing. He's trying to mitigate the effects of it by using all the power at once, letting it overflow out of him. He's not trying to contain it at all. Instead, he's letting the power do what it's trying to do, escape Raditz's body in any way possible. Raditz continues launching these supercharged attacks at Turles, launching it at full speed with nothing in between. He needs to continuously expel this energy if he wants to survive here. And Kakarot watches on nearby. He can't believe it, seeing Raditz this strong, and that form. It's amazing. Raditz has actually surpassed him, and he's actually kind of happy to see that. He looks over at the tree. There's no other fruits on there. That would have been useful for him to get this too. But as he looks over at the tree, he also sees something else nearby. There's a ship floating far out in space. Kakarot can barely make it out, but he does see it. It's floating right over the tree, and he sees a brilliant green glow coming from it. What the hell is that? As Turles is fighting Raditz, he tells Raditz it's no use. That power's gonna run out eventually without him controlling it. There's a few outcomes for this battle. 1. Raditz's power runs out, and Turles regains his advantage, since he's actually controlling his power. And that way, Turles wins. Raditz says he'll simply just not let that happen, but Turles says he's forgetting another thing. Turles has a whole army with him, and he has some contingency plans. And Raditz laughs at Turles. What, he's gonna try to retreat or something? That's the same thing that he made fun of Raditz for. And Turles says he did have this contingency plan, and he didn't really want to use it, but it's still better to have it just in case. He's not too pleased by this either. It's like he said before, if he loses here, then so be it. It kinda irks him, but at the same time, it's expected that his army would look out for him. He should have killed them quicker, but instead, he was enjoying his time pummeling Kakarot. Had he not wasted any time, he would have prevented Raditz from getting that fruit. He let the battle get into his head. And because of that mistake, he's glad he had this contingency plan. Raditz looks up, then seeing that same green glow that Kakarot's seeing. Kakarot flies over, trying to grab Raditz, telling them they need to go. And Turles looks up laughing. He jumps up out into space too, saying his goodbyes to everyone. He'll see them again very soon. Maybe he shouldn't have done a 2v1. Maybe it should have been a 2v2 to make things more balanced. Kakarot and Raditz have no clue of what he's talking about, but they fly off. What is Turles implying? That he has some sort of ally with him that could have helped here? The green glow hits the star, as it starts rumbling. Kakarot and Raditz try to fly as quickly as possible. They can't even go back to their ship because that got destroyed with the planet. They actually have no clue where they're heading right now. They just fly out into the vacuum of space. Raditz expels all of his power, trying to use it to fly as fast as possible, trying to get Kakarot to let go of him, and instead of grabbing onto Kakarot and dragging him behind. And Kakarot gets a glimpse of the star as it's exploding, and right behind it, he can see Turles flying up to his ship, with the ship narrowly escaping. He's getting too far away right now. He can't make out any individual figures, but he can sense somebody else's power. It's just like they thought. Turles isn't alone. He does have some sort of ally, and his energy. It feels like that of a Saiyan. But that makes no sense. What other Saiyan is out there? And as they fly off into space, they vaguely hear Turles in their head once more. Turles apologizes for being so rude. Next time, he'll be sure to introduce him to his new friend, Broly. The star fully collapses, with each side being able to barely escape. The two brothers fly randomly out in space. They feel like they're kind of screwed because once their stamina runs dry, their forms will disappear and they'll just die in the vacuum of space. Raditz is still trying to expel all this extra power. He has too much of it and it's making him feel antsy. He's very anxious about it. And Kakarot tells Raditz, it's nice that they got close to killing Turles. That means it's possible. Also, that new form of his is awesome. Raditz continues flying, dragging Kakarot behind him as he does so. Kind of annoying for Kakarot, but whatever, this is the only way they're going to survive out here. They stop on random planets to see if they have some sort of atmosphere. Through trial and error, they do eventually find one. Some even have life forms on it, but nothing intelligent. At least that means they have food. And a place to stay. It's not the most ideal situation, but now they can actually rest somewhere, being able to briefly remain on these planets that they find. Raditz is still concerned about his new power, and he's still overflowing with it. It's like he's hyped up on caffeine almost. He's so energized. He doesn't even sleep. Well, at least not at first. But he's starting to feel a little bit better, and this gets him to truly realize how much power was in that form. The fact that it took him this long to even drain a fraction of it. His body couldn't handle all the power. If he kept it inside though, he definitely would have died, so it's good that it turned out this way at least. And now that they finally have some sort of time to rest, or at least Kakarot could rest, they have some time to discuss too. Who the hell was that with Turles? Definitely someone strong. Kakarot couldn't sense his full power, but he could briefly sense his power when he blew up that star. The fact that it only took a fraction of his power to do that, it shows that he's probably on their level too. Obviously Kakarot was too far to see, but if that guy was being serious, he'd be way less casual about it, and Kakarot would be able to sense it within his energy. So, potentially another Saiyan, huh? Well, that doesn't matter. Kakarot laughs to himself. No matter what, they'll get Raditz to utilize that power, and together, they'll crush the Crusher Core, including Turles and his new friend Broly. Kakarot and Raditz have their own paths now, with Kakarot utilizing Supreme Saiyan still, as Raditz tries to learn this new power of Infernal Saiyan. It seems Kakarot actually has a true ally now. It's amazing. It's his brother. Of course, this isn't a traditional alliance. It's not like they're working for good. These two are pretty bad people. Look at the title of the scenario after all. But maybe they're not as bad as they think. Maybe with this bond forming between them, there's something changing within them as well. Slowly, but surely. They're not the same people they once were. Evident with the fact that Kakarot's actually now in good terms with his brother instead of abandoning him like he did before with Turles, when he first turned on the Saiyans. For now, they could recharge a little bit more, and then fly through space trying to find some other planet. Well, mainly Kakarot needs to recharge. He just needs to get some extra power so he can keep utilizing that form so he can breathe out in space. As for Raditz, he still has excess energy. It's fine for him. And Raditz asks, where are they supposed to go next? Kakarot has no idea. They don't really know how to navigate throughout space. Except, Kakarot does have an idea. What if they try to sense a power somewhere and go towards that? Ideally something familiar. Of course, there's not too many powers they could sense out in space. Vaguely, very far away, they could sense Turles. Alright, so go in the opposite direction. Kakarot spends time focusing, hours actually. He can't sense anything out there. But at one point, he picks up on something. And it's a power that's familiar actually. Something that he hasn't sensed in a while. He hatches a plan. An amazing idea actually. He turns to Raditz. Remember those Dragon Balls that Lord Slug got? Raditz remembers. Are they going to use those? Nope. They're probably guarded by Granola by now if anything, and he's an ally who could be useful for later. Besides, Kakarot can't even sense Granola, so he can't even travel there if he wanted. But there's another place that he's sensing right now. An energy from an old friend, Tenshinhan. He tells Raditz, that planet that he found Kakarot on before, Earth, it also has Dragon Balls. And this is what they'll do. They'll go to Earth, get the Dragon Balls there, and they can wish for whatever they want. Raditz likes this plan. Sure, they can go there, but Kakarot knows how to get there? Well, not necessarily, but briefly, he just sensed Tenshinhan's energy flare up. He must be training or something. They just gotta wait for it to flare up again, and then they can just fly in that general direction. It'll grow stronger as they grow closer.
The two of them eventually sense it again, traveling over to Earth. Thankfully, they move pretty quickly in space. The power Raditz has allows them to travel across galaxies within a few days. That's how far they've gotten by now. And by continuing their method of planet hopping, they're able to survive along the way with food, eventually arriving in a very familiar solar system. They land on a small cold planet for the time being, and in the distance, they could see a star, the same sun that Kakarot grew up under. And Kakarot senses that power once more. Earth is that way. The two of them power up, leaping from this planet. And Raditz is glad. He thought that was the planet that they meant to land on. And Kakarot laughs. Raditz is calling Pluto a planet. With this one powerful leap, they jump across the entire solar system. Descending in on Earth, Kakarot powers down, breathing in the air here. For once, they're on a normal, habitable planet. But something strange. He looks around. This planet isn't as peaceful as it once was. It looks like it's war-torn, at least the area that he landed in. And Kakarot senses two powers nearby, two very familiar powers, Ten and Chaozu. They fly over, also sensing Kakarot. They can't believe their eyes. So it actually is him, and his brother too. Kakarot doesn't know what to say, and Ten's angered actually. Why'd he leave? What's he here for? He remembers the terms in which Kakarot left, and all this time he's actually sensed Kakarot's power out in space, as well as hearing those stories on the news about stars and whatever disappearing. Ten thinks Kakarot's here to destroy their solar system the same way that he did with others. And he and Chaozu jump in to try and fight Kakarot. Kakarot tells him he could explain, effortlessly dodging all their attacks and defeating them pretty easily as well. He tells them to calm the hell down. That's not what he's here for, and that wasn't even his fault. He gives them a brief rundown of what's happened out in space, but more importantly, he wants to know what's happened here. Ten apologizes for losing his cool. It's been so long since he's seen Kakarot, and so much has changed here that he didn't know if he could even trust Kakarot being here. And it's not much, but one thing that brings trust to Ten is the fact that Kakarot's still wearing his Crane School clothes. It's nothing huge, but the fact that Kakarot still has Earthling clothes like that, it shows that he still has somewhat of a connection to Earth in his past. He hasn't completely abandoned it. Ten starts explaining. He tells Kakarot, he remembers the Red Ribbon Army, right? Yeah, of course. What happened with them? Ten says it's a long story. The Red Ribbon Army continued to expand further, obtaining Dragon Balls, which were used by Commander Red for his gain, and he used them to just grow a little bit taller. This pissed off Black, who ended up killing him, viewing Red as incompetent, and this led to some infighting between the army, with some who were loyal to Red using the name Red Ribbon Army, going against Black, who now reads the Black Ribbon Army. Mercenary Tao was hired as a mercenary for this war, and he roped his brother in, who then roped in the Crane School. Ten ended up defecting with Chaozu. He didn't want to be a mercenary, he signed up to be a martial artist. They didn't have too much of a choice either. Shen didn't like it too much, but he was helping his brother. And Ten wanted to put a stop to this, defeating both of the armies. He thought it would be possible, making the Neo Crane School, formed by him and Chaozu, with remains of their old rivals, the Turtle School. Two more people fly over, wearing orange geese. Ten introduces them to Kakarot. This is Yamcha and Krillin, who are both a little bit worried to meet these two, sensing their great powers. And Kakarot's not too concerned by this. So the Red Ribbon Army has Dragon Balls. He turns to Raditz. They could just defeat the Red Ribbon Army and get the Dragon Balls that way. Although, he doesn't say out loud that he wants the Dragon Balls. But he tells Ten, they'll defeat the army on their own. And Ten says it isn't easy. Sure, their soldiers aren't really an issue, but their androids are. Wait, androids? Yep. One side has androids created by Dr. Gero, or at least they did have that. There's actually one of his relatives, Dr. Hato, on the other side who made more androids. Gero had a mix of androids. Some were robots, some were cyborgs, and even one was himself. On the other side, there was an army of clones, Gammas. This war got out of control, eventually leading to a war between androids. The first few weren't that bad, but the androids grew stronger as the war raged on. Gero's first breakthrough was Android 13, and he continued making more from there, while on the other side, Hato continued making more Gammas, growing stronger and stronger. But they eventually reigned victorious. With an endless army of Gammas, they won. And now the Earth is overrun with them. He may have had good intentions with making the androids. At first, they were heroic, but it's not like he's the only scientist in the army. Others were able to take his blueprints, working with them, and creating a mindless army of drones. Gammas working for their own gain. Detecting these great powers, some of the Gammas fly over. Kakarot and Raditz can't sense their energy, but Kakarot launches a beam at one of them, instantly eradicating him. The Neo Crane School members look on amazed. They defeated one that quickly? And Kakarot chuckles. This shouldn't be too tough. He turns to Raditz. They know what to do now. Both power up into Super Saiyan. Oh yeah, he'll explain this later to Ten. More and more Gammas come their way as Kakarot and Raditz easily fight through the army. They probably don't even need Super Saiyan for this, but as more of the army comes out, they just continue to wipe out more of the Gammas. The Neo Crane School watches on, not believing their eyes. Krillin remembers that Ten had a really strong friend that he mentioned before, but he didn't know he was this powerful. Ten actually kind of wanted to seek Kakarot out, seeing if he could help with this war. But he didn't know how that would be possible, and he didn't know if Kakarot would actually help here. But look how quickly he's doing this. Within minutes, Kakarot and Raditz destroy the entire army of Gammas. And as a little bit extra, they go to the bases of the Black and the Red Ribbon armies, eliminating them as well. Kakarot and Raditz turn back, telling Ten that's done with. and now they can look for the Dragon Balls. But then they realize, crap, the tech used to track the Dragon Balls are probably in those bases somewhere. So they're gonna have to go look through the rubble. Ten and the others don't know what to say, but then they feel a giant rumbling, and Kakarot senses a strange power, with Raditz feeling it too. It's an amalgamation of power. He can sense the energies of the humans, as well as himself and Raditz? Wait, what is this? Ten has no clue either. In the distance, they see a giant figure looming over, with glowing eyes looking over at them. The shadow jumps up in the air, jumping in front of the sun, blocking out all the light as it lands nearby. It's a giant red monster. Ten and the others back up. They have never seen this before. They have no clue what it is. Maybe it's some sort of contingency plan or something. Some monster that the army made. They don't know what this android is, but it's Cell Max. Through covert operations, plans from Gero were stolen by the Black Ribbon Army, meant to be used against him. Apparently he wanted to make some sort of android named Cell, but nothing ever came out of that. At least, not for the Red Ribbon Army. The Black Ribbon Army, they started a new project, Cell Max, made with DNA data stolen from Gero, as well as blueprints stolen from him, reverse engineered by Hato. And yes, he was a contingency plan. Being fully brainwashed too, he's actually intelligent here. But Kakarot and Raditz note something interesting. They sense their power within this android, but have no clue why. They don't know the reasoning behind this, nor does anyone else. They both power back up into Super Saiyan, and Cell Max actually stumbles backwards, confused by this. They ask Cell Max who he is, if he can even respond. Nervously he laughs, telling them who he is and what he was created for, and why they can't defeat him. He has their DNA. Data from them and every other strong fighter here. But Kakarot inquires, when did he get this data? Well, it was from the last time Kakarot and Raditz were both here. Really now? Kakarot smirks. Well, looks like he missed out on a lot of stuff. Ten and the others are terrified, but Kakarot tells them not to worry. This thing is probably not as strong as they think. It's impressive. He looks cool and he probably could grow strong if given the proper data. But Kakarot and Raditz are here for the Dragon Balls and this thing's gonna stand in their way. The two launch up in the air, ready to fight together, and they hold back, only using Super Saiyan. Cell Max is actually kind of a challenge for them in this form, but they get a gauge of his power, and Cell Max is worried. He didn't know they can get this strong, but it's still fine. He could defeat them. Until he learns that this isn't even close to their final form. This isn't even a fraction of their power at this point. Each of them power up, their golden auras turn red, as their hair grows out, turning from golden to black. The two transform into evil Saiyan, and effortlessly, they end up defeating Cell Max, who then proceeds to explode, almost killing everybody there. But Kakarot and Raditz actually defend them, because they still have a few questions for these guys. Inadvertently, they saved Earth, and Ten thanks Kakarot for his help, not knowing that he'd actually do that. And Kakarot says it was nothing, but then asks, since they saved Earth, he kinda wants Ten to do him a favor. Does he know anything about the Dragon Balls? And Ten's taken aback by this. Why is he asking about that? And this makes him concerned again. Why did Kakarot and Raditz want the Dragon Balls? Kakarot says, honestly, he's not sure yet. But once they come up with a wish, they're gonna use that to defeat Turles. And Ten doesn't fully believe this, but whatever. He tells Kakarot what he knows. The Dragon Balls are gone, and this isn't a lie. He tells Kakarot that Shenron and the Dragon Balls were destroyed. He doesn't say how though, but Ten knows. Ten eventually found Kami and started training under him, and Kami ended up deactivating the Dragon Balls, knowing they'd be used for evil again, and because they were actually the cause of this war before. He didn't want either of the armies getting them, because he knew they probably would be able to. Technically, they're not gone permanently, because Kami could recreate them, but Ten doesn't tell Kakarot everything about Kami. He implies that the Dragon Balls are permanently gone. Kakarot curses it. Well, looks like they got to a dead end. But maybe they could at least stay here for a bit. This is a habitable planet, and it actually has normal food that they could eat, so it could be better than what they've been doing. He thanks Kakarot for the help, but Kakarot says he was only really here for the Dragon Balls in all honesty. But Ten tells Kakarot that's not true. Kakarot wonders what he means by this, but Ten explains. He probably did want to help deep down. This was his home after all, and he probably knew to come here. Kakarot had briefly mentioned before that there were other Dragon Balls out there. He could have gone to any other planet, but he decided to come here. Maybe he actually did want to return. Maybe his heart led him back here because it was part of him. And Kakarot tells Ten to get real. They just inadvertently saved Earth. It wasn't intentional. But Krillin then steps up. He doesn't know Kakarot, but from what he could tell, he did save Earth. He could have taken the opportunity and taken over if he wanted, if he truly was fully evil. And Chaozu steps in too. They knew Kakarot before. He wasn't always like that. He just went down a darker path. But something tells Ten that that path ended a long time ago maybe. Kakarot's a bit annoyed and embarrassed to hear this, and he angrily looks away, looking up to the sky. Ten steps up to him. He was once going down a bad path as well, but look what happened to him. Under these unique circumstances, he ended up turning into a pretty good person. And even though Kakarot's life went way differently than his, he did go through something similar. Kakarot may not want to admit it. Maybe it's the Saiyan side of him telling him other things. But Ten could tell. Some of Earth did rub off on him, just like it rubbed off on him and Chaozu. Kakarot grunts, but then chuckles. Maybe Ten is right. He did watch Kakarot grow after all. And even amidst his conquest, Kakarot considers his actions. He didn't even look at it this way before, but All the people he's faced, they've been evils, net evils for the universe. And even though he destroyed them for selfish reasons, he still was helping out inadvertently, and his whole path so far, he's accidentally been doing that. Maybe something's changing within him, and he doesn't even realize it. The same goes for Raditz as well. If they were truly fully evil, like Turles for example, they'd be going around continuously mindlessly destroying things, which they definitely were doing before. Kakarot was going around planting trees of might everywhere, and Raditz was going around being a normal Saiyan. Kakarot's actions don't fully show it yet, but Ten could see there's some sort of humane side within him, and maybe it'll come to light soon. Right now, of course, it's buried deep within there, but he's not as concerned about Kakarot as he was when he first landed here again. He could see now, Kakarot hasn't fully been corrupted, and maybe he could turn over a new leaf, just like Ten and Chaozu did. The humans leave the two brothers alone, and Krillin notes something strange. He tells Ten, for some reason, he feels like he should know Kakarot better. He doesn't know why because he's never met this dude before, but still. And Yamcha asks Ten, does he really trust them being here? And Ten reminds everybody, he and Chaozu, they were with Kakarot, growing up and training under the Crane School. They knew he was going down a dark path, but something's changed about him. Ten doesn't know why or how, but all that matters is, it's there. But now he wonders, what do the two want to wish for? And are they actually going to use the Dragon Balls for good? That might actually be the true judgment of their character, what kind of wish they make. Kakarot and Raditz decide, they're just going to stay here while they figure things out. They have no clue of where else to go or what to do in the time being. Obviously, their main goal is to defeat Turles, but how are they supposed to even do that? Raditz has this amazing power, but has no way to control that. So that's kind of his main focus for now. And as for Kakarot, well, he has Supreme Saiyan, and he doesn't really need to practice with that too much, but he needs to figure out some other ways to grow stronger, a way for them to defeat Turles in a surefire way. But most importantly, they just need somewhere to stay. They have no base of operations now, so this is the best they got. Hey, at least this place has real food though. And it's kinda off the grid, not entirely though. They could even live here permanently, but they don't really feel right about using Earth like that. At least Kakarot doesn't. It's gonna draw too much attention to this planet and they don't really deserve it. Like, Kakarot's a bad guy, but he's not evil for the sake of being evil. And he does still have some connection to Earth, just like Tenshinhan noted in the last part. Deep down, it's because Kakarot actually has somewhat of a soft spot for it. While they're on Earth, let's actually go out into space for a bit. We're gonna rewind a bit too, back to when the battle ended between Turles, Kakarot, and Raditz. As Turles boards the ship and leaves, he watches on as he sees a streak of light fly across the universe, that streak of light being Kakarot and Raditz departing. Broly asks if they should chase after those two, but Turles says it's not really worth it right now. He wants to be strong enough to defeat them with his own strength. It's part of his pride. The two worked well at keeping the fruit of the Tree of Might away from him. He almost won there. Although, he kinda scolds Broly for blowing up that star. That was a pretty big one, and he was gonna get a lot of power from that fruit from the tree. Broly apologizes, but Turles isn't really too pissed off about it. They could find more. I mean, there's a whole universe of them. It's just they take longer than normal fruits, and that one would have been particularly strong. Look at what it did with Raditz. Turles has been pacing himself with the fruits after all. And besides the fact that it took a long time for that one to grow, it's been a while since he's had a few. But he's not just relying on that for his power. He does train in the meantime too. That's part of the reason Broly's there. One of the strongest people in his army, but also his greatest training partner. Broly has some insane latent potential. With his army constantly surveying the universe, trying to find strong planets, they ended up finding Vampa, detecting Broly's power. Of course, the planet was pretty useless, but Turles was surprised to see two Saiyans on here. Paragus and Broly definitely aren't too fond of the Saiyans, but Turles says they don't need to worry. His goal is to actually eliminate two other Saiyans right now, and he explains everything that's happened, convincing them to join his ranks. I mean, they don't really have a choice either way. At least Paragus doesn't. It's not like he could fight back against Turles. Maybe Broly would have tried to fight back, but it definitely wouldn't have been a smart option. Turles ended up utilizing Broly's power, using him as a training partner. As of now, Broly is pretty powerful, but Turles is able to tame him. Seeing Broly utilizing Wrathful during training, but not really going beyond that. Infernal Saiyan is way too much for Broly to handle, even with his immense strength. And Turles wonders, one day maybe, once Broly controls his power at least, Broly could actually have one of the fruits of the Tree of Might from the stars. And it would have a very significant effect on him. But Turles can also see, Broly's not really a terrible guy. Paragus is using him for his own gain, and so is Turles. And as far as Broly is concerned, those other two Saiyans are evil anyways. Again, he and Paragus don't really have a choice here, unless they want to do something very risky and try and defeat Turles somehow. Some time passes. Raditz and Kakarot are laying low, so Turles can't even really sense their power. At most, he'll sense Raditz powering up into Infernal Saiyan sometimes, but they're so far away now that it's not really that accurate. And it's so few and far in between that, unless they're actively looking for it, they don't really feel it. And that's just Turles. The rest of his army, they have to rely on scouters and stuff. But Turles senses something pretty interesting nearby. He sees a spaceship not too far away one day, and he senses a pretty strong power on it. Interesting. What's this? He didn't think there was any other strong people in the universe. Comparable to him at least. And all of a sudden, those powers on that spaceship, they disappear. And Turles then senses it near him. They're on his ship. Wait, what? As he's looking out, he can see that spaceship landing on a nearby moon, and Turles commands his army to land this ship as well. As he turns around, a pink, demonic-looking man is standing there. He launches a blast at Turles, flinging him right out into the vacuum of space. Turles powers up in the nick of time into Evil Saiyan, surviving out here in the vacuum. Telekinetically, he drags the man out of the ship as well, with the ship struggling to stabilize itself, landing on that moon as well. Little do they know, that other spaceship that just landed on that moon, it's Babidi's ship, and he has Boo with him. Turles will be the perfect way to draw out some power for Boo, and the best part is, Turles knows nothing about it. If they work quickly enough too, the Supreme Kai will never notice. They're worried about him intervening and stopping this somehow. But Babidi thinks since they're doing this on a whim, and can get in and out with the energy, this could be a successful endeavor. Some of Babidi's guards jump out of the ship as well, including Pui Pui and Yakon. Meanwhile, as Turles' ship lands, Broly and some other soldiers from the Crusher Corps step off, easily fending off against Babidi's small army, as Broly then tries to board the ship. Well, Babidi has to be a little bit more careful, but he can at least stall them for the time being, especially with people like Pui Pui and Yakon, with Broly having no idea of how to fight Yakon either. And on top of that, they'll gain energy from Broly too. He looks into his crystal ball, up out in space. He could even possess somebody here, but he doesn't even really need to. Look at the power he's gaining just from Turles and Dabura fighting. Dabura thinks he's able to contend fairly well with Turles at first, until Turles stops playing around. He doesn't even transform into Infernal Saiyan, he just uses Evil Saiyan. And with the full power of this, he's able to defeat Dabura pretty quickly. Not kill Dabura though. He needs to get some info first, asking who he is and how to even get on the ship. And Dabura can already tell. Their plan is going very smoothly. And it's good that Turles doesn't kill him. So he decides to stall a bit, giving Turles a background on who he is and why they're here. Not revealing Boo though, just saying that he's here at the request of Babidi, a magician whom Turles has no hope of defeating. A magician? And he's that strong? Really? Of course Dabura's bluffing, and he continues speaking until Babidi eventually teleports him back down to the ship, with Turles then looking down at that moon nearby. Something fishy's going on here. He'll find that Dabura guy again and kill him instantly. It doesn't matter what realm he rules over or who he's working for. Turles will win here. As a way to intimidate them, he powers up, going into an Infernal Saiyan. Oh, Babidi didn't even expect this. Perfect. Turles launched down to the planet, plowing through the rest of Babidi's soldiers, including Yakon, who Broly was actually having a tough time fighting due to him absorbing the light around Broly. He's kind of bummed about this because he just figured out how to defeat the guy, but whatever. He asks Turles what's going on, and he says he really has no clue. And Broly says it's the same down here. They don't know what's going on. But Turles senses Dabura's energy. In his hand, he charges a small blast, lunging it right down at the bottom of the ship, opening up all the floors, creating a tunnel right down to the bottom. And through it, he can see Dabura and Babidi. He and Broly jump down, with them being teleported into the Demon Realm, or something like that. More of Babidi's tricks, and they have no clue of what's going on. And Dabura's ready to fight, lunging in at Broly. Maybe he can kill this guy first. But before he can even hit Broly, Broly then powers up. Going into his wrathful form, and with one attack, he punches right through Dabura's chest, killing him. Oh, okay. Babidi's watching all this, and he kind of expected Dabura to die here, but it doesn't matter. Both of them are giving so much energy off right now. And Dabura was kind of expendable. Look at Broly, giving off that energy from Wrathful. And Turles, he didn't expect him to transform to his full power right away, but it's perfect. They've already gathered so much energy from them, and Babidi only needs a little bit more. Some of the Neo Crusher Corps soldiers then enter, with Turles telling them to split up and find Babidi. He already disappeared, but they don't listen to him. Instead, they're being possessed by Babidi right now. He could try and possess Broly or Turles, but it would be a little bit too tough and he's not sure if he wants to risk that. So why is he getting these soldiers to follow his orders? Turles has no clue of what's happening at first, but then one of the soldiers is able to stab Turles, taking just a fraction of energy from him, and Babidi quickly teleports that soldier away, knowing he's about to die instantly from Turles' attack. And as swiftly as possible, Babidi tries to take this energy, giving it to Boo, and he's astounded at how much there is. Whoa. Immediately, it gets Boo to 100%, giving all the energy he needs. Babidi teleported himself and the egg outside already, with Turles and Broly angrily launching up, mercilessly destroying any of the Majin soldiers along the way. And now Turles is fuming, and then he sees Babidi up there, standing next to the egg, laughing. Turles draws his hands together, quickly charging a kill driver, launching it right at Boo's egg. But just before it hits, the egg explodes, with Boo then jumping out, and Turles' attack being nullified. And Babidi thanks them, explaining what happened. He just came here to get energy from them in order to revive Boo. And Turles can sense Boo's energy. It's powerful, but not too crazy. He's shocked at first, but then he chuckles. He thanks Babidi too. Because of this, he might actually have a fun battle. But Babidi's got the wrong idea if he thinks Boo's gonna kill him. He and Broly descend downwards, now calmer than before. Turles is still, and suddenly disappears out of sight. Before anyone could even react, Babidi then explodes, with Turles quickly moving and appearing right behind Babidi, using just a fraction of his power to kill him. Alright, now that he's out of the way and there's no more of his tricks, they could fight this Majin Boo or whatever he's called. In front of Boo is Broly, and behind him is Turles. The two launch in. At full power, Boo sticks both hands out, trying to catch them, and it's tough. He struggles holding them back at first, but the two continue launching forward, pushing each side of Boo into him. The two then collide, with Boo being crushed in between. They think that'll kill him, but they could see immediately that he just regenerates from it. He's a malleable guy, and this has no effect on him. Okay, this shouldn't be too bad. They just need to destroy him completely some other way. Do so much damage that he can't regenerate from it at all. Boo gives off an evil grin, ready to fight them. Oh yeah, this part's not about Kakarot or Raditz. This is a Turles part. For this part, he's the main character. Surprise! The battle between these two Saiyans and Boo continues. And Boo's kind of pissing Turles off. He's not too tough of an opponent to fight, but it's the fact that he continues regenerating. It seems like he's not getting tired out at all. Alright, how about this? He grabs onto Boo, flinging him out in space. He tells Broly he's gonna have to sit this one out. This moon definitely doesn't have enough space for them to battle. But he says he could use Broly's help. Charge an attack. Launch one up there. Turles will keep an opening for him. And together, the two can combine their powers, defeating this monster. Turles launches out into space, meeting Boo where he threw, and Broly looks up, easily seeing Turles' light, as he battles Boo out in the vacuum of space. Broly powers up, surrounded by a fierce green aura. He tries to summon his anger, something that Turles has been trying to get him to control. He knows he might go berserk, but it doesn't matter. Turles will be able to stop him in case he does. He powers up into Wrathful first, then begins charging energy in his hands. Coalescing all of his power together, Turles fights Boo out in space, enjoying this too. For once, another opponent that he could fight out in the vacuum. He loves battling out in space, but on top of that, Boo is actually able to keep up with his power somewhat, especially with how much Boo's regenerating. And amidst the fight, Turles tries to ask questions about him, who he is, who created him, what is he? Of course, Boo has no comprehensive answer, but Turles has a way to actually do this. Seeing that Boo could be split into pieces and whatnot, Turles then reaches out, grabbing Boo, ripping off a small chunk of him, coating it in his own ki, just so it doesn't get reattached to Boo or regenerate somehow. This kinda does piss Boo off, but Turles says he'll be sure to study this, stashing it away, making sure that Boo can't get to it. And he can sense Broly's power. Broly runs around the planet trying to keep up with the battle, and suddenly, Turles grabs onto Boo, holding him tight as they fly outwards into space, with Turles then looping around, picking up speed as he launches him right towards the moon. He flings Boo downward, then launching his own attack following Boo, and as Boo is launched towards the planet, Broly launches his own attack out into space, with the two attacks colliding, hitting Boo right in the middle. Boo is completely and utterly destroyed by this combo, with Turles then landing back on the planet, thanking Broly, seeing that he's lost control just like he expected, and then knocking Broly out. And Boo's not regenerated. He's been completely destroyed. Although, there's that one piece that Turles got, the one that he separated from Boo, making sure it wouldn't get back to him. This is the last remaining chunk of Boo, but it can't regenerate. It's coated, held together by Turles' fierce ki, and it's a very small piece of him too. And Turles looks down at it. He had an idea. What if he can get his army, all the scientists there? What if they could study this, make their own Boo, try and reverse engineer him or something, maybe make one of his own? And not just that, but one that's far superior to this one. This one was kind of an idiot. Theirs, they can make one far stronger, one that possibly even takes notes from himself, or Broly. That piece of Boo levitates in front of him, coated by Turles' burning ki, prevented from regenerating. This could actually work. And even better, not only could they recreate Boo, but what if it could benefit Turles somehow? By studying this power, he could attain it for himself, use it somehow. He's not too sure, but his mind is racing, all these thoughts running through his head. The brilliant scientist and his crew could definitely figure something out. And in the meantime, he'll focus on getting Broly to control his power. He's another very valuable weapon and a great training partner. And now, we head back to Earth. Kakarot and Raditz actually do sense all this out in space. They weren't actively looking for it, but with how long it was going on, and the fact that Turles was powered up fully, they could actually sense it. Ten could feel it too. He felt that ki before, very vaguely, and as he tries to focus, he can kind of sense it, but it's so far away that they could barely feel it. Krillin asks what the hell that is, and Kakarot explains, that's Turles, the guy they told him about, that other Saiyan that they just fought. It doesn't seem like he's grown too much stronger, but who is he fighting out there? And they can sense Broly's power too. Very faintly, but still sensing it. And Kakarot turns to the humans. Those are the people that they need to defeat. That's why they're seeking out more power, seeking out the Dragon Balls. Ten is still not too sure how to feel about this, but again, they don't have the Dragon Balls. Kami didn't remake them yet. But if Kakarot does end up using them, finding them somewhere else, or even here, they're all kind of concerned about the result. Things die down for the time being. No giant red ribbon monsters, no ancient artificial life forms, no more stars blowing up being absorbed by trees, none of that. At least for a few weeks. As Kakarot and Raditz train together on Earth one day, they then see a large pillar of light land before them, and as it dissipates, two people are standing there. They have no clue of who they are. The one that looks like a purple cat asks, are either of them Saiyans? Oh great, another person looking to eradicate Saiyans. Kakarot steps in. Yeah, who's asking? And the man introduces himself, Lord Beerus, the god of destruction of Universe 7. What, Lord Beerus? That's the guy that Vegeta was telling them about a long time ago. Raditz heard some stories about him, and Kakarot vaguely did remember hearing about him, but doesn't know too much, since he was around Vegeta a lot less than Raditz, but Raditz definitely knows. And now the two of them are terrified. Well, what is he looking for? Why does he want Saiyans? And Beerus asks them, do they know anything about the Super Saiyan God?
The Super Saiyan what? They have no clue of how to respond, or why Beerus is here. How did he even find them? But Beerus says, something disturbed him in his sleep, some fight going on. He doesn't know if they were involved, but he does know that there's a couple other Saiyans that exist out there. 3 of them that are far away, off owning some army or whatever, and then 2 of them that are here. But these guys actually seemed a little bit stronger, collectively at least. And Beerus did kind of want to check out this planet too because of the food on it. But he says if they know nothing about it, he could just simply destroy them, finding those other 3 Saiyans and seeing if they know anything. So he asks again, what do they know about the Super Saiyan God? Raditz and Kakarot have no idea how to react. They're terrified of Beerus. But at the same time, if there's some new Super Saiyan form out there that they don't know of, they want to learn it. They don't want Turles and Broly getting that. They need to do whatever they can, whatever they can find in their power to actually obtain this. So they ask Beerus, what does he know about this form? Well, that's why he came here. He knew nothing about it. He wants to see what they know. All he knows is that he has some sort of rival that's supposed to awaken soon, and that rival is going to be a Super Saiyan God. Well, they don't know anything about a Super Saiyan God, but they have their own forms. Maybe one of them is that form. And knowing that they probably shouldn't mess with Beerus, they're not going to play around here. Right from the get-go, they want to show off their full power. Kakarot goes into Supreme Saiyan, while Raditz transforms into Infernal Saiyan. He's actually the stronger of the 2, gaining a little bit more control over this form than he had before. Although it still is kind of tough to maintain. Consider how far he jumped into this form, and how much power it holds. While Turles, he kind of eased himself into it. And Beerus is actually surprised. He wasn't aware these 2 could transform that much. No wonder Kakarot was able to defeat Frieza. And according to Whis, apparently cooler too. Kakarot says he's fought more than just them. They weren't even the strongest battles he's faced. And Beerus is somewhat impressed, but he's not going to be fully impressed until he actually gets to fight them. First he'll fight the one with shiny orange hair, then the one with fiery hair. Kakarot agrees, telling Beerus to witness the power of a Supreme Saiyan. A battle between the 2 ensues, but it's not really fair to call it a battle. Beerus is dodging every single attack, no matter how quickly Kakarot tries to fight. And while Raditz waits for his turn, some of the humans show up too, sensing them powering up. Immediately they're mortified, mainly Krillin and Yamcha. They see Kakarot fighting some purple alien, and then another guy standing nearby too. And it seems like Kakarot definitely isn't winning, and they can't even sense that guy's power. Raditz tells them they have this under control, briefly explaining who they are. A god of destruction? That just makes things worse. That makes it even more terrifying. Kakarot is then launched back down to the surface, crashing in the dirt nearby as Raditz then powers up. Kakarot stands back up saying he's not done, but Raditz tells him to not piss off Beerus. They don't know what he's capable of. He just wants to do exactly what Beerus says. So with Infernal Saiyan, he launches in. And even though he's stronger, it's still surprisingly the same result. But amidst Raditz's fight, Kakarot flies upwards. He asks Beerus, can they fight him together? And not on this planet. They're kind of limited by fighting here because they don't want to blow it up on accident. Wait, can they survive in space? Interesting. He didn't realize Saiyans were capable of that. Well, not any normal Saiyans, and they clearly aren't normal Saiyans. They actually prefer fighting out there anyways. It gives them way more room to maneuver, and less things to get in their way. The 3 fly out into space. And before following them, Whis then turns to the other humans. Are they looking to contend against Lord Beerus as well? Nervously, they all back off, not wanting to fight him at all. But Ten steps up and asks, what is Beerus here for? He's looking for his next rival, the Super Saiyan God. As the 2v1 happens in space, Beerus still has no effort at all fighting them. He tells them, for mortals, they are decently strong. Definitely not on his level though. But he sees, they have potential to be way stronger, if this Super Saiyan God even does exist. He wonders if it's a person or a form. And after seeing these 2 transform, and apparently the fact that these aren't their only forms, he begins to think it might be the latter. Super Saiyan God is a form, possibly something they can get. And that's it. That's what they could wish for. Wait, wish? What do they mean by that? Well, they were seeking out the Dragon Balls, and they wanted to wish for something to help defeat Turles, but they didn't know what to wish for. At the same time, they didn't want to just have power granted to them either. They were probably going to wish for like immortality or something. But this actually makes it way more fun. If they could find the Dragon Balls and wish for a way to actually learn how to get Super Saiyan God, not necessarily have it handed to them, just a way for them to get it. They want to get the knowledge and obtain it for themselves. But there's no Dragon Balls here on Earth. Well, Whis says that there are a few other sets of Dragon Balls. There's Namek, Planet Cereal, and of course the Super Dragon Balls. But the latter seems like a little bit too much for what they're asking for. And Kakarot perks up. Yeah, Cereal. They actually wanted to go back there. They've seen the power that those Dragon Balls can grant. They just don't know how to find the planet. Otherwise they would have flown there themselves. And Whis says that's not a problem, especially because Beerus likes this idea. Well, if it's gonna get him the Super Saiyan God, then so be it. He'll take them wherever they need. Quickly they fly back down to Earth, telling the humans they're gonna leave very quick. They'll be back soon. Ten tells them to be careful. They don't know what they're dealing with. And Kakarot says he's not concerned. Beerus doesn't seem that awful. He's terrifying, but it seems like they're on his good side for now. And who knows, maybe they'll come back with even more power than before. Well, Ten hopes they're right. They've actually had a pretty good time training with the Saiyans here, growing stronger from it too. And Ten did consider asking Kami to make a new set of Dragon Balls, just to ask for the Super Saiyan God to appease Beerus. But this is a better way. This is the least risky option for Earth, letting Kakarot and Raditz go find the Dragon Balls on their own, somewhere out in space. And that'll be a true test of how much they've changed, what they decide to wish for out there. They can prevent a wish down here, but not out in space, at Planet Cereal. Kakarot and Raditz fly back up into space to meet Whis and Beerus again.
Chaozu asks, is he really sure about this? Well, Ten says there's not really anything else they could do. And Krillin's fairly optimistic. Those two don't seem too terrible. Yamcha agrees, and Ten says he's actually pretty surprised. After that time they spent with them, it's kinda weird. Kakarot definitely isn't the same person as before, but not in a bad way. It seems like he's actually better. He was so misguided back then, and he definitely is still misguided now. And it's not just from what he saw on Earth, it's from what he heard from Kakarot and Raditz too, the stories they mentioned. They were both out on a conquest before, and now they're mainly just seeking power. And Ten smiles. If they were on that conquest, well, they'd pretty much all be dead by now. Earth would be under their rule and there's nothing they could do about it. The others are terrified at how casually he says this. But Ten says it's the truth. Kakarot definitely has changed. Beerus and Whis take the two Saiyans to planet Cereal, and it doesn't really take too long. They arrive on the planet, and just as they do, Granola jumps out, ready to attack the two new people there. He can't sense their energy, but he saw that giant pillar of light from far away when they landed. And he looks at them, but he sees nowhere to hit them, no vital points. He thinks these are invaders and he's ready to put down his life to fight against them. More people seeking out the Dragon Balls. But then Kakarot and Raditz step out. He drops his guard, standing there nervously. And the second Kakarot sees Granola with his guard up, he flips out, telling Granola to stop. Don't try and attack. He doesn't want to piss off Beerus or Whis. And Granola's surprised. Obviously he doesn't know Kakarot or Raditz too well, but last time he saw them, they weren't nearly this freaked out, especially when facing Lord Slug. And especially once he hears Beerus' title, God of Destruction, he realized this is something he shouldn't mess with. Kakarot tells Granola, they're just here for the Dragon Balls, and he doesn't know what to think of this. But Beerus explains himself. He's looking for a rival, a Super Saiyan God of sorts, and those Dragon Balls are the key to helping him find that. Granola doesn't even know what to say. He's terrified. But Raditz reassures him, they're not here for anything malicious. They just want to get some knowledge from the dragon, and leave immediately after. And obviously, Granola doesn't even know if they're telling the truth. He barely knows the two of them, but at the same time, it's not like he could really do anything. And if he does decide to attack them right now and lash out against them, well, he's dead either way. He saw a brief glimpse of their power when they landed here, and that's just the two Saiyans, not Beerus or Whis. The fact that he's still alive is proof enough. Reluctantly, he agrees, leading them to Monaido. And Monaido says he doesn't really like this idea, but they might have no choice. And before they make the wish, Monaido does warn them. Whatever they wish for may have consequences. Taranbo's a very powerful dragon, but if the wish is too powerful, he could take something away from them. A bargain of sorts. Weird. They wonder what Lord Slug gave up. Not that it matters though, he's dead anyways. But they'll keep this in mind. The dragon is summoned, and Taranbo is immediately terrified when he sees Beerus. Beerus says not to worry, just grant the stupid wish. Kakarot asks, how can they obtain the Super Saiyan God form? And since Beerus is here, Taranbo's a little lenient, and gives them a few options. For one, he could grant them the form. Of course, he might have to compress their lifespan for it. He also says they can perform a ritual for the Super Saiyan God, explaining that they'll need 4 more Saiyans to do so, and they're gonna have to be righteous Saiyans too. Not only do they not have enough Saiyans, but they definitely don't have any righteous ones. But there is a third option. They could obtain it on their own, by getting access to God Ki somehow, and training to harness that. But how are they supposed to get Godly Ki? Taranbo says it'll take a lot of time. But there is something he can do, infuse them with Godly Ki. But there is a condition though. He'll need someone to grant it to them. This way it'll give them a jump start. And even though they would rather train for it on their own, they don't know if that'll even work. And Beerus wants to see this form now, so he tells them to go with this wish. And even though that first wish is enticing to Beerus, he can't go with that. What if their lives are compressed too much, and the Super Saiyan God dies shortly after being born? He tells Taranbo he'll grant a small amount of his Godly Ki, and if the dragon can infuse that Ki within them, then so be it. In his hands, he creates a small orb of energy, but the energy contained in this orb is massive. It's a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of Beerus' power, but it's still a significant amount, and it's pure Godly Ki. Taranbo nervously accepts this, and he confirms the wish with the two Saiyans. Kakarot and Raditz agree. But before the wish is made, Granola interrupts. He sees an opportunity here. He apologizes to Beerus, but he asks. He wants to be granted Godly Ki too. Monaido's surprised by this. Why? What does he need that for? Does he still want that stupid revenge that he's after? I mean, Frieza and Cooler are dead anyways. But Granola says it's not that. He needs to be able to protect this planet. After seeing how powerful these two have gotten, and that last encounter with Lord Slug, Granola thinks he might not be able to protect this planet if it comes to it. And besides, he knows there's others out there. He sensed Turles and Broly. He knows there's still people out there trying to dominate the universe. He needs to protect against them somehow. And Beerus is curious. Is he even strong to begin with? And Kakarot and Raditz actually vouch for him surprisingly. A while back, they fought together. They saw Granola's power. He's strong. It could potentially grow even stronger. Raditz remembers too. The Cerealians have some pretty unique abilities. Hearing about the time the Saiyans invaded this planet, but only having vague knowledge of it, Granola says this is true. And this actually makes Beerus pretty curious. Well, normally he wouldn't be this gracious, but they are intruding on his planet after all. And really, he should destroy Granola right now for even stepping up to them. But the potential of another strong rival, Beerus isn't really going to turn that down, especially if Kakarot and Raditz are vouching for it. If these mortals are saying that other mortal is strong by mortal standards, well, sure, why not go for it? Consider this compensation for using Taranbo as well. The wish is granted, with the power being split amongst the three. God Ki is infused into Kakarot, Raditz, and Granola. And at first, the three don't really feel much of a change, but they try tapping into that godly Ki. There's an immense reserve of power in there. Their base alone is incredibly powerful compared to where it was before. And that was just a small amount of Beerus' Ki, divided amongst the three of them. And Monaido's amazed too. He can't even sense the power, but still. He's just glad that Granola wasn't wishing for that just so he can get revenge on somebody. But Granola assures Monaido, it's fine. Well, now that they have this godly Ki, they need to train for the Super Saiyan God. They know it exists at least. It's a form they need to work towards, so Beerus says they're going to come to his planet. No ifs, ands, or buts. He's going to whip them into shape, because they decided to take this route too. He's already a bit annoyed that they didn't just ask for the form as is, but he knew it wasn't necessarily an ideal wish. And while he's at it, he turns to Granola too. He's not too sure how strong a Cerulean can grow. Whis says they have some pretty strong potential. They were formidable opponents for Saiyans a long time ago too, and look how strong these Saiyans have grown. Although Whis doesn't really have a clue because Granola's really the only Cerulean left. And beyond that, he's the strongest to ever have existed. So it will be kind of a gamble. Beerus says since he did want to intrude on the wish, he's going to have to come to their planet too. At first he's shocked to hear this, but he obliges. This will actually be good for him. What's the point of getting this Ki if he can't learn to hone it? He needs to grow as a Cerulean somehow, especially seeing all these threats out there. If Turles ever were to come to his planet, and Kakarot and Raditz weren't around to help him, he's going to need a way to defend against it himself. He says goodbye to Monaido as he heads off with the two other Saiyans. Kakarot and Raditz are pretty surprised that it turned out this way too. This is great, it's another training partner for them. And yeah, Granola wasn't near their level of power before, but he was still pretty strong for a random mortal that they found out in space. They even laugh at this. Look at them, they're already calling other people mortals. They just were mortals a few minutes ago. And now everyone has a new task, learning to control godly Ki. Granola's not too sure where it'll take him, but Beerus jokes around. Maybe there's a Super Cerulean God too. And he nervously laughs, but then he's terrified because he realizes Beerus probably thinks he has transformations beyond his current state right now. He doesn't know if they even exist. And he has no clue how to tell Beerus about this. Oh crap, what did he get himself into? Months pass as they start training on this planet, and the entire time, Beerus wonders, what about those other Saiyans out there? These two, they seem pretty adamant for Beerus to not seek out those other two Saiyans. And he asks Whis, can he look into them a bit? And Whis says he could definitely do so. It seems they didn't want Beerus to seek him out because they had some sort of grudge between them. Maybe Kakarot and Raditz didn't want the other Saiyans to get the Super Saiyan God power. They wanted it for themselves. And Beerus says that kinda does make sense. But after hearing about how strong those other two are, well, they're around the level of Kakarot and Raditz. Apparently that one Saiyan, Broly, doesn't really know how to control his power, with Whis showing Beerus the fight against Majin Buu. But Beerus is curious, seeing Turles fight against Buu. He seems quite strong. He has that same form that Raditz has and can actually control it better. But at the same time he sees, Turles is too much of a loose cannon. And Whis is surprised that Beerus says this. Beerus is kind of a loose cannon too. Beerus tells him to shut up. He's saying that because he's not sure of what Turles would even do with that power. Not that he's scared of it. Turles will still be far below him, even if he became a Super Saiyan God. But long term, he plans for these two Saiyans to become his rivals, and not just that, potentially becoming the next God of Destruction. And who knows, if Turles were a God of Destruction, he'd take his job way too seriously possible, destroying everything just for the fun of it. Whis butts in again. Doesn't Beerus do the same as well? Beerus tells him to shut up again. He's just cranky from waking up from his nap. And even if he does destroy things at random at some points, it's not anything in comparison to what he thinks Turles would do with that power. The whole universe would be gone. Universe 7 wouldn't exist anymore. Hell, he might even find a way to drain the power from the universe itself, seeing as he's first started with planets and is now up to stars. But either way, it's not too important to think on. For now, he has his two rivals and that's all he needs. Especially because after these few months, they've all made progress, growing significantly stronger. But one day, there's a breakthrough. Kakarot and Raditz look at Beerus. They've done it. They've obtained the form Super Saiyan God. And Beerus can't believe what he's hearing. Well, what are they waiting for? Show him already. He's waited so long for this. He was already pissed off that he couldn't find it immediately, but now, they have no reason to hold it from him any longer. And the two stand alongside each other. They're surrounded by a fiery aura, and Granola watches on amazed. Their vital points, they're completely gone. Their Ki has changed significantly, even compared to that godly Ki they just had beforehand. And it's not an explosive transformation like they have with their other forms. They're simply coated by the aura, and calmly, the aura dissipates, with the two Saiyans standing there, now with red hair, looking slimmer and younger, with a divine Ki surrounding them. And Beerus says, this is definitely it. This is the power of a Super Saiyan God. The two stand there, immediately ready to test it out, and Beerus is elated. Finally, his wait is over. Beerus looks on in awe, amazed at the sight of a Super Saiyan God. Two of them, in fact. Deep down, he knows that they still won't be enough to challenge him. So, instead, why not another 2v1? He invites them both to fight him, both at once. He wants to see the true power of the Super Saiyan God duo. And a battle between them ensues. Everyone's moving so quickly. Whis watches on impressed at his two students, with Granola watching on amazed. Thankfully he's a god-level fighter and can keep track of this, especially with the fact that he has great eyesight. But he can't imagine anyone else trying to watch this fight. It's happening so quickly. Their sheer speed, power, everything. He could sense it. It makes him really wonder if he has a god form too that he can access. These Saiyans have a ton of transformations, but
For him, he hasn't achieved much. There is one power-up he's gained though. He's awoken his second eye, having 2 red eyes now. He's empowered by that and his godly ki, but he wonders if he can get a true godly form like those two. Beerus, Raditz, and Kakarot dash around the planet, high above the surface, with Beerus enjoying every second of it. This power is greater than he expected. He sees that they're not on his level, not just yet, but they have the potential to get there. And they're amazed by the power too, but at the same time, underwhelmed. They felt like they could be on Beerus' level once they attain this form, but it seems not. But Beerus tells them, don't get so down on themselves. This is just the first step. Just look at what these Saiyans have achieved before. He's seen their other forms. Those previous forms, like Super Saiyan or Kakarot's Evil Saiyan form, those acted like stepping stones of sorts. The first part of their journey into other forms. And if they were able to improve those forms, building upon them, maybe they could do the same with Super Saiyan God. The 3 of them land, with Beerus impressed. He tells them their next step is to improve Super Saiyan God, in any way possible. They're on the right path, but still, their power needs to be a little bit higher to contend with him. Well, a lot higher. And also he tells them, it needs to be a lot higher if they want to contend with Turles. They have no clue about how strong he is right now. But Beerus says Whis has been keeping tabs on him. Turles isn't just sitting around twiddling his thumbs. He may be unlocking his own new powers soon. Kakarot and Raditz are amazed to hear this. So is Granola. He started to hear a bit more about Turles from the 2 other Saiyans. And naturally, Granola's going to be against him. Turles is an evil Saiyan. A true evil Saiyan, unlike these 2, who are not nearly as bad as him anymore. But it's not just that. His role right now, he's on a conquest for power. He's directly absorbing the energy from planets. And stars too, taking it all for himself. But more importantly, he has direct control over Frieza's army. It's under a different name, but it still is the Frieza Force. Granola's definitely glad that Frieza and Cooler are dead. But what's the point if somebody's going to take his place? In Granola's eyes, Turles is just a new Frieza. More of a reason to have a grudge against Turles as well. Back at the Neo Crusher Core, Turles is preparing something immense. From that piece of Boo that he had, they're trying to make a new Boo, one that only answers to Turles. He wants to use Boo as a weapon. But at the same time, he's not really involved with that project. He's still going around, planting more trees of mites. Mostly, he's eating fruits from planets. He still has to pace himself with stars after all. But now his body is fully adapted. He has no need to pace himself with fruits from planets. He's growing immensely stronger by the day, but he is seeing diminishing gains from the fruits. But one day, an idea comes to him. An idea regarding Boo. Instead of using him as a soldier, there may be a better way to utilize Boo's power. He hatches a perfect idea, immediately going over to his army. We enter a brief time skip. Kakarot, Raditz, and Granola continue training on Beerus' planet, and they've grown significantly, but at a certain point, they feel like they've gained more than enough power. This should be enough to defeat Turles, no matter how strong he's grown by now. And Beerus questions if they're truly ready for it. Well, if they want to go, they can. He'll let them leave for now. But he does warn them, if they don't come back alive, he'll just take Turles as his next Super Saiyan God rival. So, the pressure's on. Whis offers to take them, but they decline. They're going to travel the old-fashioned way, using a spaceship so they can spend the time traveling to plan. Also, they don't want Beerus or Whis to meet Turles too. They still have no clue about how those two will react and if they'll take a liking to Turles or not. So, that's partially the reason. They take Granola's spaceship, and the 3 can clearly sense his energy. It's so powerful, even when he's not at his full strength, they can sense it all the way across the universe. And they basically just use that to guide them. They spend the time on the ship resting, getting ready for a massive battle. But on their way over to Turles, they pass by a very strange solar system. Kakarot looks out into space, and tells Raditz to come look too. There's a couple of planets, and Raditz says he sees nothing abnormal about them, but Kakarot says to look closer. All of them have some sort of giant mountain on it. And not just a mountain, no, it's like sticking out into space. It's almost as if another planet is attached to them. The strangest part is, it definitely does not look natural. And the fact that it's multiple planets around here. But the weirdest part of all is the star nearby. There seems to be some sort of massive structure around it. Or at least, one in the process of being built. Maybe this has something to do with Turles, a new plan of his or something, some new technology that he has. Alarms start going off in the ship, and Granola tries to pilot it away. They ask him what's going on, and he says they're under attack. Something's latched onto the ship, and they're being pulled into a nearby planet. What the hell's happening here? The ship starts spinning out of control, and then crashes. The 3 are relatively uninjured, and they jump out of the remains of the ship. They have no clue about what happened, but it was clearly deliberate. They're on one of those nearby planets, one that had that giant mass on it. Something then reaches out of the ground, trying to grab onto their legs. They jump up, floating high above, wondering what the hell's going on. But then they see something sticking out of the ground nearby, and it starts building itself up into something else. A mass of wires appears, forming together with a bunch of metal, and they see a humanoid standing there. The man rises up, floating in front of them as well. Kakarot and Raditz's jaws drop, and Granola doesn't know who he's looking at, but he has somewhat of an idea. The 2 brothers can't believe it. Is that Cooler? And Granola turns to them. Wait, if that's Cooler, then what the hell happened? He thought they killed Cooler. And they say they weren't lying, they did kill Cooler. This looks like him, but looks like he's made out of metal or something. This Cooler lookalike smiles. He introduces himself.
This is a new incarnation of Cooler, Metal Cooler. Kakarot almost fully destroyed Cooler, although there were some bits and pieces left. Thankfully, he was found by the big Gete star, with the two merging, and ever since then, he's been amassing even more power. First taking over moons, then planets, and now an entire solar system. Creating a Dyson sphere around the star to use it as power, and using the materials from all the nearby planets to grow even further. And he's glad he found them, telling them he was in the process of seeking Turles out too. He tried looking for these Saiyans, but the only power he could detect was Turles', which explains why they're on the same course. This is one of the systems he's infected so far. Everybody lands on the surface, and Kakarot proudly proclaims he might be stronger, maybe a lot stronger, but they tell Cooler he could definitely not contend with what they are now. Kakarot transforms, going into Supreme Saiyan, and he smiles. It's gonna be kinda funny. This will be the second time he'll use this form to kill Cooler, and Raditz proudly proclaims, no matter how strong he is now, there's no way he can contend with gods. And Cooler's surprised to hear this, but smiles. Maybe they're a little too confident in their own strength. He disappears from sight, fighting Kakarot, and Kakarot's actually impressed. His power is keeping up with Supreme Saiyan, but it's fine. He has stronger forms, and Raditz and Granola are there too. But Kakarot looks down at the surface. A few more Coolers pop up, with them starting to fight Raditz and Granola. Wait, there's more than one? The Cooler fighting Kakarot laughs. He can make as many as he needs. He tells them they'll also make perfect batteries for what he has in mind. He had the big Gete star before, but now he's looking for bigger things. Now, he's aiming to make a big Gete galaxy of sorts, taking over multiple solar systems for himself, using it to amass immense amounts of strength. And not only will they be perfect batteries for him, but at the same time, he can enact his revenge, finally getting rid of the two of them. If he can make infinite copies of himself, they're going to need to reserve their power. So, Kakarot transforms, but doesn't use his full power, going into Super Saiyan God, and Raditz uses this cue to do the same, with Granola fully powering up as well. He tries to focus. These are machines, so finding vital points may be different from when he finds them in actual living people, but he still probably can. There has to be some sort of weak point somewhere, and he looks around. The metal coolers do have weak points, but every time one of them is destroyed, it just regenerates, learning from that. But Granola realizes he's looking in the wrong place. Oatmeal tells him, these are just copies. They need to look for the source of the copies, and Granola starts darting his eyes around. And up in space, he sees something faintly, very far away. That might be the source of it. A satellite flying around the solar system, one that seems to be the source of all of these. He jumps up in the air, looking at the two brothers. He says they need to buy him some time. Kakarot and Raditz tell him they got it. But wait, he's gonna go up out in space alone? And Granola says he'll be fine. Technically, he hasn't really been confirmed to be able to breathe in space or not, but he did have that one fight on that asteroid before, so I'm gonna go with that and say he can. He flies out into space, and one of the metal Cooler tries to stop him, but Kakarot and Raditz protect him. They tell Cooler his fight is with them, and he laughs. Their friend is smart for escaping. They're not gonna be so lucky. He'll let that Cerulean go, and he could probably find him later too. And Kakarot and Raditz go with this idea. Yeah, he's just retreating, but they're not. They're gonna stay here to fight. And Cooler's fine with this. He wants to kill them anyways. That's what's important right now. More clones of Metal Cooler pop up. Individually, they can't really contend against these Super Saiyan gods, but collectively, they're starting to push the two of them back. The brothers are still holding back some of their power, but they realize they're gonna have to possibly use a little bit more. Thankfully though, they have just the thing for this. Wires shoot up from the planet below, trying to drag the two brothers down and use them as batteries. A swarm of Metal Coolers flies toward them as well. Kakarot looks over at his brother. It's now or never, and Raditz agrees. They'll use their full power. The aura of a Super Saiyan god encapsulates them, but the aura starts morphing, becoming a bluish-greenish color. Kakarot's hair grows out, with his eyes slightly morphing too, and as for Raditz, his hair becomes less like hair and more like fire. A bluish-green flame. They fully power up, and just from their auras alone, all the Metal Coolers around them right now are destroyed, and they fully unleash their strength. The entire planet collapses from this alone, and the two are left out in space. Two beacons of light that Granola can see from far away. This is the power of a Super Saiyan god, combined with their ultimate forms. Supreme God Kakarot and Infernal God Raditz. But the fight's not over yet. An army of Coolers comes from other planets too, and they're more than ready. They barrel through the entire army of them, jumping around from planet to planet, fighting the waves of them as they come along. This is amazing. They're having a ton of fun doing this too. It's a great test for their power, and such a thrilling battle too. They never thought they'd be able to fight this many people at once. It's awesome. They go to one of the nearby planets, the largest one in the system, trying to coax all the Metal Coolers to get as far away from Granola as possible. Granola flies out into space, getting closer and closer to that satellite. But as he gets closer, he sees it's not what he thought he was. He assumed it was a moon, being taken over by the big Gete star, kind of like those planets. But no, this is a purely artificial mass. It's just a giant body of metal. And as he gets closer, he sees something illuminating from the other side. It's where the weak point is. He could feel it. Wires start shooting out of the body of metal, and he's barely able to dodge it. But then he sees the other side of it, and he has no clue of what he's looking at. It's a face. He sees two eyes on this massive moon, and it turns towards the planet where Kakarot and Raditz are.
They see an ominous red glow in the sky, and then they hear someone talking with them telepathically. It's Granola. He tells them to jump off the planet, now. As they look closer at the glow, they can kind of make out what looks like Cooler's face. A massive laser is launched down to the planet, with the two brothers barely being able to dodge. They jump out of either side of the laser, trying to fly around it, converging at that moon where they find Granola. So this is the source of all that. But they realize too, if they're going to defeat Cooler, they're going to need to get rid of his materials too. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like any of these planets are inhabited. Their best idea is to just destroy all those planets nearby. The two start launching blasts, powerful ones that have no key control behind them, just to destroy the planets. And that giant moon starts to morph, turning into a giant metal cooler. The scale of it is insane, but Granola can clearly see where the weak point is. He can find the chip, the AI that's directing it all. It's within the head, the same spot where they see an actual piece of Cooler, one of his eyes, part of his face. If they can aim for that and destroy it, maybe they can get rid of this menace. That's where the core is. The brothers try and use their power once more, glowing brilliantly out in space. More metal coolers are spawned from the giant one, and they look at Granola. He tells them not to worry about him. He'll be able to keep up. He's coated by a fiery aura too, tapping into all his godly power. He's still aiming for a form of his own, but for now, he can at least utilize the godly power with his double red-eyed form. The three all launch up, avoiding the waves of metal coolers on the way. Tearing through them, the massive eyes launch more lasers down at them, with the trio being barely able to dodge it. Granola goes in front of them, directing them towards where the weak point is. He tells them they probably only have one shot at this, summon all their power, coalesce it into one point. The three of them all start charging ki in their fists. This is their only chance at this. Granola looks back at them, seeing if they're ready, and they nod. He charges up and then flies right upwards, sticking a fist out coated in ki. The two brothers follow behind in the line, with the two then appearing on each side of Granola. They rapidly rush towards the head, with their three fists right next to each other. More coolers start to try and swarm them, but before they can get close, they get disintegrated, and they make their way up to the top. Their fists connect all at once, penetrating right through the head. Granola guides them too, as they head right into the core. They find themselves in a massive open area, only illuminated by their ki. It's inside the head, but they see right in the middle, the core. With one last charge, they burst right through it, coming out of the other side of the head too. And quickly, they turn around, trying to all launch a massive blast at once. The giant cooler lets out a metallic shriek, deafened by the vacuum of space. It starts collapsing, and the three of them use all their energy for that attack, but they're going to need a little bit more energy, just to escape. Raditz tells them fly, now. He launches off in the opposite direction, with the other two following him, and the giant mass starts collapsing. Massive rays of energy are shot out from it, as the core explodes. Thankfully, they're able to safely escape and defeat Metal Cooler, but now they're a bit annoyed. They were so close to Turles, and they used all their energy to fight Cooler. Well, at least it was a good way to test out their power, but it seems they're going to need to heal up once more. Damn it, that would have been perfect. Whis then appears nearby. He was watching the entire time, and realized that they're going to need a ride back. Maybe this time they won't turn down his transportation. Yeah, they should have just listened to him. Whis grabs them, taking them back to Beerus' planet where they could be restored. And thankfully, this bought Turles just enough time. His army begins finishing the project. After all this time, it's finally complete. Turles didn't even know what exactly just happened now, but he sensed a battle out in space, and he definitely felt Raditz and Kakarot's energy too. They might be making their move soon, and this is perfect timing. He now has a new power of his own, a way that he's going to be able to defeat them. One of the scientists from his army hands him a fruit. It looks strange, different from the other ones. It's pinkish in color. It was grown from a seed taken from a nearby star, and it was planted within that piece of Majin Buu, absorbing all the power from that. They're able to genetically engineer this, a fruit not only with the power from a star, but from Majin Buu. It kinda looks disgusting, but Turles doesn't care. He takes a bite out of it, and he feels a sensation he's never felt before. This is unlike anything he's had. His eyes widen. The power of Majin Buu consumes him. He feels magic coursing through him, a new type of energy. Instead of using Majin Buu's power as a weapon, he decided, why not use Majin Buu's power for himself? Infuse it within him, and this was his master plan. Now begins the birth of Majin Turles. After gaining this brand new power, Turles' conquest continues. He's waiting for them. He can't sense their energy anymore. He doesn't know where they've gone, but he just assumes they're in hiding somehow. And even when he tries to use high-powered scouters to try and scout everything across the universe, he can't sense Kakarot or his friends. But one day, someone attacks the Neo Crusher Core. On one of their planets, a spaceship lands. Soldiers immediately surround it, but for some reason they just all fall to the ground, seeming like they had their life drained out of them. An old, decrepit goat man steps off the ship. This place will have just enough power for him, especially that one person he sensed, Turles. If he could steal Turles' power, surely he'll be unstoppable. This is Moro, the Planet Eater, the original Planet Eater before Turles. When he gets word of an intruder, Turles and Broly head down. Seeing this man standing there, Turles and Moro's eyes connect, and Moro wastes no time. He lifts a hand up. A plume of lava shoots out of the ground. A perfect distraction as Moro jumps through it, then grabbing onto Turles. He holds Turles up, but Turles kicks him in the stomach, knocking Moro back. And it's strange. Moro should have been able to steal his energy just now, but he couldn't.
He grabs a nearby soldier, telekinetically pulling the soldier towards him as he drains the energy out of him. And Turles can see and sense all this happening. Wait, is this another magic user? And Moro confirms he's the greatest magician of them all. And Turles laughs. He's not so sure about that, but this is interesting. Imagine if he took this guy's power somehow. Broly gets ready to attack too, but Turles says he's gonna need to sit this one out. Turles can already tell. This guy could steal people's energy, and Turles tells Moro that's his job. All these planets under his conquest, all these places that he's been to, that energy belongs to him. The two clash, and Moro's absorption still doesn't work against Turles. And Turles lets Moro in a little secret. That little technique of his probably would have been helpful, but little does Moro know, he has the power of Majin Buu inside of him, all that magic. And he could feel Moro trying to steal his power, but he was able to resist it. Majin Buu? And Moro could feel that power in him. Part of that power of the Grand Supreme Kai as well. He doesn't even have time to question what's happening, since he's pretty much no match for Turles, even in his base form. Without being able to take any energy, Moro can't grow any stronger, and he's defeated right away. Turles would have loved to take his power, but he's not so sure how to yet. From having the abilities of Majin Buu, he could feel that he could absorb people, but he's just not sure how to utilize his powers yet. He has them within him, he just doesn't know how to access it. Had Moro arrived a few weeks later, maybe Turles would have a hang of it. But he couldn't just have this guy waiting around, absorbing all his soldiers while he tries to learn this technique. Another ship lands nearby. The soldiers get ready to attack it, but they see the insignia on the side. It's the Galactic Patrol, and just one person steps off. And Turles chuckles. Does the Galactic Patrol think they could stop the Neo Crusher Corps, especially with just one person? But the man speaks. He was just here to find Moro. But it seems Turles has already solved that issue. But Maris also has a second motive of being here. It's good that Moro's gone, because now the others won't have to worry about him. He's acting kind of as a beacon for Whis. And as he waits there, a pillar of light appears nearby. Whis enters in with Kakarot, Raditz, and Granola. Also, Beerus is there too, just because he kind of wanted to watch the fight firsthand. Whis covertly thanks Maris for keeping Turles in one spot, and Turles has no clue what's going on. But Beerus introduces himself. He's the god of destruction of this universe, and these are his students. Or Whis' students, for that matter. He's heard this guy's been causing a lot of trouble for them, and now they're gonna have their final encounter. And Turles thinks this is pretty humorous. He's heard of the god of destruction, but if anything, he's the new god of destruction here. Beerus doesn't take too kindly to this. All that power's getting to his head, making him too cocky. Normally he'd erase someone on the spot for saying something that bold, but he has to leave Turles for these three. He does have a wager with Turles though. Beat these Saiyans, then beat him, and maybe Turles could be considered a god of destruction by then. The group's surprised to hear this, but Whis says he's just trying to rile Turles up. The fight is necessary for the brothers, and acts as a test for the three. Beerus wants nothing held back for them, so he wants to make Turles go in as strong as possible, using his full strength. Turles then turns to the others, smiling. He's glad to finally see them again. Kakarot, his old partner. Raditz, that weakling that escaped a while ago. And this Cerealian who he doesn't really know. Seems they have a new friend, but he tells them it's hopeless. They won't be able to contend with him for now. And Kakarot simply says Turles is pathetic. He keeps relying on all these other ways to get power. He's not even himself anymore. He's been spending all his time consuming power from stars and planets, but little has he realized that power has consumed him. It's not the other way around. Sure, he and Raditz took some shortcuts with their godly ki, and Raditz had to eat that fruit during their last battle, but it was out of necessity. They've gained their strength through their own ways, through hard work. They've obtained it rightfully, and they know how to utilize it properly. Turles doesn't care. As long as he reigns supreme, it doesn't matter how he gains the power, it's just a means to an end, and that end justifies the means. They don't realize how strong he's grown, both in power and influence, and he wonders, how would have things been if he and Kakarot actually stuck together? Well, he knows Kakarot probably would have made a move against him, but if they actually remained as colleagues, the Crusher duo. It doesn't matter now though, he already has a new partner. He calls on Broly, glad to finally formally introduce him to the others. This is Broly, his newest partner and his strongest soldier. A Saiyan stronger than anyone else could imagine. Well, stronger than anyone besides Turles, of course. And Turles reaches on his back. There's a pouch there, and he pulls something out. It's a fruit, one from one of the nearby stars. He tosses it to Broly. He's been waiting for Broly to try this, and now is the perfect opportunity. He trusts Broly could handle it, especially with Turles' new power. Broly holds the fruit, looking down, a little bit nervous. And Turles then sticks a hand out at him, coating him in some weird shield. In case that fruit doesn't take effect right away, this will allow him to survive out in space. He knows they're going to take the battle there immediately. And Beerus turns back to the group. Remember what he said before. If they don't win this, he may as well take Turles as his new rival. And Kakarot chuckles. That's not going to happen. The five all ascend up, with Whis and Beerus following nearby, acting as spectators. The group can immediately tell though, something's weird about that Broly guy. Not just his power, just his demeanor. He doesn't act like any of them have in the past, at least the Saiyans. He seems so different. Turles turns to Broly, commanding him, eat the fruit now. And Broly doesn't really want to. He doesn't know how it's going to affect him, but he doesn't really have a choice here. Reluctantly, he takes a bite of the fruit. His eyes widen, his power soars, far beyond where it was before. A red aura encapsulates him, but that aura, it shifts to a greenish color. He screams as he powers up, growing massively in size. The group can't believe it. What is this strength? This can't just be from the fruit alone. Broly has unleashed his full power, and then some, fueled by the fruits. And this leaves Broly in an easily corruptible state. Turles decides to test something out, trying to cast a spell on Broly, trying to possess him somehow. Broly is unrestrained, but with Turles' magic, he could restrain Broly, control him, get that power under his command. They have no clue what Turles is doing. They've never seen him try something like this. Broly launches him towards them, the first to fight. Wait, Turles isn't gonna get involved? He tells them there's no need. Broly will defeat them first. The group all powers up. Granola goes into his double red-eyed form, while the brothers go into Super Saiyan God. And this is what happened before. Turles can tell now. This is why he sensed them briefly and their powers disappeared. It was this form. For some reason, he can't feel the energy from it. And Broly's strength is immeasurable. But with 3 of them fighting him at once, they feel they have a shot at victory here. They have excellent control over their godly powers too. And even though Broly's being controlled by Turles, he's still a little bit of a loose cannon. He has a specific target in mind, but he's fighting sloppily. This is one of his first true battles, the first time he's unleashing his full power as well, not to mention the power of the fruit of the Tree of Might. It's only natural that he won't be able to handle it immediately. Turles watches on, confident. He had a feeling that Broly probably wouldn't be able to defeat them. It doesn't really matter though. He already has a backup plan. As the fight goes on, he starts trying to morph himself, trying to practice with Buu's power. He's only had a little bit of practice with this before, and he was hoping he'd have a little bit more time. And then he sees, he's able to do it. His hand, it turns to goo. He's able to stretch it out, make it to whatever shape he wants. He partially was using Broly first as basically an appetizer for them, but really, it's a way to buy him just a little bit more time with this power. As Broly continues fighting, he slowly is losing energy. It's just like what Raditz experienced before. The power of the fruit is too much to handle, even with a body like Broly's. His energy is depleting fast, although his full power form is still there, still strong. But they can actually see the energy leaking out of Broly. Besides just that green aura around him, there's a fiery aura. One that was pretty large before, but is shrinking with every second that passes. It's a flame burning out, and they could use it as an indicator to see how much power Broly has left. The 3 are able to defeat Broly, knocking him unconscious as he floats out there in space, with Turles surprised. Damn, he just needed a few more minutes. And surprisingly, they don't kill Broly immediately. Well, Kakarot decides not to, and Raditz is surprised. He asks why, but Kakarot says there's no point. It would be cowardly to kill him while he's in a state like this. And also, there's something strange about him. He was being controlled by Turles. He wonders if maybe he could be spared. It was very apparent that he didn't want to be there, and Raditz is surprised. The old Kakarot he knew probably would have just killed Broly on sight, but he's giving this other Saiyan a second chance. Although, Kakarot plays it off as him just not wanting to kill Broly while he's unconscious. Turles then flies up, grabbing Broly. It seems this is working in his favor, and he says they're gonna regret that. They have no clue what he means. What, regret not killing Broly? He's not gonna do anything. He's unconscious. And Turles says it's not because of that. He tries his hardest, trying to use all his power. As he holds Broly, his arm begins morphing, turning into a pink slime that wraps around Broly. Their jaws drop. What the hell is this? And Turles begins morphing, laughing. This is his true full power. This is what he's been working towards all this time. An ominous aura surrounds him as the pink slime surrounds Broly. There's a brilliant flash of light, and then they see Turles standing there. Broly's nowhere to be seen, but Turles looks completely different. With this form, he can summon all of his power and utilize Broly's for himself, having absorbed it. He looks at them triumphantly. This is the birth of true Majin Turles. The 3 fighters attack him all at once, using their godly powers, but their attacks are doing nothing against Turles. He just tanks them, standing there like he took nothing for damage. And Kakarot reiterates what he said before. He was speaking figuratively before, saying that the power consumed Turles, but he was more right than he thought. It actually has consumed him. This isn't even Turles anymore. Turles hits Kakarot with a powerful punch, then grabbing onto him. He loves to take Kakarot's power for himself. They know to not get close to him now, and they don't actually know it, but thankfully for them, Turles can't really use his power too easily, so hopefully they're safe from absorption. But it looks like now they can't hold anything back. Raditz and Kakarot power up, showing off their new strength, Infernal God Raditz and Supreme God Kakarot. And Turles' face twists into a grin. Yes, showcase their full power. This is going to be amazing. No matter what they do, they won't be able to defeat him. Granola tries locating any vital points he can find on Turles, and he can see some, but they keep shifting around, changing. And he notices something interesting too. One specific weak point that isn't changing. He wonders what'll happen if he strikes that, but he's gonna need a little bit more speed. He has Godly Ki, but he doesn't have the same godly powers that the other 2 have. If he doesn't awaken his power now, he's never going to, because they'll die here. The 3 all start fighting Turles, with Granola having a bit of a tough time keeping up. Kakarot launches in, being the first to clash with him. The shockwave from it destroys the nearby planet, with Turles not even caring that so many of his soldiers just died. Raditz dashes around behind Turles, hitting him from the other side. Turles turns around, looking at Raditz too. He tells him it's time to turn it up a notch. He launches upwards. turning into a brilliant streak of light as the three follow him. They start clashing all around the solar system. It's pretty barren, given the fact that Turles had actually destroyed most of these planets with their Tree of Might. And every time they clash, they destroy more of the solar system, causing the star to collapse too. They're moving at brilliant speeds, as Turles tries to fend the three of them off. And everything is shaking. Beerus and Whis watch on nearby. And Beerus is a bit nervous, and Whis asks why he looks so anxious all of a sudden. But Beerus says it's not because he thinks they're going to lose, it's because he thinks they're using too much power. They're going to destroy the universe at this rate. At one point, Kakarot's able to hit Turles with a full power blast, and disintegrates a part of him, but Turles is able to slowly regenerate from it. This comes as a surprise to them. Although it's not terrible, there's a weakness to this. His regeneration was so slow, he still doesn't have a full control on it. And Turles is amazed that he even has this regeneration. But there is another issue with it too. When he regenerates, he gets a Zenkai, feeling empowered from this attack. They need to destroy him all at once. They can't have any pieces of him left. That regeneration could be an issue. If he grows any stronger from it, that's what they need to watch out for. The battle starts speeding up. They dash around the galaxy, going out into the vacuum of space between galaxies too. Every time there's a clash between Turles and one of the three fighters, it creates a brilliant explosion, with everyone moving so quickly that it leaves streaks of light across the universe. Kakarot tells Raditz to buy him some time, and he acknowledges. He goes in close to Turles, fighting him one-on-one, with Granola jumping in too to assist him. Kakarot stands there, charging all the energy he can. He stretches his arms out, and in each hand he charges a ki blast. He slowly brings his arms together, condensing it, a godly kill driver. A brilliant ring of energy forms around him too as it condenses. He charges all his energy into it, and then launches it right at Turles. The attack is launched at immense speed, but just in the nick of time, Turles is able to get Raditz and Granola off him, launching his own blast right back at it. The attacks collide, exploding, and it's like everything shatters around them. Beerus and Whis are watching on. They see a portal generated from that. Oh crap. They might have just broken reality. The four fighters all find themselves somewhere weird, another dimension. Turles doesn't even question it. He launches right back in at them, clashing once again. Each time they exchange blows, the dimension shatters more around them. Turles hits Kakarot in the face with a punch. The dimension shatters. They see Beerus, and it looks like Kakarot, but he's wearing some different outfit, and he's in Super Saiyan God. The two of them are fighting. Before they even have time to question it, Raditz hits Turles again. Another shatter. They see Broly fighting some Saiyan with blue hair. Turles strikes Raditz in retaliation. Another shatter. And Turles can recognize Majin Buu? He looks different though. And he's fighting some Saiyan that has an outfit similar to Kakarot's, but not quite. Buu is screaming, breaking reality too. Granola strikes Turles. Kakarot tells him to stop a moment. They have no clue what's going on. They keep going through different realities. They see Kakarot with pink hair fighting Vegeta, of all people? They see some dragon-looking dude fighting a guy with red hair and a tail. A Saiyan, maybe? They don't know. Another clash. Once again, Kakarot, Raditz, and what looks like their father? This is getting too crazy for them. Then they see Turles in a different outfit, fighting a Turles that has a tail and fur and stuff? They need to focus on their fight, but at the same time they need to get back. Maybe if they just keep attacking, they'll break reality back to where it was before. Turles tackles Kakarot, and they go through multiple dimensions just from this alone. Raditz and Granola try to follow, but they can't. They weren't brought with those two. Turles and Kakarot are alone in their own universe. And there's a man floating out there in space near them. He turns around, shocked. It's Cooler? And is that Goku he's looking at? Why does he have that color hair? He's never seen that before. And that outfit. This is too much for them to handle. Back in that other dimension, Raditz and Granola are there alone. They try and clash with each other, seeing if they can break reality on their own. They didn't realize how strong they've gotten, but they try it and it works. The two of them are each sent to a different place. Raditz recognizes where he ends up. He's on Earth, it looks like. And Granola's there too, but he doesn't recognize the place, and he can't find Raditz anywhere. They inadvertently made things worse, separating each other in different dimensions. Raditz looks around, trying to sense anyone he can, and his power must have set off some alarms because immediately, somebody comes up nearby. It's Kakarot, and he greets Raditz. Surprised to see Raditz back in his Saiyan armor. Raditz has no clue what he's talking about. Are these realities each a place where things went differently? They've seen so many weird things. And then someone else flies up. Raditz can't believe what he's seeing. Is that him? Another Raditz lands nearby. He looks over at Kakarot, or who the main Raditz thinks is Kakarot. They might have another Vegeta Black on their hands. Meanwhile, in Granola's dimension, he's facing a similar predicament. He found Kakarot again, for some reason going by the name Goku, and then he sees himself in a completely different getup. Where the hell are they? What even is this? Kakarot and Turles are about to continue their fight, but that Cooler that was there with them, he decides he wants to join in too, deciding to help Kakarot. And Kakarot wasn't concerned about Cooler until he transformed, showing off some weird platinum-looking form. Is this Metal Cooler again? Apparently he's on Kakarot's side, so he's not really gonna question it. Beerus and Whis are still there in their main universe. Whis is looking through his staff. He can't find them. It's just like Beerus thought. They broke reality, but in a much different way than he expected. At least this universe is fine, but he wonders if they're gonna make it back. Turles looks at Kakarot and that alternate version of Cooler. His theory is that they became so powerful that they were breaking through dimensions. This isn't their universe. That's not the Cooler that they know. And Kakarot can actually kind of tell this. That ki doesn't feel like Cooler, and Cooler says the same thing. That ki doesn't feel like Goku's.
Kakarot has no clue of who Goku is, and he has no clue of how Cooler's alive when they just killed him. This kind of bumps Cooler out. They killed him in another universe? And here he was thinking they were all friends in every universe. How's Goku gonna do him like that? Well, he chalks it up to this being some multiversal thing, but it's much more than that. They're not just in a different universe, they're in a different dimension, a different continuity where events happen completely differently. And it's not just these two either. Cooler prepares to fight alongside Kakarot, an odd combo. This may not be Goku, but in his eyes, it's close enough. Let's go over to Raditz now. Or actually, the two Raditzes. Raditz is in a pretty weird continuity. Well, at least in his eyes. Here, Kakarot apparently hit his head as a kid, growing up on Earth and turning into some guy named Goku. Raditz eventually tried to retrieve him, and nearly died in a fight against his brother, but now lives here and is pretty close with Goku. To distinguish the two, our Raditz will simply be called Raditz, and the other one will be called Survivor Raditz, because that's the series he's from. From what Survivor Raditz understands, they were apparently fighting and broke through dimensions. They didn't even realize that was possible. And Goku has an idea. What if they're able to create a collision strong enough to have that happen again? It could propel Raditz through dimensions once more. The thing is, they were fighting out in space, not worried about destroying anything around them, which is why they accidentally broke stuff. Survivor Raditz and Goku never encountered this because most of their fights took place on planets that they weren't trying to blow up. So they had to exercise a lot of ki control for that. Well, Raditz tells him he gets the concept of that, but still. That's going to be an issue because if they need a collision strong enough to break dimensions again, won't that blow up this planet too? Not to mention, that other Raditz is going to have to be pretty strong, isn't he? Survivor Raditz laughs at this. He tells his alternate self, go on, show him what power he has. And Raditz goes into his infernal god form. That is absurd. They didn't realize a form like that existed. Raditz tries to explain it. It's a godly version of a form attained from the fruit of the Tree of Might grown on a star. Survivor, Raditz, and Goku have no idea of what that means. But it does sound pretty cool, so Survivor Raditz decides to show off his own power. So if this Raditz knows about godly ki and stuff, he must know Beerus, right? Well, of course, that's how he got this power. Survivor Raditz says he went down a very different path with Beerus, coded by purple flames, showcasing Ultra Ego. He says Goku has his own unique form too, but Ultra Ego should be more than enough to help you, and Raditz is amazed to see himself so strong in this other continuity. Well, that's expected from himself, and the two are ready to clash. It could be pretty fun. Meanwhile, Granola's facing a pretty similar predicament. He ended up on this planet, Earth, a place that he's heard about from Kakarot and Raditz. Apparently both he and Kakarot were sent here as a kid, because Kakarot's father of all people sent them here? This is all news to him. Monado never mentioned Bardock still, even after seeing Kakarot, and our Granola has no idea of how the other Granola ended up here, which we'll just refer to as Earth Granola because that's also the scenario he's from. They eventually come to the same conclusion as the two Raditzes. Try and recreate that clash. Expel enough energy to break dimensions and send Granola back to where he came from. That, or use the Dragon Balls. But they have no clue if they'll be powerful enough for that. But Granola has a weird issue. He feels like he doesn't have enough power to actually accomplish that. He's been lagging behind the others, and he wasn't the one to cause that dimensional break in the first place. And Earth Granola is surprised to hear this. Well, he should be pretty strong at least. I mean, he's training with godly ki and all. And surely by this point he has Super Cerulean. Super Cerulean? What? Earth Granola shows off this form. Our Granola had no idea he could even transform. This comes as a shock to Earth Granola and Goku. And Goku steps in. Don't the other Saiyans have Super Saiyan at least? Well, yeah, they do apparently, but they don't really use that form anymore. So that's strange. Granola never got a form for himself. And surely he doesn't have Ultra Instinct either. And that goes completely over his head. He doesn't know what that is either. So both Goku and Earth Granola show that off. And Granola looks on dumbfounded. He has multiple transformations, and it's something that, like, Whis has? He's completely lost, physically and mentally here. Earth Granola says his alternate self could obtain this power if he could after all. Obviously it's not going to happen quickly though. But maybe Granola and Goku can just clash together, and that'll be enough to send Granola back to where he belongs. Yeah, that could work, but Granola's kind of annoyed at his weakness. Seeing how strong he's grown in other timelines, and how strong everyone else is around him. Hell, even in this timeline, Kakarot's still strong, even though he went to Earth and like hit his head and forgot who he was and whatever. And apparently he and Kakarot are brothers in this universe too. Strange, but makes sense because they grew up together here apparently. But more so, Granola's focused on the fact that he feels weak now. Goku and Earth Granola begin their battle, and in another dimension, Ultra Ego Survivor Raditz faces Infernal God Raditz. Those two are at least having fun. Now let's go back to Kakarot. He and Cooler begin fighting together, and it's weird getting used to fighting alongside Cooler. His fighting style is so different. Not to mention, he has some like robot thing installed in him. The Big Gete Star he calls it. Holy crap, wait, that's the thing that they just blew up! Cooler says it sounds like he was a pretty bad guy in that other universe. And Kakarot says yeah, he was. I mean, he absorbed an entire solar system and tried to kill them with it. And you know what? Cooler respects that. That sounds pretty awesome. Although he assures Kakarot he's not going to do that here. And that's the weirdest part to Kakarot. The fact that Cooler's good here. The guy that died twice against him. The guy that literally came back from the dead just to try to kill them. Albeit unintentionally. And Cooler says he faced an evil version of his future self before. So this Cooler's actually the anomaly, the good one. All Coolers are supposed to be evil apparently. But this one vows to help Kakarot, no matter who he is, whether he's Goku, Kakarot, anything. That's one of his greatest rivals and allies, one of his closest friends, even if he's not from this timeline. And more importantly, they're facing some evil Saiyan. They need to eliminate this threat regardless. Turles is restrained by the powers of the big Gete star, with Cooler controlling all stuff around him, grabbing nearby asteroids and liquefying them, using it to hold Turles and preventing him from attacking. But Turles is able to break free, and he comments on this. So from what he's hearing, Kakarot's pretty pathetic in this universe. He's some good guy living on Earth, friends with Cooler of all people. And Cooler doesn't take too kindly to this. An insult against him and one of his friends. As this battle continues, they suddenly feel a rumble, which is weird because they're out in the vacuum of space. There's a massive explosion nearby. Someone broke reality again, and Kakarot can't believe it. It's Raditz. Raditz jumps through the portal, and behind it, Kakarot sees that there's another Raditz with purple hair. And then Kakarot's also there too, wearing like an orange outfit or whatever. Survivor Raditz and Goku look through the portal too. So that's how Goku turns out if he doesn't hit his head? Wow, weird. Survivor Raditz lights up a cigar and gives himself a thumbs up. Defeat that Turles bastard, whoever the hell he is. The portal then closes, and Raditz thanks himself. So Raditz found Kakarot, which is good, but Cooler's here for some reason. And Kakarot promises he's a good guy here, apparently. But now they need to find Granola. Where'd he go? And Cooler says there's no time to question that. Just fight this guy. And Turles actually agrees too. Obviously because he doesn't care who lives and dies. And now Turles is really losing ground. Not only is he fighting Kakarot, but he's fighting against Cooler and Raditz too. And this version of Cooler is really strong too. Turles has no frame of reference for the other Cooler, but his mind is blown. His Majin powers aren't able to keep up with this. And then he realizes something strange too. His Majin powers give him regenerative abilities, but he doesn't have a complete grasp on them. It's like when he tried to absorb Broly before. It was tough to get a control of. He's able to regenerate from minor injuries, but it actually takes a little bit of time to do so, and a good amount of stamina too. Had this battle happened a little later, maybe he would have had a full grasp on it. But he's not going to give up, obviously. But once more, they feel that same rumbling. Another crack nearby. Kakarot and Raditz are elated. That must be Granola. They see a blur of light fly through the portal. And behind it, they see Kakarot wearing that same orange outfit again, with Granola wearing a different outfit too, both of whom have white hair now. That alternate version of Kakarot and Granola have a confused look on their face, but that Earth version of Granola smiles, and then the portal closes. Kakarot and Raditz look around, and eventually they do see him. Granola's there, but he looks different from before. Both of his eyes are red like normal, and he's surrounded by an intense godly aura. But notably, his hair's a different color. It's an orangish color. With help from his alternate self, and tapping into his anger, he was able to summon some of his latent power, finally awakening a new form that'll help him in this battle. He's still not on Kakarot and Raditz's level. This is his first time unlocking a new form after all too, but it's a good stepping stone, and they're glad to see him powered up now. Although he's not too happy to see Cooler. Cooler really hates how he's being judged by everybody. He tells him just focus on that evil dude. And Granola says not only is he stronger, but he knows exactly how to defeat Turles now. He tried to do this before, but didn't have the power or speed to do so. He tells the others to hold Turles off for him, and they do exactly that. Cooler tries to restrain him again, while Kakarot and Raditz, they try and use their powers to hold him in place, binding him with their ki. Turles desperately tries to break free as Granola charges up. Granola then vanishes, appearing right in front of Turles, striking him right in a vital point. The power of this does two things. One, it breaks dimensions again, hopefully it sends them back home. And two, the strike removes Broly from Turles, freeing him from the absorption. As the four of them are all sucked into the portal, Kakarot looks back at Cooler and laughs, thanking him for helping in the fight. Wondering if he'll ever see that Cooler again. The portal closes and Cooler's left there just dumbfounded. He never even realized that was possible, but he powers down and smiles. Good luck, Goku, Kakarot, whoever he is. And now we follow the four fighters back to where they came from. They're back in their main dimension, actually. Beerus and Whis are still standing there, and Beerus' jaw drops. They're back! He can't believe it! And Kakarot looks over, asking if that's really them, and Beerus says they're in the right place. What the hell happened? And is Granola in a new form? He watches as Granola and Raditz hold off Turles, with Broly floating there unconscious. Well, they'll explain later, but he asks Beerus and Whis, get that Broly guy out of here. He's gonna die in the vacuum of space. Kakarot has something in mind for him later. Turles is fuming. He's losing now. He doesn't have Broly's power anymore. He can't regenerate himself as efficiently as he thought, and these three fighters are overwhelming him. One even grew stronger. His rage is fueling him. His ki burns even more intense than before. An aura swirls around his fist as he charges a powerful attack. He could still win here. He knows it. First, that's Cerealia. He tries with all his might to liquefy himself again, surprisingly able to stretch an arm out, wrapping it around Raditz and flinging her away. And as ki charges up in the other fist, he launches towards Granola, hitting him square in the face, transferring all the energy through that punch, knocking him completely unconscious. And Granola is sent barreling into a nearby planet. And as Kakarot rushes back over, Turles starts facing Raditz. He tries again to stretch his arm out, trying to wrap it around Raditz. Maybe he could absorb him. But as Kakarot flies in, he launches a blast to slice Turles' arm off, freeing Raditz from that. And Turles desperately tries to regenerate their arm, while he tries to fend off the two brothers with one arm. And then ends up working. His arm regenerates, and he does so in a way so it launches towards Raditz, regenerating as he lunges it forward to punch him square in the face too. Raditz is bloodied and beaten, but he's not going to give it up. Everyone's running out of energy. And it took a lot out of Raditz trying to break dimensions on his own, fighting with that ultra ego version of himself. It was worth it because it got him back here, but at the same time, he was a little bit injured from it, and worn out. And that gives Turles an opening to knock Raditz out too, as he plunges towards the planet below. But Kakarot's able to land a blow on Turles, with Turles striking at the same time. The clash of the two knocks each of them back, as they weakly rush towards each other once more. Kakarot delivers a punch, and Turles tries to catch it, wrestling with him, with Turles then delivering a powerful gut punch. He got Kakarot good, but Kakarot then knees him in the stomach, and Kakarot wraps his arms around Turles, barreling down towards that nearby planet where Granola and Raditz were. He flings Turles down to the ground, generating a massive crater. Kakarot levitates there, breathing heavily, and he rockets downwards once more. Turles tries to stand up in the crater, defending against Kakarot as he barrels down towards him. The two are now brawling. No ki blast, just a melee battle. Turles even de-transforms, going into his normal evil Saiyan form. Kakarot de-transforms. He's gone with this too. And Turles chuckles. This brings him back. The two have a fist fight, beating each other down even more and more. Both can barely stand, bloodied and beaten. Turles coughs up blood, trying to prop himself up again. He weakly smiles and chuckles. Kakarot drops into his base form. Turles does too. Turles tells them, it's time they finish this. Kakarot smiles, and the two weakly run towards each other, cocking their fists back, ready to attack each other. But at the very last moment, Kakarot feels a burst of energy. His hair grows out once more, that evil Saiyan aura reappears. And Turles sees, not too far away behind Kakarot, there's a bloodied and beaten Raditz standing up, who just launched a ball of his energy towards Kakarot, lending his brother the last of his power. Raditz wishes Kakarot good luck as he falls to the ground. Unconscious once more, Kakarot lands the final strike, an uppercut right to Turles' gut, and with the last of his power, he launches a ki blast through it too, tearing a hole through Turles. Turles' eyes widen. He looks down, shaking as he falls to the ground, but also weakly smiling once more. Kakarot powers down again, and the two collapse to the ground. Kakarot weakly tries to prop himself up, crawling over towards Turles. Turles is desperately trying to regenerate himself, but he can't. He's too weakened. He has no control over the regeneration to do so either. But Turles looks over at Kakarot. After this long, they finally did it. They finally had an all-out battle, and they finally settled the score. He tells Kakarot, surprisingly, he's actually pretty proud of him. A low-class warrior, coming this far. Turles hates to admit it, but Kakarot sought out power purely through effort after they parted ways, and still managed to grow powerful without the same shortcuts that Turles took. The Crusher duo could have been so strong if they stuck together, but each of them chose this path. Turles made his own bed, and he'll lie in it. Kakarot lifts himself up, standing but barely able to keep himself upright, as he looks down at Turles. He doesn't even know what to say here, but Turles tells Kakarot he accepts his fate. This is a warrior's death. He went out doing what he loved, fighting an opponent that was made to battle him like this. They were destined to meet, destined to have this battle, and this outcome was destined. And Kakarot watches as Turles struggles to regenerate that area that was blown out of him. Turles tells Kakarot he's truly changed. He resents him, but he says they're both prime examples of the Saiyan race regardless. With a smile on his face, Turles tells Kakarot well done, telling him to carry that pride with him. And slowly, his eyes shut, and Turles dies with that same smile on his face. Kakarot looks down, feeling conflicted about the whole thing. They did it. They finally won. He can't even believe it. He falls backwards sitting down, and he just sits there, next to Turles' lifeless body. He hears nothing but wind. There's dead silence, but he hears the ground crunching nearby. Raditz, barely able to stand, is walking over, and his eyes widen. He did it! Kakarot tells Raditz, it's weird. After this encounter with Turles, it makes him reminisce. It's not like he regrets not being in the Crusher duo. It just makes him realize all the alliances he started and lost. He's glad to have held on to this one with Raditz at least, and glad to be here with him, but at the same time, it makes Kakarot realize what little he has left. They were working towards this goal of power, and this goal of defeating Turles. But what now? Where do they go from here? Someone else walks over. It's Granola. And he smiles. He's glad to have found them, and even happier to see that Turles is defeated. Beerus and Whis land nearby, with an unconscious Broly, and Beerus immediately starts berating them. They're lucky they didn't destroy anything. But at the same time, he congratulates them. Well done. That was actually a pretty fun fight to watch. But Granola and Raditz are surprised that Broly's still there, and Kakarot says there was no point in killing him. It's like he said before. And who knows, maybe he could be another rival, a successor to Turles, but someone who isn't like Turles. They don't know yet. It might be risky, but Kakarot thinks it'll be worth it. They prepare to leave, and Kakarot looks over at Turles one last time. He has a smile. He died doing what he liked, even if it was obviously bad. He had a purpose in life, and he fulfilled it. And Kakarot laments. What are his goals now? Will he be able to find that same sort of solace that Turles found? And as they leave, Raditz looks to Beerus and asks about that power that he saw. Apparently another version of him had purple hair with some form called Ultra Ego. He's never heard of the name, but it sounded like a destroyer's power. Yeah, and then Granola mentions too, an ultimate version of him had Ultra Instinct. Okay, that name Beerus actually does know of. But he had Ultra Instinct? Granola? And Kakarot did too? Beerus gulps. He didn't realize Granola had that in him. Same for Kakarot. Not to mention Raditz apparently having his own power? The power of a destroyer? Interesting. He'll definitely keep that in mind. And now everybody actually does have new goals. Broly ends up on Beerus' planet too. He's hostile at first, but they could tell. He's a strong Saiyan, and it would be a waste to just kill him like that. And he was obviously only with Turles because he didn't really have another choice. But Kakarot really wants to see what he's made of. A fellow Saiyan like that. Someone who even Beerus is interested in due to his power. But now everyone's in a new chapter of their lives. Granola wants to aim for that Ultra Instinct thing.
Raditz wants alter ego. Broly wants to, well, just fit in here in general. And as for Kakarot, he surprisingly leaves Beerus' planet for a bit, going to Earth to seek answers. He knows exactly who to talk to, his old friend, Tenshinhan. The Crane School guided him to where he was, and he found his own answers, so maybe if Kakarot consults him, he'll find something for himself. Look at him. He has friends, he's respected, he's found a purpose in life, and he feels content with himself ideologically. Kakarot can't really say he has any of those, besides the friends part. And when he arrives to Earth, Ten's glad to see him again, but he's wearing a completely new outfit, similar to the one that Krillin and Yamcha had. It's orange. While Kakarot was gone, they started a new martial arts school, the Neo-Turtle School, led by him, with Roshi providing guidance. And Krillin, Chaozu, and Yamcha also being teachers too. Those other humans come over as well, wondering why Kakarot's back, and he tells them everything, and they can barely wrap their minds around it. Kakarot remembers back to when he was in the Crane School. It was a bad influence on him, but he still felt like he belonged there. He had a purpose. Training with gods is great, but maybe he'll belong here, just like he did before. His past conquests are over. His search for power can continue, but he really got it to defeat Turles, so where does he go for now? Seeking that power would still be fun, but maybe he needs to seek something else. Those other two Kakarots he saw through those other dimensions, they seemed content somehow. Granted, he only saw them for a few seconds, but still. And Ten smiles hearing this, welcoming Kakarot back. He knows exactly how to help. It's kinda overwhelming though, a godly being like him being here on Earth. But here on Earth, there's more to training than just raw strength, and Ten's excited. Kakarot no longer is gonna go down that bad path that he saw as a kid. He's clearly going down a better path now. He's definitely changed. Sure, he still is the same crass, battle-crazy Saiyan that he was before, but more nuanced. Earth really did mold him in a way, and Ten says he should join the Neo-Turtle School. It really could help. And you know what? Kakarot thinks that actually might be a good idea. He did plan on staying here for a bit, but he didn't even realize this is how much everything's changed. Ten might actually be his master now. But first, he's gonna need a new outfit. Those Crane School clothes are outdated, and Kakarot's definitely not gonna wear Saiyan armor anytime soon. Kakarot takes some time to change, and walks out in a new outfit. Krillin compliments him, saying the outfit suits him. It's almost like it was made for him in a way, and Ten agrees. He could barely recognize Kakarot, but at the same time, he feels like this is how he should see Kakarot. And Kakarot looks at himself in a mirror nearby. He smiles. He feels comforted for once. He barely recognizes himself, but for some reason, this looks right, and he's more than ready for whatever life brings him next. And here, we end the story. What did you guys think about this part and the story as a whole? I know it's been a long one and a crazy one, so thank you for sticking through it with me. If you like this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe, especially if you want to see more like this. Anyways, thanks for watching, thanks for supporting the scenario, and I'll see you all in my next video.